LEC Summer Finals. After an epic journey, we have arrived at the birthplace of the Olympics, where Schalke, Fnatic, and G2 Esports will fight for the LEC title. And they're not alone. As you can see, thousands of fans have gathered here to watch the best League of Legends Europe and possibly the world has to offer. Hello everyone, I'm Shox, joined here by a star-filled lineup in ready check. Deficio and Frost.
What up, Deficio?
I'm actually very happy this is the desk because we just got to do Fnatic G2 last week and that was absolutely insane. I won another 5 games.
Are you excited to be in this venue? You know, it's always the thing we look out for the most, the teams do, but we as well, to celebrate the end of the split with all the fans in the arena.
I think it's always a lot of fun. I think also the fact we can do some activations, you know, some booths. Or fan meet walls, we can also call it, where you get to meet all the fans before.
Make some noise if you took a picture with Deficio.
They all did.
They all did? Everyone took a picture
I can see all the faces, I definitely know
You all
of them.
recognize them?
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. Well, how did we get here? Last week, as you mentioned already, Schalke, they earned themselves a spot here in Athens. It was a very dramatic series versus Rogue in round 2 of the playoffs, and even though the fan favorites were Rogue, I think it's fair to say it was Schalke that came out on top.
And I think it's about reminding fans about the consistency and kind of the fundamental bread and butter League of Legends that Schalke played that got them to this point. They took down Vitality, they took down Rogue. Yeah, they weren't the cleanest of series. Some people thought that Schalke looked a little bit shaky, but special shoutouts to Odawamne. When you talk about Schalke, he's usually the last name that will come out of your mouth. Picked up his first career pentakill. He's been playing for, what, 4 years now? So it's been quite a while, so huge props to Schalke to even make it to this point.
On top of that, there's only been 2 pentakills by top laners in Europe in the LEC. The other one was Expect, so that's another thing that Odo can be proud of.
Okay, yeah, of course. I mean, the fact he actually got to play big team fighting top laners and he got to join the team fights and not just get camped in his lane, I think that was a good change.
Yeah, fantastic for him. Schalke moving on in the other dramatic series we saw last week, Fnatic versus G2. We were looking forward to it, and man, did it deliver. The Kings match between numbers 1 and 2 of the regular season. It was finger-licking good.
It was amazing to watch. I'm not gonna lie, when Fnatic was up 2-0, we got a bit scared because all the hype coming into the series was around G2 and, you know, could they 3-0 this one? Will they already win the World Championship? But the fact that Fnatic actually showed up with these like global comps in the start, shut down G2 hard and almost won game 3, that's what made the series so epic to me.
And it's now kind of about the 2 different lenses that you look at through that series. Did we see Fnatic break? Did G2 kind of put them in the mental dumpster, if you will? Are Schalke now looking at kind of the weakest form of Fnatic? Or, on the other side, did you just see Fnatic take the best team in the world to 5 games and Schalke are nothing more but a speed bump on their way to the finals for a rematch against G2?
And that is the absolute beauty of today, because both of these teams have worked so hard to get to this stage, and there's so much at stake, as well as all the mental ability that goes into it. And will Fnatic be able to bounce back? And Schalke also have in the back of their heads, is this our best chance still to beat Fnatic and to make it to Worlds or possibly hoist a trophy? And when you're playing in an arena like this, that all gets amplified once you sit down on stage.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely look at some of Fnatic players and say they've been here before. You know, Regulus has played in all the big arenas around the world. He's been in some of the biggest games you can possibly be in. So I'm not scared of someone like him. But there are some younger players, right? You know, like Nemesis still in the mid lane, Abadaka on the side of Schalke, still kind of unproven on the big stage.
We'll dive a little bit deeper into the specific matchups later. I do also want to touch on some of the awards that we have given out, as we always do at the end of the split. One of them for a man who will be very stressed tomorrow. That is Grabs, the coach of the split for G2 Esports, a man who's been through a lot with the team. So I think it's nice that he's won this award this time around.
Yeah, he's been through all of it with them. He was with G2 when they weren't on top of the world. He's had to live through the Garen top days. He's had to live through a lot of crazy different picks, the Pyke top at the MSI international stage. So, you know, credit to Grabs. He's now standing on top of the world, but it wasn't always easy. And he's been around for the entire journey.
We can't forget he was also there last year when it wasn't all hunky-dory for G2 Esports. You know, they had that fantastic run at Worlds, but, you know, they were dealing with a lot in 2018, and he was still behind them.
I mean, they almost didn't even make Worlds, you know? They had to bounce back in the gauntlet or ended up looking very good and then go all the way to a top 4 finish.
Reminds me of another team.
Hey, it could happen, hopefully. You know, I think also credit to Grabs here. Like, he's the most blamed coach I've ever seen. Like, even when the team is winning every game, they find a way to blame him, and that's very impressive.
They never stop flaming him. That's true. So Grabs, you definitely deserve it. Congratulations. Another award that was dealt out was the Rookie of the Split. This time around, inspired the jungler for Team Rogue. Well, that whole Rogue team, or a lot of those players, as well as other rookies in the league, have impressed us, but he snagged away the award.
Yeah, just to take the words out of Finn's mouth, the future of the LEC is in a team like Rogue, and it does start with Inspired. And I don't know what it is about Polish junglers. We had Self-Made in spring, you have Inspired now in summer that are taking these rookies of the splits, and you have Big Daddy Yanko's kind of standing on top of it all. Poland, you make amazing junglers, and Inspired, it's kind of just the next leg of that chapter.
It's true, and I think also it's very important to highlight this was not an easy award to win. You know, we've had times in the past where it's been like 2 or 3 rookies and there was barely anyone you could vote for. Here there was a ton of new players coming in to the Summer Split, a lot of competition with a lot of teams, giving a lot of rookies the chances here to perform. And I think Inspired really doing this split became so important to actually get Rogue past the early game so they could start playing the game.
And also very positive is that indeed we had so many successful rookies once again, which only bodes well for the future of Europe. We won't be seeing Rogue at Worlds, but there are other teams fighting for that World spot as well as the LEC title this weekend. But when it comes to the bracket for the regional qualifier, we've already filled in a couple of teams, as you see there. The first best of 5 OG versus Splice is set in stone, and then Schalke 04 can start in that second round. Deficio, talk us through your expectations for the GOG.
Yeah, Deficio, what's happening there?
I mean, we're getting ready, you know, we had another week to practice. The other team had to play quarterfinal, that was obviously useless, so I think
the long con.
The fact we got, you know, an extra week there can really help us, but I think looking at the bracket, if it is Schalke in that second spot, I said this last week, I look at the 3 teams, actually being very, very even. Obviously, if you look at regular season in summer, Splice would be the better team, but we saw very quickly in the playoffs that that's not necessarily the case, so I'm actually really looking forward to playing both teams. I think it's going to be a very close series, both of them. And I'm not just saying that as a PR thing. I actually think these 3 teams are very close to each other.
Close to each other? One of these teams didn't make playoffs. The other 2 did.
One team needed another week to prepare, and they got it.
But we'll see
and now you'll see next week why.
I hope so.
We'll see how everything plays out. Of course, the winner of the Summer Split here tomorrow will be the first seed. G2 Esports is already locked in Worlds, but they could, if they lose the final, still fall down to that 2nd seed or 3rd seed, because that is decided in the last round of the regional qualifiers. And for Fnatic fans, if Fnatic wins today, they are in Worlds, and if G2 win tomorrow, even if Fnatic isn't in that final, Fnatic still goes to Worlds, and Schalke, as we saw, already secured themselves at least a place in that second round of the gauntlet, so they need to win 1 best of 5 to get there. It's a lot of information. The regional qualifiers next week, of course, we will talk you through everything you need to know, but yeah, it's getting to crunch time. Always when you get in this arena, you know, in summer, it's almost over for 7 of the teams that you followed for an entire year.
It's true, and you kind of forget about the regional qualifier. Just today, when we were doing the fan meet, a lot of people came up and said, hey, it's okay for this season, next year will be better. And we're like, well, hang on, we still have a chance. There's the tournament next week. You know, people kind of forget about this, but it is such an important one, and it can still change your entire season.
That is true. We'll be looking forward to the teams fighting on the Rift and wondering what they will be picking across the next 2 days. But one champion that could be important this weekend is the Magical Cat and her special friend from the Masia.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Medi Show, where we prepare our Medi intros. How you feeling, Medi?
I feel pretty Medi today, Medi. How are you feeling, Medi?
I'm feeling pretty Medi. Isn't that great? Now, today, we're going to be thinking about Medi intros. So, Medi, what have you got for us?
I've got nothing.
He's got nothing. Good thing I came prepared. Today, we're going to be doing some Garen Yuumi cosplay. I've got these prepared, just like so. So, why don't you put that on?
Put it on?
You heard me, Medi. How do you feel?
It feels weird.
I'm sure it does. Now, we're going to go get ready for our Medi intro. In the meantime, we're going to hand it over to Ender. Ender, how you feeling, buddy? Ender!
Just give me this. Yep. Well then, now that we got that out of the way, I figured let's actually break down Garen and Yuumi because it's been picking up a lot of popularity here in the LEC, and we're probably going to see it picked or at least banned here this weekend. Garen and Yuumi fit each other super well in terms of just enabling each other. Yuumi lets Garen access his targets, which for a relatively low mobility juggernaut is certainly a weakness of him, and Garen is a big tanky death ball that can get Yuumi into range so she can layer down poke in the mid to late game. So let's talk about early laning phase and how to make that work. Basically, with Garen, you're going to want to pick up Relic Shield, and Yuumi should go for Spell Thief's Edge. And the way this works is you basically funnel a ton of gold into Yuumi because she's actually the carry. Through the Relic Shield gold that Garen is going to be sharing with her, as well as the Spell Thief's procs that she's just going to be making bank on off of her poke in lane, she is going to be one rich kitty, which makes her do much more damage than a traditional Yuumi pick would if she were next to, say, a traditional marksman inside of lane. Now, Garen has some useful things in his kit that help him out as a melee carry inside the laning phase, namely his passive, which gets him a lot of sustain and healing when outside of combat. So Garen players, don't be pressured to get every single last hit, but when you do walk up to get that last hit and you take a little bit of damage, don't feel too bad about backing away and sustaining on up. But one thing you have to look out for inside the laning phase is strong all-in picks, like the Volibear and the Poppy we've seen already here in Europe, as well as early jungle attention. If you take these type of picks, if you try to focus down the Garen Yuumi lane, you can shut it down before it even has a chance to get off the ground. But speaking of getting off the ground, let's assume that you don't get super shut down in the early game. Garen and Yuumi are almost untouchable in the mid game, primarily because they just take control over the map so easily. With 2 support items, you have double the amount of wards that a traditional team would be able to have, which means you can walk into the enemy jungle, which with a super tanky Garen becomes very, very easy. Put down deep vision, and then go forward and allow Yuumi to do all the damage she needs to win out in these fights and to siege down towers. That's where Yuumi can be especially deadly with her Q poke. Just make sure that you avoid an all-in, because when you're playing this type of composition, you want to make sure that Yuumi has time to layer down the poke and make it absolutely miserable to play against. I'm super excited to see our 2 teams face off today with these types of champions, because Fnatic is a team we know will play the Garen and Yuumi, and Schalke is a team that loves to team fight into it. I think it'll set us up for a very good matchup, and hopefully we get to see it on the Rift today.
Thank you very much, Ender, for breaking it down. A pick we've seen, or 2 picks rather, that we've seen here in Europe a couple of times, and G2 Esports definitely suffered at the hands of a Garen Yuumi when they played Fnatic just last week.
Was it Garen Yuumi or was it Mordekaiser that they really suffered at the hands of?
I'm going to leave it up to everyone to make the decision for themselves. Quite interesting. One of the slogans here that is plastered around the arena is break the meta, and I think that does work very well for EU. We have been known, I think in the past, but especially this year with G2 and some of the other teams as well, to not be afraid to be creative when it comes to that pick and ban.
I mean, 100%. I even think like Twisted Fate, that was such a big pick for Fnatic. When it came out as like this AD Twisted Fate, it wasn't something you really thought about before. The fact that Garen is viable if you pick Yuumi is kind of crazy, but yeah, just ban Yuumi.
and Yuumi also just makes other picks like the Corki and the Aatrox is powerful. But kind of speaking to your point about break the meta, as kind of like the newest person to the LEC, I have definitely always looked at Europe as a region as a hyper-creative region. Back all the way to like the lane swaps and how this region was executing on them, and I think it's just kind of the final form of Europe to see this iteration of G2, Fnatic, and also Schalke, and then have that creativity where finally a European team is on top of the world, and of course it would be like this. It would be no other way than Europe playing their style.
Well, hopefully we'll see a lot of crazy things this weekend, but our eyes are also set on the bot lane as Reckless, Upset, and Perks look to take their careers to new heights.
That's right, Sharks, because if you want to win in Europe, it's no longer enough to just have an EU mid, man. Now what you need is a world-class bot laner. And the charge has been led by the former benchmark in Reckless. The frontman for Fnatic has defined what a bot laner is supposed to look like for generations, from when he started playing and has been winning. Reckless has picked up 4 LEC titles, 3 split MVPs. He made the World Semifinals in 2015 and the World Championship Final in 2018. Many players have come for his throne, and all of them have failed until this year. Upset is staring down the barrel of Reckless and will be taking on Fnatic and Reckless later today. Upset managed to make a pro final in his first year, in the summer of 2018. And Upset has been a reliable, consistent bot laner to be feared by everybody that faces him. While his youth is holding him back for now, Upset will be able to get potential revenge against Reckless and set his sights on the true king of Europe. The true king of the bot lane in Perks. Perks has only been an AD carry or a bot laner for 1 year, and he has already accomplished more than most will in their entire lives. He managed to win the Spring Split, win the mid-season Invitational, managed to get All-Pro ADC in the Summer Split, and Perkz is already in the final, waiting to shut down whoever challenges him. Right now, EU has bot laners to rival the strength of their mid laners. And we'll find out this weekend who will claim the title of Summer Split champion.
Fantastic breakdown there of the strong bot laners we have, but also just eye-opening as to how much is on the line and how many icons are actually playing on the Rift this weekend. So much history of EU converging into Athens, and also when you look at the current meta, bot lane is just so incredibly important to win games.
I love that word that you use, icon, because Perkz is right now on the cusp of being the most decorated player in Europe. And Reckless is like the guy who has an opportunity to go through him, kind of the godfather of ADCs for Europe itself. So just these two titans and the fact that Upset could also carve out his career and move from being just kind of this superstar ADC into an actual legend this weekend.
Yeah, so much to look out for this weekend, but we have to zero in on what we have on stage today. Fnatic, they look to earn a rematch against G2, while Schalke have their eyes set on another summer final. That best of 5 between Schalke 04 and Fnatic is coming up first here in the arena. And let's talk about both teams and the road so far. And for Fnatic, I would like to start with last year, where with Caps, they got 2 titles in Europe and they got to the World Championship final, but then had to rebuild coming into this year.
Yeah, obviously for them, losing Caps in the mid lane, initially when you looked at it, was a massive hit to the team, and no one really knew what to expect from Fnatic with Nemesis in mid coming in. Also Source, of course, stepping away after being on that team for quite a while. I think in spring we saw the slow start. You know, they didn't come out swinging and were instantly one of the best teams in Europe. I think they had to kind of fight their way back towards the top, which was very important for them, because you've got to learn also how to lose sometimes, and you've got to learn that there are a lot of things you have to fix if you lose someone like Caps.
I mean, that's the big thing. It's kind of begging the question of, is 2019 Fnatic just as good as 2018 Fnatic that went to a World's Finals? And when you lose someone like Caps and Soaz, you know, maybe we saw a glimpse of that in their best of 5 across from G2. Certainly Fnatic seems to believe it, otherwise they wouldn't put their pride and their faith in these types of guys.
And that's why we need to talk about that best of 5 and pose the question, how much will that have an impact on their mental stability and their mental fortitude coming into this best of 5, getting reverse swept, and not just reverse swept. When you are so damn close to making your way to the final, we saw that it weighed heavy on the heads of these players. Will they be able to recover?
I mean, here's the reality. You get kind of one shot like that. And if Fnatic believe that that was their one shot to take down G2, then that can be devastating, because you think, we can't do it. Or it's the other side of the lens. Fnatic believe, hey, we're the only team that can contest with G2 from level 1, from minute 1, and they're ready to ramp up, speed run over Schalke and get their next shot at G2.
Yeah, I like to believe that Fnatic will look at that series, and obviously the day after it's awful, everything is terrible, and you just barely want to go into the next game. But I hope they look at it after and saying the things we did in the first 2 games were super successful for us. Even actually game 3, I would say, had a lot of very big positives. So there are so many things they could actually take away that they were using against the current MSI champions to great success. That should work against most other teams in the world as well. So I hope that's the way they're looking at it, and they go in actually more motivated to this game, because it went all the way to 5 and it wasn't, you know, like a one-sided G2 game.
And they know that perhaps they can do it again. They only need to win 1 game more if they meet G2. But in their way is Schalke 04. And I feel like in a world or in Europe where G2 is playing crazy picks and speed running the league, and Fnatic as well, Schalke flies under the radar, but they have been playing so incredibly well and have really improved step by step this year.
I think at this point it's safe to say they're the most underrated team in summer. Spring Split obviously was not great for them. They had to kind of rebuild the lineup around Upset after losing so many members from last year. I think when you look at Schalke in summer, you started seeing a team who were really good at playing one specific style, very focused around especially Trick. And that's also why him stepping into this team instead of Memento was a huge change, because he's actually one of the absolute best junglers at starting fights. He's very consistent in the way he plays, and he's kind of given Schalke a direction, which is something they were lacking in spring.
Feels like the bread and butter of Schalke is fundamental League of Legends with emphasis on team fights. They find victory through winning team fights on top of objectives, and that makes sense when you have Trick, who is excellent at starting fights, and you got Upset in your back pocket, who is just a superstar ADC that is so good at fighting front to back.
Yeah, they want to win the game in the correct way, and they're looking to get back to that final. The last final and the only other one they were in was versus Fnatic last year in summer, so they have a bit of revenge going there. But for more on tonight's semifinal, let's hear from their coaches.
Thank you, Sharks, and thank you, Dylan, for joining me. You reached this point, you almost made it. So did you reach your final form to make it to the finals, you think?
I think we've been steadily improving all through Summer Split, and honestly, we've been playing really good in playoffs. Our practices are going well, stage games going well, so I think we're almost there.
I feel like last week's series was very enlightening in terms of what Fnatic is capable of, but what did you learn watching it?
I think we learned that when Fnatic is comfortable in their comfort scenarios, they play quite well, and can be one of the best teams probably in the world, but I also think that they're a little bit limited, I would say.
Going through social media this week, I feel like everybody was wondering something. Did G2 break Fnatic, Dylan?
I think on a big stage like this, especially at the start, they'll come strong and they won't be broken. I think they'll play quite well. But maybe if things start going bad, I'm not too sure what will happen.
You know what? Quickshot is standing with Youngbuck right now, so let's hear what he has to say.
Thank you very much, Law, and thank you very much, Youngbuck, for joining me. It's quite loud here in the stadium in Athens, and Law was just asking Dylan Falco about what he thought Fnatic's mentality was. And there's some people on social media thinking that your mentality's been broken. Is that true? How are the boys feeling?
I think our mentality is stronger than ever, because going into the G2 series, we had very poor practice. We thought it was going to be a 0-3 or a 1-3, and we showed that we can hang with them even when we have a bad week of practice.
Ooh, that's very exciting. That's a confident Youngbuck. Let's look forward to the series. You guys have been in this position before against Origin in spring. You were not able to win the semi-final to advance to the final. How will it be different today?
So last time we had to prepare for two teams because we had not faced them before, but we faced G2 before, so we didn't have to put much emphasis on them. So we went 100% on Schalke, and we'll show that today.
100% on Schalke, we'll show it today. Good luck. I'm looking forward to the games. Back to Sharks at the desk.
Thank you very much. A lot of tape to watch for Schalke 04, and we have also seen a lot of Schalke 04, and we touched on it already, their playstyle and their bread and butter. It is all in those team fights and playing those games out in that manner.
And again, you're looking at things like team fighting tools. You want consistent hard CC. You're looking at scaling junglers. Things like the Sejuani are bread and butter for Schalke. You said that big, meaty tank line in front of you, and you just let Upset walk through teams.
And the reason they can play this style and play it so well is because they have two players in Trick and Ignore who are never afraid to start fights as long as they're on engaged champions. So you have this consistency in engaging. And then you have Upset, who's obviously one of the star AD carries when it comes to team fighting, and Odo Amne, who is one of the most experienced top laners and who plays a lot of these scaling team fighting top laners that goes in like Rumble, like Kennen, big AoE mages. And when you combine these things with players plus the picks they have, it sets up this simple play style, but it's actually very effective as long as teams want to fight against you.
But how does that Schalke plan get distorted when they go up versus a Fnatic who is so incredibly good in the early game? We saw it last week versus G2 Esports. It's 3 out of the 5 of G2's worst early game differences this entire split were those first 3 games versus Fnatic. They know how to play in those first 15 minutes and destroy you.
Yeah, I know that G2 hold the record for the biggest gold lead at 15 minutes, but I'm going to say that Fnatic are the best early game team in the LEC. Again, from minute 1, from level 1, they hit you, and they hit you so hard, and it starts with Broxah. If I'm looking at how this is going to match up, can Schalke actually survive to get to the team fights, or will Fnatic just sucker punch them in the first 10 minutes and Schalke are lights out?
Right, because if Fnatic do win the early game, they get to decide how to play the game. They can actually start playing on all 3 lanes, and then as long as you play safe in mid when Schalke are trying to group onto you, then you can suddenly start split pushing. And if you're playing strong teamfight comms and you want to go 5-man together, you hate when the enemy team are pushing your sides because you can't go stop them properly and you just start losing more and more. So I think Fnatic winning early game suddenly opens up for them to decide this doesn't have to be a teamfight series. We can play the entire map.
Is it safe to say that Fnatic can play the way they want to play and have played, but Schalke is going to have to change something coming into this if they want to have a chance for us?
I mean, I feel that Fnatic are definitely the more versatile team and how different ways they can attack you on the map. And I agree with really Deficio this idea of kind of side lane, whole map pressure versus grouped 5v5 pressure. That said, if Fnatic want to, like Schalke looks like 2018 Fnatic. We don't know that you just put Reckless on a traditional ADC like the Kai'Sa, you group up as 5 and you say, okay mate, let's go. Like I invented this style and I'm going to perfect it.
Talk to me about the jungle matchup then, because they are two very important players in any team, but I think especially so for Fnatic and for Schalke with Broxah and Trick.
Yeah, I think Brox's biggest strength right now is obviously early game when he has easy lanes to play around. Like kind of a plan is set up from the start. We want you to gank top but then go bot side. We have good CC set up for you. He's very mechanically gifted and he can execute all these different kind of skirmishes. I think Trick doesn't rely as much on early game ganking. He's more just a complete, like, more consistent package when it comes to playing the game, especially also in chaotic situations where the team relies on him to make a big play.
Yeah, we'll see how they play. These are some of the champions that will be very important in this series. And we also want to know from you at home, who makes it to the LEC Summer Final? You can spam in chat S04 or FNC, or if you're in the arena, grab your phone and then go vote in chat. So then you can also see. So we'll track those results. And with that, I'd also love to know from my panel how both of these teams make it to the final. If I'm betting on Schalke 04, how are they doing it?
So there's two things. I want to talk about firepower in the bottom, and I want to talk about team fight tools. You need to be able to win bot lane, not only because it's important for Upset and Ignar. They are actually the one lane that Schalke do try to kill people in pre-level 6, even though a lot of the action for Schalke does start in the mid lane and then rotate into the bottom. But it's also about putting Hilly and Reckless down, specifically Hilly. And then once you survive the lane phase, you need to have those team fight tools like the hard CC, like the big Sejuani and the Skarn ultimates to play that style that Schalke are so consistent at.
Yeah, I mean, 100% agree. I think also that's why when you look at Fnatic's side, bot lane is directly where you want to go, because for me, it's not about Fnatic winning 2v2 laning phase, but I need Reckless and Hylissang to just generally outperform the two guys they're facing. Reckless in late game team fights, we're gonna see it, it's gonna happen, him versus Upset. I think Reckless right there, if he has the edge, big for Fnatic. And then I think Hylissang, while he is not as consistent in my mind as Ignar, I think he can make even more happen on the map, and he's so crucial for Fnatic when it comes to forcing plays in the early game.
So much focus on that bottom lane, so let's take a look at our predictions as we are so close to the very first picks and bans of our showdown in Athens. Schalke 04 versus Fnatic. I voted for Fnatic with a 3-1. I have a lot of faith in that. The mistakes they made in the G2 series will not overpower the strength that they've shown in the early game, and I really don't think Schalke can match them.
You think Fnatic's broken?
No, hey, that's 5 games.
3-2, okay.
I think the way Schalke plays, they will get their team fights. Like, I think it's a lot easier for them to force team fights than it is for Fnatic to play the entire map. So I see Schalke picking up wins here. I think they're good enough to do it.
Whoa, 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 whoa. What's going on here?
Hold up, hold up, hold up.
Sir?
Sir?
Let me just ask you a couple of questions.
Okay.
Will Ignar find the form we saw at the World Championship a couple of years ago? Will Odoamne soak up enough pressure and then team fight later? Will Upset topple Reckless? I say nay. Fnatic will take it home 3-0.
All right, thank you, Yamato, for that final prediction. The crowd loves it as well, and we're ready. We're not going to keep you waiting any longer. Our first series is just minutes away as we embark on the epic conclusion of the LEC Summer Playoffs.
Death is a mercy, and I have enough mercy to go around.
Spider already taken down Ignar, and now the fight really erupts. Finn's gonna go into the GA, and Waller's joined the fray. Upset trying to get away. Schalke find the flank, they find the fight, and they find the ace in the end.
That's going to be another kill for Caps. Turning attention to Reckless. All of a sudden, he goes back in.
Reckless!
Reckless is turning back around, though. That's so much damage. But look at the feathers. Reckless dances around everything.
think it will be a great chance for revenge to play versus Fnatic, because last time I played on a big stage was then I lost 3-1 in the final, so kicking them out and not even giving them the chance to go to the final would be a great feeling.
Honestly, every time we played against Schalke, it just felt like there was something missing from them. And we'll see if they can bring that to Athens or not, because that's what I'm interested in seeing, because I think they can be a really good team, but whether or not they can bring that to the table or not is going to decide whether or not they have a chance.
Odo is chasing. The Super Soaker will provide some slow. That's a good knockup from Bwipo. Continuing to get away. Another good knockup from Bwipo. Reckless is looking for upset. He's gonna find it with the help of Nemesis. It's a double kill.
Going up against Fnatic and Bwipo, I don't think is really that big of a worry for me. Even though his team got the better of us the last couple of times we faced, the way we're playing right now, I think this time it won't happen. I think I've been through worse.
Well, like down to half HP on the back line, but he's still alive. Abadage goes in, and Abadage goes down. But here comes Odo. He slices through them all, and Ignar's going to chase down Larsen as well. Like Warlock is already done. Larsen tries to flash away, but it's a quadra kill for Odo.
I think in the series against G2, we already showed that in terms of individual skill, we are all amongst the best in the world. When we can match G2 as well and take them to 5 games, we can definitely also win against Schalke.
Well, there's the Ghost Water dive, but you can't catch the Ragnarok. Just not enough damage. They got tricked until the Unburrow.
I really want to win and really be in the moment and enjoy, because that's what you play for, right?
When we enter the stage in Athens, we're going to have a 6-man on our team, and that's going to be the fans.
Kalispera Atina! Athens, I have to ask, does Fnatic have a sick man like Broxa just said? That's a pretty definitive answer, because Fnatic are gonna need all the help they can get to make it to finals. They fell short last weekend, losing to G2 Esports. And today, they face off against a hungry Schalke. A Schalke that has already taken down Vitality and Rogue to make it to this stage, one step from finals. Let's meet our teams. From Summer Split Finals in 2018. Fnatic versus Schalke. In the top lane, Odoamne! Roaming the jungle, Trick! In the mid lane, Abadage! In the bot lane, Upsets! In support, Ignar! And coach for Schalke 04, Dylan Falco! In the top lane for Fnatic, Bwipo! Ganking from the jungle, Broxa! In the mid lane, Nemesis! It's Reckless! Supporting for Fnatic, Hillisson! their coach, Young Buck. Athens, I present to you your semi-finalists, Schalke versus Fnatic.
Thank you, Quickshot. Hello, everyone in Athens. I'm Dracos, joined by Vedius and Ender, and it is our distinct pleasure to cast this series for you, Fnatic versus Schalke 04.
And how can we not be excited? It is the rematch of the Summer Finals from last year. Fnatic took it 3-1 when they first met up, but things have changed, new players have come in, and both these teams are hungry for another shot at G2.
And it's been a long time since Schalke has been able to pull off a win against Fnatic. They desperately want that revenge. They desperately want the chance to go to Worlds with a win here today and then try to run it all the way, but it's tough competition against Fnatic.
Week 2 of spring was the last time that this team found a win. The start of the Fnatic's 0-4 start to spring season. Definitely catastrophic, but look how they've turned it around and how Schalke have turned it around too, from not making playoffs to now contesting top 3 in the LEC. All eyes are on this team to see if they can rise up or Fnatic will just smack them right back down.
And once again, it comes down to the Summer Split jungle buff that Schalke seemed to have over the last 2 years. With the introduction of Trick at the beginning of this split, he seems to have made wonders for the success of this team, and he's going to be one of the players that we look at throughout this series. Trick versus Broxah, the early game advantage. Which team is going to be able to get it? Which jungler is going to be setting it up?
It puts us in such an interesting position where two teams have two very distinct styles. With Trick leading the charge on Schalke's side, it's all about the team fight, about forcing the perfect engages for this squad. Whereas on the side of Fnatic, it is Broxah leading the charge in the early game, getting this team a lead that was almost good enough to take down G2.
But of course, after looking at the holes in Fnatic that we may have seen in that G2 series, a lot of people are wondering, do they just pull out the same strategy that G2 did? Ban away things like the Twisted Fate, limit Fnatic's global map mobility, or does a different strategy get shown here today?
Well, that's what we're wondering, right? There are some expectations in terms of the draft. We think that Sejuani is going to be something that highly prioritized from the side of Schalke. One of the big question marks for us is, do Schalke play Yuumi? Are they going to be forced to ban it every game just like G2 were against Fnatic? Because we know you can't afford to give that to the likes of Fnatic.
Yeah, and do Fnatic even need to fit the same mold that they played like against G2? Because we saw when they played against Splice in Week 9, they were more than happy to take the scaling option, to go for the team fights, to match a team like Schalke in these late game moments. So Fnatic do have options if they don't want to run back what worked for them against G2.
And frankly, I don't want to see Yuumi. I know Hylissang's great at it. If they get Garen Yuumi, they should pick it. I understand it's incredibly powerful. I want to see playmakers. I want to see Ignar on a hook champion. I want to see Hylissang on a hook champion. Because when I think of defining playmakers, it's 3 names. It is Mickey, it is Ignar, it is Hylissang. And we are moments away now. Pick and ban for game 1 getting started here. What will they select? Well, we're going to find out, Athens. Let's get into it.
So many special picks for these two teams. On the side of Schalke, it's the Sejuani for Trick, been so pivotal in so many of their games. Lucian recently for Upset as well to try and dominate in the bottom lane. But whenever Fnatic load onto the Rift, you look at Rakan, you look at Aatrox, you look at Twisted Fate, all of these champions just synonymous with 2019 Fnatic.
Now there are no surprises so far in the draft. Immediate question answered. Will Schalke prioritize Yuumi? The answer is no. They're going to take that off the board, so far mirroring the bans that G2 utilized when they played up against Fnatic in that best of 5. The final ban that came out from G2 was the Aatrox. So the question is, will Schalke continue to mimic that? Will they take it away from Whitbo, or will that be a priority pick for them?
Oh, it could be interesting to find out what exactly Odoamne wants to bring to the table. The Rakan will be banned away, something we very rarely see let through against Hylissang. Was a bit of an oddity to see it so much in the G2 versus Fnatic series, but Schalke not going to take the risk.
Now it feels like almost an Aatrox first pick would make the most sense here for Schalke. Deny that from Whitbo. When he is on Aatrox, he looks like a completely different player. Fnatic can play through him. He dominates those trades in the top lane. So it will be Odo picking that up for Schalke to deny from Fnatic.
And interesting to think over the course of the year that Odoamne hasn't even been the primary Aatrox player on the side of Schalke. Only 2 games this entire year, 5 for the side of Abadage.
But what it does is it acts as a team fight champion, something that Schalke love to utilize in the mid game. What we'll see from Schalke is that come the mid game, Odoamne will sacrifice his wave to Google with the team and force fights. And that is what makes Aatrox Aatrox such a powerful champion because even if he's at a deficit, he can still offer that teamfight value.
So now I'm wondering, on the side of Fnatic, with this Gragas lock-in, such a good champion for Broxah, but does Nemesis actually want to go for the Corki? Double magic between mid lane and jungle, not the most powerful 2 versus 2 to dominate through the mid lane. Maybe makes me think Nemesis wants to look for something else to show against Schalke.
And I want to see what else he has to offer. For now, the Xayah will be locked in. Even without the Rakan, Fnatic are still confident to pick it up here. A very powerful AD carry overall. While a lot of champions were getting nerfed, Xayah remained untouched.
And we saw Schalke when they played against Vitality liked the Morgana option. That was, of course, against the Rakan down there in the bottom lane. But we know Upset loves to have the Kai'Sa. The All-Star alongside it to super stack that passive gives him so much damage in the 2v2 trades in the bottom lane and scales into an incredible mid to late game team fighter.
Yeah, I feel like Schalke drafting towards what they are very comfortable and confident on. Fnatic are going towards comfort picks themselves. We already talked about how Gragas is a big priority champion for the likes of Broxah. The question for me is, will they look to lock in something like the Morgana? Or will they go for some other kind of support? Or will they just ignore it entirely and instead lock in a comfortable mid lane for Nemesis?
But it is the Morgana. Vedi has mentioned a lot of picks, but that is the one that's going to get selected here in the hands of Hylissang.
And the reason why Hylissang wants to go for this, no, this is not his typical all-in engaged champion, but it's to disengage the bot lane 2 versus 2. Make All-Stars all-in relatively useless, and then also give the pushing power towards Rekkles and Hylissang in the bottom lane. This is not a lane that's going to kill you in the 2 versus 2, but rather one that's going to push you in, pressure the tower, and then free up Hylissang to leave that bottom lane and roam around the map.
Now, typically what we would see from Fnatic is a priority on champions like the Renekton in this next phase. They already know that Aatrox is likely going to be going into the top lane. There is, of course, no guarantee, but expectations are that it would move up towards the top side of the map, in which case Fnatic can then guarantee Whippo on the Renekton matchup into the Aatrox, and then they can save counterpick for the mid lane. Give Nemesis a favorable matchup up against the likes of Abbedagge.
Yeah. And interesting to see, of course, where Fnatic's priority is banning Trick out, limiting some of the early aggressive playmakers that he may want to pick up. The Skarner, of course, after the Sejuani, something we expect to see him on. But as you mentioned, Vedius, the Renekton might have been a comfortable option for Whippo, but not anymore. Schalke will take it off the board.
And now, what does Nemesis go for with that Corki gone? Because, you know, the Cassiopeia has been a pick for him in the past. The Aurelia is open if they're looking for some form of physical damage. I mean, the Karma is the Rekkles special, but it seems like this could be the option for either Nemesis or Whippo. They want the flex option here so they can decide what matchup is going into that Aatrox.
My expectations would be that he goes into the top lane to match up against the Aatrox. I feel like that it's something we've seen Whippo play before as well. He can neutralize the lane and limit what Odoamne can do in the early laning phase. So far, Fnatic have already drafted themselves pretty powerful lanes in both top and bot, so they're going to have that early push prio. But Schalke trying to answer that by going for a very early aggressive jungler in the form of an Olaf. If they can just guarantee themselves a strong mid lane matchup, then it's a great way for Schalke to have an easy lane to play through.
And this Olaf alongside the LeBlanc is all about controlling around this mid lane. LeBlanc should win out. You give the Olaf freedom to move into the enemy jungle, but this is a champion for Trick that's not really his style. We think of Trick, we think level 6 junglers, we think team fight options. The Olaf is very much about contesting the enemy jungler in the early game, using lanes with priority to fight 2v2s and 3v3s.
Of course, we completely forgot about the Gangplank, the champion that was consistently banned away from Whippo when they went up against G2 last week. It is something that he is extremely comfortable on, can play. I would be surprised if they flexed it to the mid lane. Usually you'll see the Karma because of how safe it is and how difficult it is for the LeBlanc to find those kills. But what I love from this Schalke draft is it plays pretty much throughout towards their strengths. Trick loves playing around mid lane. Every decision that he makes, every play that he tries to set up, it all starts with the mid lane. And they have guaranteed themselves an exceptionally strong early game 2 versus 2. So we should not be surprised to see Trick working with Abbedagge to look for plays around the map with this mid lane.
And that's what I like to see. Trick on something that can dominate the early game. I'm a little concerned. Last time we saw the Olaf versus Fnatic, it wasn't as great, but he's had so much time to step it up, to work on that. And the synergy between those two is now fantastic. We're gearing up. We're getting ready for game 1 here in Athens. The semifinal winner will face G2 tomorrow for all the marbles. First place in the split, the true LEC champion, the best European team, hands down, as we get ready, loading now into game. But on the opposite side, Fnatic, Rekkles, feels like he might just be the center of attention. He's got a Morgana, he's got a Karma, he's got a Xayah to play. Might just be something that Fnatic fans have been waiting a long time to see. this is Fnatic. And already the level one's coming out, two incredibly interesting compositions. But if you're wondering why the analyst desk was so in favor of Fnatic, all we need to do is look back at the historic record here. Look at how these two teams have matched up in the past. 3-13, folks, is the overall score. Schalke have won 3 of the last 16 games they played versus Fnatic. There is no doubt that Fnatic have their number.
And the most notable of all of those head-to-heads was, of course, the summer finals of last year in Athens when Fnatic took them down 3-1. And how fitting is it that here in Greece, that this first composition Fnatic are going to be playing revolves almost entirely around Reckless on this Xayah in the bottom lane. You have the Morgana, the Karma, as you mentioned. This team comp is all about building space through tools like the Broxa, the Gragas Cask, in order to give him space and let him just pop off in these fights.
Yeah, they have the Gangplank as well, so once Fnatic hit level 6, it's very easy for Fnatic to look to play through the bot side of the map, whereas I have my eyes set on Schalke. Now, something I've been speaking a lot with analysts in Europe about is how Schalke like to set up the early game. And something that we'll often see is whenever they make a play on the map, you see 2 members hanging around the mid lane. And it's one of them is Trick, the other one is Abadage. The key difference between Schalke and Fnatic is that when Fnatic come mid, they often have 3 members in the form of Hylissang, Broxa, and Nemesis. And one of the things that Schalke have guaranteed themselves, even if Hylissang looks for early roams, is that because of how powerful Trick and Abadage are on these champions, they may be able to force their priority in the mid lane, which means that Schalke can guarantee themselves strong early matchups and look to try and gain advantages in the early game.
Got there in the end. And of course with the Morgana on the bottom side, Fnatic, they're trying to gain control of this bot lane. See if Hylissang can still find effective roams, even up against a terrifying duo like the Olaf LeBlanc.
Yeah, you know, and usually when we talk about how they get control over mid, it's about Trick coming mid and then helping Abadage make plays around the map. In this game, it's different, I feel. It's about Abadage backing up Trick. And already if we look at the early jungle pathing, Trick going for a very standard full clear on this Olaf. He's not looking for any types of early game invades because the one thing he lacks right now is early push in both mid lane and bottom lane. That means you can't make any plays around the map. Because of mid lane, you can't go into the enemy Raptors. Because bot lane's getting pushed in, you can't make a play for the enemy blue buff. So Broxa is very, very happy with the first 3.5 minutes of this game because this guy's just waiting up for level 6 and then can then look to make plays around the map.
Yeah, but will now move into the bottom side of the map, knowing that he is safe to do so with all the pressure that his bot lane has. Does get spotted out, will lay down a control ward, giving him a bit of lingering vision, but Schalke may just know that that's in the area. It will, however, in the end be a trade of Scuttle Crabs, and of course, Olaf's insane clear speed still keeps him pretty far ahead in terms of overall XP.
Yeah, Trick wants to wrap around on Bwipo right now. Bwipo pushing without jungle pressure on the top side of the map. This should be a flash and maybe even a kill.
Holding that thought, Odoamne.
It's a big wave though.
Playing coy. Massive wave. Odoamne definitely has to be careful. Will heal up off the Deathbringer stance. Now it's a TP burns topside. Schalke can just walk away here and be content with that advantage. Nemesis will be forced to leave the mid lane as LeBlanc picks up a bit more CS.
This is not the end of the world for Nemesis, though. The mid lane was pushing in, so he won't lose a huge amount off the back of this, and he does keep this top laner alive as well. Fnatic recognized that Olaf in the 1v1 could have looked to just chase Bwipo down, but through the teleport, they were able to mitigate that. So teleport is burnt from Nemesis, will hurt his back timing just a little bit, but overall in the mid lane, still relatively neutral.
And right now, Fnatic's bot lane is building up this wave to push into them, to deny minions. Because Broxa was coming down towards that bot side with Sweeper, it wanted to make Upset and Ignar really uncomfortable pushing forward. Now that Trick has gotten back towards this bottom side of the map and is on Krugs, they feel much more confident stepping up, and especially now they're going to call Trick over because if Broxa was around here, it would be an easy flash burn off the likes of Upset.
May even go for the lane gank, but Fnatic smart enough to place a ward in that second brush. Trick walks in there, won't be able to get anything. Of course, the Tormented Soil as well. Very easy way to spot out any potential ganks as long as you have a Spell Thief stack. Let you know exactly what's coming.
TB now used from Abadage into the mid lane. We'll give him a quick base so he's able to pick up the Dark Seal and an Apto. So he's going to be pretty good, but feels like in this early game, for the most part, we're going to be seeing a lot of farming. Up until once LeBlanc hits level 6, I do feel that there's going to be a lot more room for Schalke to try and force plays. But as you rightly said, and one of the biggest difficulties that Schalke is going to find is actually setting up plays in terms of the early game because of how safe the Morgana Xayah lane is and how safe Karma is as well.
Yeah, another problem is that Odoamne just uses TP, and while yes, Bwipo should be teleporting back into the top lane after he gets this recall off, he's going to have access to Cannon Barrage in just about a minute and a half here on the Gangplank, which makes making any play in the mid lane or the bottom lane a whole lot more risky. And specifically what I want to look for from Fnatic is looking for this level 6 timer on Broxah, because when you consider you have a pushing bottom lane, you also can have a pushing mid lane with Nemesis and all the wave clear that this Karma does provide. I want to see them maybe try to threaten a dive on that bottom side.
Well, something we talked about earlier, notice Trick hanging around the mid lane by himself, looking for a potential gank. But look at the mini-map right now. See where Hylissang and Broxah are pathing. They have their eyes set on the mid lane, and they want to offer support to Nemesis. And this is something we'll see a lot of from both teams. Whenever Fnatic look to play through mid, they have 3 members here, versus Schalke, who often only have the 2. So if they were to meet, there's a real risk that Schalke could get collapsed.
Yeah, instead, Hylissang walking down bottom lane. The Morgana, not a particularly good roamer, so a little bit of a different look for Fnatic in a game like this, where they don't have the likes of an Alistar or a Khan to really force around that middle lane. So going to have to redesign how they play out through these early games.
All that thought, big damage going in on the Bwipo. Definitely taking the bad end of a lot of these trades. Trick now moving onto the bottom side of the map. Only level 5. Broxah can just leap over the wall, however, do not want to go toe-to-toe with the Olaf in the early game. We'll just go back to clearing. Level 6, of course, the important point that you all gentlemen already talked about. Now coming in for the GP as well. So Cannon Barrage is something that Schalke have to consider carefully. Oh, and of course, Caps coming out, reminding us all of the wonderful history. The 3-1. Will Schalke be able to find a few more wins this time around, potentially take Fnatic to the full 5? Or is it as one-sided as many analysts might predict?
Well, we still have to wait and see. So far in this early game, still very even. A lot of trading and pressure right now. No early kills being able to come out, which Fnatic is very happy with. It's like play happens bot.
But Bolt comes out. Cannon Barrage is the response. Good damage now going in onto Ignite. He has to be careful. The Ignite down too. Reckless stepping forward, burning slowly but surely. Not going to drop in the end. Ignite with a sliver of life.
So close right there. Ignite got the initial engage off late Black Shield, but now in the mid lane.
Has to be careful. LeBlanc locked up for a decent amount of time now. Needs to make his way out. Abadage invisible, but the Predator is there. He's spotted the real target. Abadage now walking away. He finds him in the end. That first blood for Nemesis.
The second Broxah sees Trick make a move down in the bottom lane, he reacts and forces in towards the mid. The great lockup there from the Karma meant there was nowhere for Abadage to go once he committed forward with the distortion.
And we saw how difficult it was for Schalke to set up this gank onto Fnatic's bot lane. The amount of safety provided by the Morgana Black Shield and the Gangplank ultimate as well meant that they weren't able to find a kill, whereas Fnatic was mid lane. Abadage tried to force push mid without the support of his jungler. All of his escape tools were used, which meant that Nemesis could easily get the lockdown and Broxah could show up to help secure the kill.
Abadage also using the cast of the ultimate there as well for wave clear, so didn't have that second escape option. Knew that a flash would not net him anything, so he does retain that, but at the same time, Broxah has a flash of his own, which is so crucial with making plays, especially at the level 6 mark. Instant CC that you almost can never react to, and then the displacement from the ultimate should net in a kill almost every time.
And Broxah already finding a bigger impact in this early game. Trick, of course, looked scary, looked threatening. He was pulling ahead in XP and gold, but now things are starting to even out, and Broxah's already found a gank in the mid lane, setting Nemesis up for success. The early Merc Tread just to survive here, but so difficult for LeBlanc to get away when she burns that distortion, and you have to walk face first into the snare from Karma.
So I'm looking at some of the items that have come through. We can see BF Swords picked up for both AD carries, a Merc Tread advantage in favor of Nemesis, so he's going to be able to mitigate more of that LeBlanc burst. Definitely going to make this Karma even safer in the 1 versus 1. Whipper also prioritizing the Ninja Tabby to help him out in the 1 versus 1. Whereas Odoamne working towards a little bit more damage in the early game.
What we need to see from Broxah now is defensive pathing around the bottom lane, because both Reckless and Hylissang losing their flashes means this vision inside of the river. Incredibly important to spot the roams from Abadage, and then Broxah needs to be bot side whenever that lane is pushing out. You see, he doesn't go back and clear his camps right now. Instead, he has Reckless and Hylissang almost on top of that tower, so he's going to get inside the river and make sure he can respond to a play.
See now what Abadage and Trick can get done. Try to clear out a bit of this vision here. Still have to be a little bit careful, even with the Olaf ult up and available. And of course, a lot of eyes on Broxah and Trick as the 2 members who dictate the pace of the early game for both of these teams. They're gonna have to hold that thought, because big action's happening on the top side, a bit over eager. Odoamne trading flash for flash in the end.
Bwipo's been taking the worst of these trades all game long. Yes, you do have the scaling on this Gangplank, but something he has to keep in mind now, flashless and potentially vulnerable under his tower, while Broxah just spending a lot of times around his lanes at the moment. Thinks there could be a play, but with pressure in bottom lane and mid lane also going relatively well for Nemesis now, they can pick up this very early Ocean Drake to try and help out, especially Bwipo topside.
Of course, Brock's already helping the mid lane, showing up, getting that assist over. Now as well, going to help top lane. Gangplank's going to love to have this Ocean Drake. Maybe not the most impactful for the objectives to come. Definitely a nice bit of a boon for Fnatic in the early game here.
So this is an interesting play. Watch Ignar on the minimap moving over towards that Herald, spawning at 10 minutes. They do also have the teleport on Upset if he wants to group up with the team topside, but there is a control ward on that Herald, so while Bwipo does have to back away with the pressure of multiple Schalke members coming topside, I don't think Schalke should be able to pick this one up unless they full TP in to commit to guarantee a 5v4 if Broxa and Reckless were also to respond.
And at this point, it's not the most action-packed game. It's 11 minutes in. It's only a single kill, but it's still a 1.3k gold lead for the side of Fnatic. Big lead for Reckless on the bottom side of the map, and the lead for Odoamne up against Bwipo is just not balancing that out.
This is exactly what Schalke needed to do. You have this early game pressure, especially around the mid lane, while bot lane is getting blasted right now. CS not going in favor of Upset at all. So take the offensive play, teleport up towards this Herald, just got to make sure you get it.
Broxa now moving in, Nemesis behind him as well. Going to be difficult to lock down a single member, but 4 members strong. Ignar going to be on the flank. If they don't spot this one out, TP now coming in, but Ignar going to the backside. There is no follow. Eyes instead are focused on the objective. They're going to grab it, but now Reckless in the midst of the team. Odoamne on the backside. It's going to be a big Aatrox fight. Can Odoamne find it? Reckless is taking down Ignar. Broxa now on the retreat. Odoamne can't get anything. He does manage to get a bit of a heal up, but it's not enough. It's a double kill for Reckless. Schalke are getting destroyed in the fight.
And it's Fnatic that come out on top of the fight. Reckless TPing into the members of Schalke looked dangerous at first, but with his ultimate, he was in a safe spot.
Black Shield might not be enough though. Reckless now going to get caught up, but instead they turn it in an instant. Schalke go into the meat grinder and come out mush.
This comp is all about Reckless from Fnatic, and if Schalke are not able to pinpoint him at the start of the fight, are able to single out and kill him, they will lose every single time. Now the 12-minute mark is a 4,000 gold lead for Fnatic, and they just picked up everything.
Schalke have not been able to find the early game lead. Ooh.
No! He still manages to get the shutdown, but he wanted the Alistair there to back him up, but he wins! He wins! Incredibly strong, the double for Trick! He says, not today! He will find a chance for retribution in the game one. One more axe. Not going to connect. The fancy footwork from Hillsang. He's walking away. The binding connects. The TP's now coming in. They bit off more than they can chew. They will turn the play. Bwipo on the way up with the Gangplank. Just going to fire one warning shot, and both sides will walk away.
Trick is not happy with how that Herald play worked out. He gets back into the thick of things. Knocks down Reckless and Broxa right there. One more axe, that was all that was needed to find a third kill. That's a much needed sign of life from the Schalke roster that has just been getting beaten so badly all game long.
So we can see that Fnatic wanted to try and answer this Riftchild. Initially, it looks like Schalke have the better setup because you get a flank in from Ignar, but then the crowd control comes out. Reckless is uncontested. It looks like Odoamne is able to dive onto the back, but a great ultimate from Hillsang combined with the W from Nemesis keeps him locked up for so long that he can never really threaten the backline, and Schalke just feel very safe in the Reckless feels very safe in the whole exchange.
This is the first auto attack that Upset put down all fight. He was completely zoned the entire 5 versus 5, unable to do anything. There's a Zhonya's Gragas in front of him. He can't auto that. Getting zoned by Gragas, by the Xayah Feathers. Literally nothing Upset could do in that 5v5 until he came back in.
I mean, you can see it in the damage charts. 590 damage. Odoamne, yes, heroic flank, but 1.8k damage is not enough to match out the likes of Reckless. And also Hillsang, 1k for the Morgana in an early fight like that. 20%. Upset now in trouble, could be locked down. The CC is there. They dive him and they make it look too easy.
You hate to see it as a binding lands onto Upset. Reckless will find himself another kill. Fnatic will find their first tower of the game. 15 minutes in and it's already a 4k gold advantage.
We need to switch over to the individual gold because the numbers at the top of your screen do not do it justice. It is almost 7,000 for Reckless, barely 4k for Upset. A ridiculous difference in the items of these two players. And now Reckless, he has basically everything he needs to solo carry this game.
That's exactly the player that we were keeping our eyes on. He has the Morgana to back him up and the Karma as well. Things are going to go from bad to worse, but for now, Schalke able to grab the top lane tower, recoup some of that gold loss, keep the deficit at 4k. Still a terrifying sight to behold. Maybe, if they can take out Reckless at the start of a fight, they can win one. But right now, all things are going in Fnatic's favor.
See this dive in the bot lane one more time. No vision for Upset. All he knows is he has a tower and cannot juke away from the binding right there, the chain CC. There's just nothing you can do. And then Fnatic go on to completely eliminate the plates in the bottom lane. That just has to be a tilt for Upset. He can't auto-attack in the last team fight. The second he gets back to lane, instantly killed.
The thing for Schalke is that their draft was very much about bridging the gap between early and mid game, and then utilizing a comp that scales quite well to then force team fights later. Unfortunately for them, they weren't really able to bridge that early game. They were falling behind in lane, and they were getting bullied around by Fnatic. The first fight they tried to force in the early game, they're not able to successfully pull off, which Fnatic immediately take control of. This is a team that goes toe-to-toe with G2. The moment you give them an inch, they take a mile, and we're seeing it right now. 15 minutes in with the gold lead they have, they're already sieging onto the mid lane tower, and Schalke are slowly already being starved out of the game.
And I don't think Schalke have a good team fight when they're fighting while they're running away and trying to kite away from you. There's nothing an All-Star can do if he's not engaging fights. Olaf running away, going to be absolutely useless. Schalke need to find some way, need to get Abadage strong enough that he can threaten to burn Reckless's ultimate at the start of the fight. If he can dive into the back and burn that, then all of a sudden you have options. Ignar can come around from behind, but when there's always a black shield and a Karma shield on top of it, it's literally impossible for him to do anything.
Such a low percentage play up against the sheer amount of shielding and protection on the side of Fnatic. They're going to grab themselves another Ocean as well. And on the top side, Abadage desperate to force something, trying to lock up Nemesis. Trick going in, but they will not commit to the play. The GP ult going to make sure that they have no way out if they stay for too long. They will be taking some tower damage here, but are going to take down the top tier 2 in the end. Still Fnatic holding on to a 4.5k gold lead.
So Schalke doing what they can to try and trade objectives on the map, but Fnatic utilizing this time to just gain full control over the enemy bot side jungle. I like what Nemesis did there, staying inside the minions to make it difficult for Abadage to land the chain, because if he had, Nemesis would have been forced to flash, or he may have even lost his life. Now we do see Trick did just use his ultimate. Looks like he was afraid of what Broxah could do, but there's no follow-up from Broxah, which means that Trick and Abadage will be able to get out scot-free.
At the same time, Reckless has just been pushing down these lanes and then walking into the Schalke jungle and taking away jungle camps. It's something we see all the time from Perks when he's playing the Xayah. It's all about self-funneling. Now, at 17 minutes into the game, Reckless has 185 CS on top of 4 kills casually, so that's pretty strong marksman.
Yeah, I'm going to say if at 23 minutes he's got all 3 items, that's going to be a big problem for the side of Schalke. So inevitably, it's how many resources can they get before Fnatic come knocking at the door. Abadage has now finished the Luden's Echo. Upset getting closer and closer to Kai'Sa 2 items. Not ideal to be going toe-to-toe at 3 items, but at least a little bit of strength there. And have to see signs of life from Schalke at this point, because right now it is Fnatic who are completely dictating the pace of the game.
Yeah, Schalke need to find some way to force smaller skirmishes away from the likes of Reckless, which is almost impossible when there's all these TPs on the side of Fnatic. So you need to figure out some way to burn those, because you have a lot of strong skirmishing champions, right? The Kai'Sa, the full AD Olaf, very good in 2v2s, 3v3s, but the second it becomes a full front-to-back team fight with this Xayah, there's just not much you can do.
I mean, the unfortunate reality of Schalke's situation is they're almost relying on Fnatic to make a mistake, in the sense that Fnatic slow down their pressure, Fnatic give Schalke the opportunity to funnel resources to Upset and look at for the late game. They're going to try and set up a kill onto Bwipo, but look at the rest of the map. 2 members of Fnatic top, 2 members mid.
Oh, the flash out, the extra movement speed now coming in. They're going to try to take down Bwipo. They're going to commit everything to get him down, and it looks like they will grab him in the end. Bwipo's surviving for a long time, though. Means Fnatic can set up on the play on the top side. Trick now on a killing spree. We have to shift our attention top.
Abadage barely surviving, but look at this. Reckless and Hylissang are on the way. He's going to try and teleport out of this.
The TP out. Channel time nerf, not quite enough. Abadage will make a heroic escape, but still the top tier 1 will fall.
But you can see how Schalke, they're trying to be proactive. They are trying to attack these side lanes, but because of how much control Reckless has over the mid lane, they secure the tier 2 mid. They will also secure the tier 1 top, and while Schalke are doing what they can to get back into the game, they end up just losing even more.
Right, the correct call is to split the map against Fnatic, but they're not going to be able to do that again, because in 1 minute, Baron Nashor spawns onto the Rift. The second you commit 3 people to bot lane, well, Fnatic instantly pick up the objective and the game is over. So now they must set up division. They must not get destroyed in their own jungle.
And this becomes the next best bet for Schalke, being able to challenge the ban, being able to maybe get a steal or maybe get a successful team fight around this objective. If they can do that, then Schalke have an opportunity to come back into the game. But Fnatic will do their due diligence when it comes to setting up the objective and pushing in these waves. So it's definitely not going to be an easy option for Schalke.
Absolutely not. Trick will be heavily relying on that flash as well as the ultimate to get into the pit. It will be difficult to stop him, but with the amount of damage that Reckless is doing, it's only going to go from bad to worse as we get later in the game.
They're looking for Abadage.
Broxah trying to lay down a little bit of pressure. The sweeper is there, where he's going to put a little belong. The dash out will come through. Broxah is just going to be happy with that cooldown and will walk away, looking instead for a bit more vision.
So this is Fnatic's first pass on the Baron area, using their sweepers, hovering 5 members around the area for quite a long time. Now it's about moving inside the enemy jungle. Remove the control wards, put down vision of your own, so that Schalke can't even get into their own jungle, let alone that river. They see multiple members down bottom side, so now they have the option, just collapse with the GP ult.
Cannon Barrage, Aatrox immediately going to use the ult. The extra movement speed will ferry him away to safety, but nothing actually going to happen there. Not sure if they're happy with that use of the cooldown, trading 1-for-1 on ultimates.
So one thing looking at Fnatic's comp is that it's kind of hard to force engagements, right? When you think about it, you can play off of bindings, right, and play off of picks like that, or Broxa committing the flash in with the Cannon Barrage to slow people down. Trick does not want to be on this side of the wall.
Odoamne might be baited into the fight here, thinking that they've caught out Broxa, but there are so many members of Fnatic waiting in the wings. The entire team collapsing onto the bottom side. The TP now coming in from Upset. Nemesis potentially caught out. Infernal Chains will not connect. Nemesis locked up. The third knock will connect. Upset now going in. They definitely want to kill the Karma. The shielding still coming through, but the Ignite is there. No, not quite enough. The Black Shield Trick will grab yet another kill. 4 for the Olaf in the jungle, and Schalke walking away wounded here. Will Fnatic look for the re-engage? There's the Predator now coming out.
So Fnatic could look to try and force the fight once again. Bwipo, I believe he did use his teleport, but I think it was interrupted by the likes of Abadage. We'll get a little bit more information on that in a second, but I have a lot of question marks around what Fnatic's game plan was here. It feels like that they wanted to be able to challenge and contest for the Ocean Drake, but Baron was prime for the taking. They had full vision set up towards the top side of the map. Here we do. Thank you very much, observers. Yeah, the interrupt does come through from the chains, but I'm surprised that Fnatic committed so hard towards the bot side of the map when they could have just traded Drake for a Baron. They could have forced teleports out from Schalke, and I feel like that there was an opportunity there for Fnatic to just play towards the top side rather than come down and try and fight for this Drake, which honestly they weren't in a position to truly contest.
And even now, Fnatic spending a lot of time pushing out that bottom lane turret, spending time hitting on that tower. It gives room for Schalke now to respond. While this Drake is being taken down, you see all of Schalke moving up towards that topside river. They can put down the vision they critically need because of the extra time Fnatic spent sort of wasting time around that bottom side of the map.
And it's important to note that yes, Fnatic do walk away with the objective at the end of the day. They still feel more comfortable, but it's important about thinking about what they traded in exchange for that. And if we only look back a few minutes, this area was all of Fnatic's territory, and now Schalke have an opportunity to come back and potentially fight for that Baron, which they desperately need to win.
And it's one of those situations you reflect on when your gold lead isn't quite as large and wonder if it's the right choice. But they have built a significant gold lead. They have the luxury of making maybe those less than 100% optimal plays, as Abadage will now try to clear out a bit of vision, and Fnatic do just get to walk in and take away all the vision that Schalke spent time building up.
So looking at Schalke's power right now, Trick actually has the second most gold in this game behind Reckless, which is not ideal for your composition at 20 minutes in the game when it's the Olaf, the full AD champion, that really struggles in these 5-5s. They need to be able to split up these fights, use Ignar on a flank to draw attention away from the Fnatic backline, while Trick then has the ability to go forward and train someone down, because you need to get like 1 or 2 kills with Trick before he falls. Otherwise, the team fight is not going to be easy for Schalke.
So we see Trick continuing to hover around Odoamne. However, Bwipo has full information on where he is. This means that there is a large commitment towards the bot side. This is the play we wanted to see from Fnatic. Force the Baron, force Schalke to come and fight you. You know where 2 members of Schalke are, so you can force a variable fight, but they're immediately going to disengage.
You're going to pull back with the blue trinket. Trick now moving in onto Bwipo, but has to be careful. Will he be forced to use the ultimate to run away now? Hasn't committed anything else, now trying to retreat, but Brox is in the way, and he's going to need to use the ultimate almost immediately, getting into the extra movement speed, now forced to use it out, but he's going to get burned down. The jungler will go down in the end, and that means Fnatic can set their sights on the Baron.
Schalke were tracking Bwipo, trying to knock him out, but it's Fnatic that can turn around immediately and get that kill. Hylissang did go back to base, so it's a little bit slow to approach this pit, but Trick is still going to be dead for another 30 seconds.
Now Odoamne, though, trying to get something back, going toe-to-toe with Bwipo. Extra healing, will it be enough? Bwipo not nearly as scared as he was in the early laning phase, now chasing him down, resetting on the trial by fire with every single barrel he's going to proc. Abadage using the mobility to try to clear some vision, but Schalke just grasping at straws to find a way back into this game.
So Bwipo has now picked up the Executioner's Calling, which is very crucial for the side lane matchup. Hylissang wants it!
The flash in, the support Morgana so aggressive, but Odoamne waiting for the Ignite to fall off before he commits any abilities, hoping to deny the healing, but the binding connects. That means Odoamne will fall in the end. Bwipo going to grab that one. The rest of Fnatic immediately start the Baron. Abadage can't leap in quite confidently, trying to stop this one. Goes forward, goes back, will not get locked down, and Fnatic will pull off the Baron in the end.
With 2 members in the bot lane, Fnatic cannot stay on that Baron. They got the kill, they got what they wanted. They're going to continue to pump gold into their carries on this team. They're just waiting for the proper team fight. I feel like it's on the horizon now for them when they want to pull the trigger. As Schalke funnel their way into the river, that's what they're looking for.
It makes me wonder if Fnatic is just afraid of giving Schalke that opportune team fight. Because every time we see them in a great position to start the Baron, maybe turn and fight, perhaps it's Fnatic not feeling that they could guarantee a win. So instead, they want to buy a little bit more time, look for a couple more picks, try and force some teleports out from the side of Schalke and wait for the perfect conditions before starting this objective, because it does feel like they are a little hesitant, even though they have a lot of fantastic setup around it.
And when you think about it, a lot of analysts predict the importance of momentum in this first game. Fnatic looking for a bit of that momentum themselves. They set their sights on Ignar, cut him through him, wait for the ult to fall away. Don't even need to. They'll take him out. Whippo now on a killing spree.
And without All-Star, there's no one to actually face check and put down vision for Schalke. But Fnatic, this is their moment to try and find the turn. They have all of their ultimates up and ready, and there is nothing Schalke can do against it.
Absolutely not. The Baron will go down uncontested. With Ignar dead, their CC, their engage is dead, and they will not take another risk here. Fnatic securing the Baron in the end. 25 minutes into the game, a 7K gold lead.
And this was the perfect setup that Fnatic was waiting for. They found that pick in the top side jungle. Now they're looking for another one.
Walking straight into the mid lane. Whippo debating about the recall. They can't just push out here. Upset, maybe hoping to find something. Looking to catch somebody off guard. Find a window of opportunity. Abadage covering. Fnatic will not take the bait, though. Don't have information on where the rest of the team is, and Fnatic will just back off and start to farm up as Reckless works towards that 4th item.
Fnatic are letting a huge wave pushing down towards this bottom side. It seems like the Baron Siege is going to be a mid-top split right now with Whippo up on the top side of the map. Few seconds left before his teleport does go ahead and respawn. And what's so strong about this is that they can look for the collapse. If anyone goes top lane to try and defend that tower up against Whippo, Fnatic have this easy route where they can come behind that player, instantly get the kill, and continue the siege forward.
The Cannon Barrage just make sure that Odoamne cannot get anything done on the bottom side of the map in the meantime. Fnatic just walking to this tower. They are not going to be contested here. Abadage throwing out a bit of poke, but it will not matter. One inhib tower down in an instant. They're not going to commit for the inhib instead. Whippo now setting his sights on the top side. Abadage now going forward. This is not the fight that they want to pick. Just looking to find an isolated member. The long force to retreat, but Brox is on the flank. Ignar has to debate. Where does his CC go? Upset though, might just find the damage. That's the shutdown. He's so incredibly low. Reckless hasn't even entered the fight yet. Trick just gets deleted. The Xayah does so much damage. And Brox sees blood in the water. He knows it's his opportunity. Ignar will not let it happen though. Punts him right out of the fight. Reckless won't find a kill, but Upset just might. Nemesis now on the retreat. Both sides pulling off. It's a scattered fight. Fnatic though keeping their eyes on the prize. Eyes set on the base of Schalke.
Fnatic get the flank and they win the fight. Upset cannot get back into the base. The teleports are coming through now for Fnatic, who already have the mid lane inhibitor. Top lane to fall after it, and now the Nexus is the only thing left for them to take.
Poor Baron and powered cannon creeps. This has to be it. Fnatic barreling into the base. They take down 1, they take down 2. Schalke, that's all she wrote. In game 1, Fnatic show up and they smash the competition.
Strong game 1 performance coming out from Fnatic. I feel like that they adapted well in the draft. They were able to get themselves the gangplank in the end, and it felt like that they had a lot of safe laners that made it very difficult for Trick to try and attack the early game, try and snowball, and allow Schalke to transition from an early to mid game point, which is usually where they thrive, in that mid game, forcing those team fights. But as we saw, whenever you can't force a team fight when you're 3-4K gold down.
And look, as great as Trick's scoreline looks, this was not the successful early game that they were hoping for with the Olaf. He picked up a lot of cleanup kills on a lot of the bad fights for the side of Schalke. Fnatic and Broxah specifically showing up everywhere he needed to, getting those early kills, matching the Olaf as we entered the mid game. We talked about junglers being the crux, and it feels like Broxah just outperformed.
It definitely happened, and in this game, it felt like Schalke was the team that felt like everything was falling apart for them. Mid lane getting pushed in, not getting a lead there, bot lane down 30 CS. So they said, what do we do best? It's team fight. They went to the Herald with a team fight in mind, and Fnatic beat them and beat them badly at their own game, putting the match into an almost irrecoverable position.
And overall, you just have to wonder what comes up next for the side of Schalke. When they're losing out in teamfights, an area we expected them to be strong in this series, maybe the Xayah has to be taken off the board. Maybe they can't be quite as confident in a pick like the Olaf. Trick, historically most successful when he has CC, when he can start a fight on his terms. Olaf, when you fall behind, you're just chasing him.
I mean, I do feel that Schalke could have looked to attack the top lane more in the early game. We saw many times Whippo being put in a position where he could have been dived. He lost his flash very early on. It's very easy for the LeBlanc to just sacrifice some waves in mid and then look for a roam. They could have just traded sides of the map and tried to enable Odoamne, but Schalke don't play through top lane. Schalke never try to enable their top lane, so instead they committed to their mid lane, to the bot side of the map, which was just too difficult for them. And we saw them attempt ganks, and every single one was a fail.
I mean, we did see Trick go top lane that one moment, right? But it was the timing that was off on that. The coordination between them calling this massive wave is pushing in, and I can find a gank. Well, that communication just wasn't happening. they dropped the ball right there. They need to rethink things coming back into Game 2 against Fnatic, because Fnatic, I felt like, did not show all that much and are in a great position to just cruise through the series.
And overall, just a very dominant first game coming out for the side of Fnatic. They opened the semifinal with a win, and for more, here's Shox and crew.
Very much, Dracos. What a resounding win from Fnatic in Game 1. We asked a lot of questions pertaining to how Fnatic would feel coming into this best-of-5, and if they would have shaken off the jitters and the disappointment after the reverse sweep versus G2 Esports. And I think the answer is a resounding, they don't care. They just ran over Schalke.
Yeah, this actually felt like a very easy game for Fnatic to play.
That's because it was.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. But even for us, it felt like an easy game to play. We didn't even have to play
We
it,
didn't
you know?
even play, and it looked like an easy game to play. So let's start with the picks and bans then. A lot of interesting things. Also, first picks, for instance, in the mid lane, that LeBlanc for Abadaga. That was quite surprising to me. Yamato, what stood out for you?
I think the craziest part is when you think of Schalke, you think about the team that plays around bottom lane. They're put in a very bad bot lane matchup, and they have this LeBlanc, the biggest 2v2 mid lane champion in the game, that they just couldn't play around. They've never played around mid the entire split, and they decided on the biggest stage of their life, boom, let's play 2v2 mid, and it didn't work out.
So here's the thing that's never going to happen again. That is never going to be a priority pick again for Odo to take the Aatrox. Like, it's very clear what Schalke's game plan are. You ban the Twisted Fate, the Yuumi, the Rakan. That's basically all the comfort picks for Fnatic that they have dominated with, and then you pick away the Aatrox. You don't have to ban it. You just deny pick it. But the problem is you trade that for a Xayah. And I think the upset's going to be like, no. If Xayah is left open, I get the priority pick now. Odo, you are back to tank duty. You are back to team fight duty.
I mean, just to add to the point, if you look at LeBlanc, Olaf, and Aatrox, to me, very focused on mechanical prowess, very focused on great skirmishing. You want to play through the top side of the map, and you can snowball it very hard, like LeBlanc versus Karma. Karma loses Flash, Olaf just perma-ganks. Like, these things can really happen for you if you have players who like to play that style and who shine in that style. That's not the case for Schalke. There's a reason Odo Amne was successful on Kennen and Rumble, big AoE teamfight mages, and not necessarily like super focused on hard winning lane on a skirmish-focused champ like Aatrox. Not flaming his mechanics specifically,
of course not.
but it's just not the style Schalke plays.
So what I'm taking away from the desk here and from your comments is that this wasn't a draft that showed or made Schalke's strengths stronger. If anything, they went against what usually works for them.
It was about disabling Fnatic versus empowering their own style.
Yeah, exactly. And that didn't work out in this first game.
Right.
But the question is, of course, would it have gone differently if some things in the game would have gone differently? And the first thing we need to talk about then is Reckless getting 4 kills very early and it all getting kicked off by that Herald fight.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you pick this kind of draft, I don't mind it as long as you change your style to actually play towards, these solo laners and not just team fighting. Schalke loves to go for early Herald. The problem is they have no mid priority at this point. Fnatic are here to actually fight them instantly, and you end up in a very, very bad situation if you are Schalke, where you've been dealing with the Herald, so you're kind of split up and out of position with Odamne coming in from the flank, but he's obviously not able to tank anything.
It also speaks to the previous point about champions. Usually if you want to force on Riptide, no matter what, which Schalke love to do, you have the Rumble, you have the Sejuani, you have the Alistar, and you just have this composition that have very strong ultimates, and you just want to force fights at no point in the game.
Yeah, and imagine if that flank from Odamne was a Kennen, right? Who comes in from the back, massive ulti onto 5 members of Fnatic. It's a whole different story. So that's why we keep talking about it. We want to see the team fighting Schalke, not the skirmish-focused Schalke.
And then just to echo what the casters were talking about, you see this guy on your screen right there. He picks up, what, 3 kills in that team fight, and then suddenly you have a Xayah who's running around with an item and a half advantage. It was basically GG go next.
Yeah, GG go next, and that's also what I heard when you were watching the game here with me. You said, well, hey, he's got 4 kills, don't give him those kills because the game is over. We did have positives coming out of the side of Schalke 04 though until that point, and even after that point, Trick was very fed on his Olaf, and he was making moves. So why did that not translate into anything else, or why could it not translate into anything else?
I mean, Trick did kind of have his moment to shine, because ultimately if you have a fed Olaf, he can do exactly that. He can run into the backline, and even Xayah can only delay the inevitable, but you need more good things to happen, and the gold wasn't being spread around.
I love to see Olaf, who gets his solo laners fed. I don't think him getting a lot of kills typically does a whole lot for scaling, at least. He doesn't really do anything in late game teamfights, but it is a very Schalke-focused analyst desk right now, because that's where we saw the new things, the differences. Schalke actually ended up picking a skirmish comp, play for teamfights, and Fnatic played very standard.
Can I just jump in? Because that is exactly what we talked about in Ready Check before this match. If Fnatic play how they like to play with those with that heavy focus on the early game skirmishes, they would run over Schalke. And the question was if Schalke was content enough to play their own style and bring it to them in the team fights and withstand that early pressure. It seems to be, Yamato, that the choice was of Schalke in game one. We're gonna try something different because we're not sure how to approach this.
For sure. When I think of these two teams, what's so strange, what Fnatic really showcased in this game was that I feel like Fnatic just showed that they are a better version of the best version of Schalke that we've seen. They played around bottom, they had Bwipo soaking as much pressure as possible, didn't really matter, he's playing his GP, and this is a classic Fnatic composition that if we think of the good old days when Bwipo was on GP, he's tagging up the ganks and just playing around reckless. This is a recipe that works, and I think as long as I think of these two matchups, I think just Schalke's baby Fnatic.
And that's what's so scary is the fact that, you know, throughout the summer split, Fnatic have been levied with this criticism of they have a small champion pool, that they can only do one thing. But they show exactly what you're saying. Just go back to 2018. They put Reckless on a traditional ADC. Yes, they were still playing side lanes. It wasn't exactly a 5v5 composition, but they showed the flexibility and the versatility in their draft to move the Karma, the Morgana around, to make sure that they could find these matchups and just beat Schalke at their own game.
Yeah.
As we take a look at this final fight one more time, let's start to think about how Schalke can adapt going into the next game. As said, nothing is lost yet. You have to win 3, and Fnatic knows that very well in terms of moving on. So what are we looking at in terms of approach for Schalke in the next game, knowing that they chose red side?
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, I mean, they should
That's
pick
super
red side.
important. They just, legitimately, they need to copy what Fnatic did. Make sure they have a better bot lane matchup, make sure that there's a tank in the jungle, make sure there's a top lane that just wants to soak, enjoy his rumble ults and cannon ults, and just play around bottom heavily. Give the Rakan away, counter the Rakan, and there we have a game.
My scary thing is that I think that first pick on blue side means much more for Fnatic because when they do get these comfort picks just across their members, they can do more with it. You know, if Bwipo gets his Aatrox, if Reckless gets something like the Xayah, versus for Schalke, you're looking at kind of almost even smaller champion pools of kind of these really high effective champions that you want to see come out. Things like the Sejuani, things like the Xayah themselves.
But you're really good at playing those champions, and there are enough of them. You can't ban all of them if you are a Fnatic. In this game, it was Kiana, Sylas, Akali, so very focused towards Abbedagge in the mid lane, who's played these like assassins who can team fight.
I mean, you say that, but he reached for the 4th pick and he couldn't find it.
And he shouldn't, and that's the whole problem, you know. Also for Trick, you know, he loses all his tank junglers. Like, I think earlier priority on Trick's pick is great, like Yamato can highlight as well. And then I think it doesn't matter if you give something like Aatrox right now. You can play things like Kennen against it. It's perfectly fine because you're not going to fight him all the time in skirmishes. You're going to team fight. If you start a Herald at 10 minutes with this kind of comp, you're doing it wrong. So pick for team fight instead.
Yeah, it looks to me that they wanted to try something different, but the muscle memory of what they do when they have these other compositions, which is go for the important Drakes, go for the Rift Herald, go for the objectives, was still there. So you just want to see them go back to what has worked for them until now.
Yes, because it was very clear that even if they picked a different style, they played like it was something different. You know, normally if you have this, you want to win the top lane, and that's how you get Herald without fighting, but they ended up setting up a team fight without a comp for it.
Some work to do for Dylan Falco and Schalke 04 because it was Fnatic that came out swinging in the semifinal and have their eyes set on that rematch with G2. We're not there yet. We'll find out what happens in game 2.
Careful, LeBlanc locked up for a decent amount of time now, needs to make his way out. Abbedagge invisible, but the Predator is there. He's spotted the real target. Abbedagge now walking away. He finds him in the end.
Aatrox, no flash, Aatrox, no flash. Can we go? Aatrox, no flash, no flash, no flash.
We win.
Nice, nice, guys. Nice, really nice. Left of you. I'm pushing up mid.
Has to debate. Where does his CC go? Upset though, might just find the damage. That's the shutdown. He's so incredibly low. Reckless hasn't even entered the fight yet. Trick just gets deleted. The Xayah does so much damage. It has to be it. Fnatic barreling into the base. They take down 1. They take down 2. Schalke, that's all she wrote. In game 1, Fnatic jump.
Hi, I'm Pringles. I'm Chips. Wait, are we doing this Mac versus PC thing? Guess so. Then I am the Mac of the Chips. Cool.
Then I'm the PC. Perfect for gaming. Easy to eat, no greasy hands.
Wait, I'm into gaming too.
You mean like into the keyboard crumbled?
No.
Or into the TeamSpeak rustling?
No, I'm into that noob frag LOL thing.
Well then, GG, my friend.
No, we're doing the clap first.
Answering questions in Finnish. Hello, Pedro.
Oh, well, thank you very much. How are the children?
It's time for our question of the day. What would be your dream Medivedi intro?
What about fireworks?
But what about a choir?
Zipline.
Or a choir?
What about parachutes?
But a choir!
Someone that's afraid to let go. You decide if you're ever gonna let me know. Suicide if you ever try to let go. I'm sad, I know you. I'm sad, I know you. Who am I? Someone that's afraid to let go. You decide if you're ever gonna let me know. Suicide if you ever try to let go. I'm sad, I know you. I'm sad, I know you. Someone that's
Welcome back to beautiful Athens, Greece, host of the LEC Summer Final, as we gear up and get ready for Game 2 in our semifinal series between Schalke 04 and Fnatic. And Fnatic, of course, coming out swinging in Game 1 as we get right into Champion Select for Game 2.
Fnatic came out strong business as usual. For Schalke, we don't know. It didn't feel like the strongest foot to put forward here for their squad. Of course, they're going to be switching it over to the red side in this game. We'll see what changes come along with it.
Let's be honest, and we were not massive fans of Schalke's Game 1 draft. It felt like that they didn't have priority mid, they didn't have priority bot, they drafted Olaf, and the one lane they did have priority over, this team is not very good at playing around. So we need to see some big changes coming into Game 2.
It's exactly right, Vedius. I think the Sejuani 4 Trick is a super good champion, something that's definitely in his wheelhouse. They waited for jungle pick, did not opt into that in their first 3. I would like to see them pick that up so it doesn't get banned away in the second phase.
Yeah, and now we are seeing Schalke play on the red side with the Yuumi Rakan ban staying as is. The question is, will they continue to ban the Twisted Fate, or will they look to take the Aatrox off the board, or perhaps Schalke is saying we have some kind of answer for it, because we know that Fnatic will priority pick it, but they may even go for the Akali, given that it is now up and available.
It is possible that they do give the Twisted Fate over to Fnatic as well. I think TF as a pick is very good at dominating when you look at playing around these side lanes, but for Schalke, a team that loves to funnel pressure through that middle lane, loves to have Trick team up with Abadage, I think that could have been an option for them. Of course, now with the Akali and Aatrox both open, the Aatrox is the one that Fnatic fans will all want to see, but the Akali worked wonders for them last week as well.
And Whippo with a big smile on his face, you know he wants to lock in that Aatrox for himself. See if it's what he's going to go for, but he takes the Akali away instead, and you know if the Aatrox was locked in, Schalke will responded with an Akali and a Sejuani of their own.
Now, the Akali is an interesting champion for Fnatic because it's not something they played a whole lot of in the regular season. And even last week, when Nemesis played it and popped off early on, it wasn't enough to pull away with a win in game number 3. I feel like Fnatic as a team are not as good at enabling their Nemesis to be the one making plays in team fights. When he's on a Corki or Twist Fate, that's when he is at his most fearsome, but the Akali is something he needs to grow more into.
Well, it could very well be an Akali up towards the top lane. We did see it come out from Whippo in that game 5 versus G2. Unfortunately, Whippo didn't really get to play the game very much. We'll see if that changes, because the immediate answer from Schalke is going to be the Xayah for upset and the Aatrox. They do not want to give Fnatic both Akali and Aatrox together. And remember that Akali is considered a pretty solid matchup into the Aatrox as well, so Fnatic could just look to match wherever this Aatrox ends up going.
And Nemesis playing with our heart a bit, hovering through some potential counter picks to the Aatrox on the top side of the map. Remember, the Akali as well as the Karma are flex picks, but the Pyke, how could we forget the Pyke?
It's the Karma Pyke bot lane!
It's the Hylissang Pyke up here in Athens.
If game 1 was all about Reckless and him carrying his team to the finish line, game 2 is about Hylissang and his signature Pyke. The best Pyke in Europe, so talented on this champion, absolutely crushes you. In the 2v2 on the roam, you must look out for him.
Now's the response going to be the Morgana. Well, going to be interesting from the side of Ignar what exactly will he opt for. Instead, looks like he wants to match playmaking with playmaking. Will opt to go for the Thresh here.
Thresh can be a good option into the Pyke, you know, if he ever dives into, there's a lot of CC to try and lock him down there. When you're trying to play offensively as a Thresh, not going to be as effective. Now, the one thing he does bring is the Lantern, which can be super effective at getting your AD carry out of dodge. Like the Xayah, she can pop up into the Feather Storm at the start to dodge away from the initial CC, and then scoot on out of there with the Lantern to follow it up.
Now, we do see Schalke banning away the Gangplank still. They're not entirely sure where this Akali is going, but I feel like Fnatic right now is edging more towards the Akali top lane, which means that I would like to see a Corki ban come out from the side of Schalke right now, because if Fnatic were to draft anything in the mid, I feel like that would be the safest and easiest option for them to go for.
I'm also very surprised to see Fnatic banning away the Kled.
Are you after the last time?
I really am here, because Jarvan, Sejuani both still up. If they leave Sejuani and put that in Trick's hands, that would be a big head scratch for me with Aatrox already locked in along.
But the Olaf now, interestingly enough, going to be banned away from the side of Schalke. The Skarner now, they will finally take away one of Trick's champions, but it looks like Fnatic are not scared of the Sejuani whatsoever. They've literally put it into his hands. They've banned his other options, given him the one champion that he has played the most this entire year.
Suggests that Fnatic kind of want him to do it. If we think about it, Skarner is definitely a much bigger threat against the likes of an Akali, and locking champions down like the Pyke and the Karma is extremely difficult to deal with as well. So they're saying, you know what, we'll just tank, we'll dodge, we'll avoid your hard engage with the Sejuani, and you know what, we're happy to play into it.
I like it. Going back to the Lee Sin for Broxa, Corki, I think, a very smart follow-up here, as you were mentioning earlier, for Nemesis when you don't have a marksman in the bot lane, can work wonders. And this is something that Fnatic did so much in the regular season. Lee Sin in the jungle to make plays alongside a lane-making support. That should just be Karma back in the mid lane for Nemesis here. Ezreal going to be the pick for Reckless.
I love how we're surprised by that. Like, wow, Fnatic not putting Reckless on his signature Karma.
Legendary 80 carry Reckless not playing Karma?
That is so strange.
But I do love the Ezreal here because it has so much safety that if the Pyke wants to roam, it doesn't really cost me anything. You can always CS under tower, and it doesn't really lose you too much.
I think specifically it is an answer to the likes of the Thresh Hook, the Sejuani ultimate as well, the bonus safety you get on a pick like that as opposed to the Karma. But now a Rumble comes in on the other side for Schalke, which is a little curious for me. Yes, magic damage in the top lane, that's absolutely what they want, but when there is a Karma on the other side, presumably building AP, giving you that AoE teamfight shield, it can do so much to mitigate the damage of the Equalizer.
I would imagine the reason why Schalke have gone for this, number one, it fits their style of trying to force teamfights. We can definitely see how Schalke have drafted very much a teamfight comp. They do have some pick elements to it with regards to things like the Thresh, but ultimately there's a lot of crowd control, a lot of AoE damage, and I do think that Rumble is a very effective pick into the Akali as well. Something we have to bear in mind once we get into the game is Odoamne may just move lanes to wherever Nemesis is to try and grant the most favorable matchup, to try and put some pressure down onto Nemesis with the Akali.
So who are we looking at here in the early game? Obviously Trick, much more comfort in his hands with 20, but he is going toe-to-toe with Brox's Lee Sin. Where do both teams need to focus their attention?
I think we have to be most concerned in this top lane for Bwipo, presumably pushing in the early game. If Trick puts his attention up there, which didn't work for them necessarily in game one, there is room with a melee champion alongside that Sejuani and the slows to just chase that Karma down the lane and get some early kills.
Absolutely a good option. And on the opposite side, see what Fnatic can bring to the table. The Pyke, the Lee Sin, so many iconic picks for the Fnatic lineup. Will it be enough to get them off to a 2-0 start in this series? The series we've heard could all be about momentum. Schalke looking crushed after game one, but potentially the chance to recover as we hear more from Schalke's coach and Lord.
Dylan, the Karma pick seemed problematic in game one, so why did you let it through again?
I think the Karma pick is only really good when their bot lane is doing really good in the game or ahead, and because of some draft errors and play errors, their bot was very strong, so I think in this game it'll be better.
Can you explain why? A little bit different?
Draft, for sure, and then we also took a really bad fight at the Rift Herald.
Well, I wish you good luck on this one, and back to you guys.
And here we are. Fnatic versus Schalke. Reckless going to the mid lane gets me really hopeful for some really crazy swaps, but
He just wants Klepto stacks. You calm down there, buddy.
Let me believe. All right, I'm ready for insanity. I'm already surprised he's not playing the Karma.
I mean, I think the biggest surprise here is going to be the double sweeper coming out of Fnatic at level 1 from both mid lane and bottom lane. Could just be that they want the extra experience to take over to level 2 faster, but also maybe room to just sweep away vision inside the river and give Broxus some freedom to make some level 2 plays.
So I'm keeping my eyes on Odoamne. We talked in the draft about how he may look to match up against the Akali, but for now it seems that he's going to be sticking to the top side of the map. So Odoamne will be playing into the Karma early levels, Abadage will be playing into Nemesis on the Akali as well, and I feel like that this does give Fnatic some pretty favorable matchups in terms of their 2 solo lane.
So if we look at the map right now, we just saw some sweepers being cleared out in that bottom side of the jungle around here and here, down on that bottom side river for Fnatic. Of course, using those sweepers early, we're going to look at Broxton. Probably ward hop over this wall at level 2. He just used his W, so can't do that, but path inside that Schalke blue buff side of the jungle.
Oh, he's going straight to bot lane.
Could just do that too. That's a bold call though.
TF to 740 will get hooked back. Aftershock proc, but the Lantern comes out. Smart level up from Ignar to take that one, but still has to be careful. Broxton now moving into the brush.
Not spotted.
It could be everything. He has Lantern. Ward has been laid down. Do they know he's here? They know that the ward is cleared out. They have to respect the potential for the Lee Sin to come in, but if this hooks lands, it could be disaster. It will miss. Ignar gets the sidestep. It will not connect in the end.
Brox just committed so much time there, so he needs Fnatic's bot lane to have this push lead to be able to back him up inside the jungle. Yes, Brox is strong at level 2 on this Lee Sin, but Trick is already here and has the smite. It will be a fight.
Ignore now stepping up to support, but only the Lantern for the Thresh. Remember, no threat of follow-up CC. Hylissang here, though, and the level 2 as well. The Pike could be massive. Hook is going to go in, is going to connect on Ignore. Abadagi now coming over the wall. Fnatic, have they bitten off more than they can do? They set their eyes on Trick, but he flashes out to safety. Broxa goes in! First blood, the Sonic Wave, but Abadagi now caught in the midst of the Fnatic beat grinder once again. And a double kill drop for Broxa. Another hook! Ignore! Helios, the Lantern, he can't play them back to safety, but he's got just enough health to survive for now.
And Fnatic, 3 minutes into the game, walk away with 2 kills and a 1.5k gold advantage already. You can hear the crowd rallying behind Fnatic, who look dominant in this early game.
That is Fnatic's 6th man as Athens comes alive for 2 kills in the early game. It was a huge investment for Broxa, but it pays off in the end as we take a look at this Alienware replay.
Absolutely everything worked out. Level lead for that bottom lane based off the push and also the sweeper ward kill at level 1. Broxa gets the smite. The bot lane from Schalke is still level 1, so Broxa lands that Q to follow Trick over the wall. That's going to be first blood. Then Abadagi had already committed into the fight. There is nowhere for him to go. This level 1 plan from Fnatic came together, clearing away the wards inside of the river and knowing they were ready to fight Schalke inside their own jungle.
Oh, it might just happen again, but Upset, very confident man, not scared of Hylissang walking out of that brush there, will not try to sidestep. So has to be careful though. Hylissang continuing to look scary on this Pike.
So Fnatic have had a pretty solid start to the game.
You could say, yeah, I would say so.
Ooh, Hylissang getting a little bit over eager there in the 2 versus 2. You can see a pretty big health advantage on the side of Schalke that he does have to respect. But the big thing is the difference in levels now between the 2 junglers. We talk all the time about how against Fnatic, you have to be very careful about giving them an early game lead, because as they showcased versus G2 last week, the moment this team gets an early game lead, they know exactly what to do with it, and they snowball games incredibly quickly. For Schalke, the best thing they can do is try and stall things out and then play through the mid game, where they actually have a lot of strong champions and easy ways to force fights. Now that they're at this deficit, a lot more pressure falls on Trick to be able to get some of his laners back into the game, because if this deficit continues to snowball, Fnatic are not going to give Schalke room to breathe in the mid game.
And specifically when we're looking at how does Fnatic move this game forward, it's through this middle lane. Broxa, of course, giving Nemesis attention now to try and help him push out this wave. But when we talk about the mid lane 2 versus 2, this is the most important matchup on the entire map at the moment, because with champions like Akali and Aatrox, they want to run around, they want to fight you inside the river. So if you have priority, if you have the winning duel matchup, you always get to contest Scuttle Crabs, you always get to move to side lanes first. And because Broxa got the first 2 kills in the bottom lane, we're going to be looking at like a 7 or 8 minute warrior enchant for him. That's going to be so huge and basically insta-win any fight around mid for Fnatic.
So much pressure now on Schalke to survive, as you mentioned, but this isn't the traditional survive comp. It's not a control mage in the mid lane to clear out all the waves. So they cannot afford to get any further down into the hole, down into a deficit. Broxa, just like last game, total control over this early drag. He's going to make sure that his laners are that much more comfortable.
Picking up that early Drake, utilizing early pressure very well. Nemesis doing an early TP back to mid. We'll pick up that Vamp Scepter and start roaming down. He's now hit that level 6 mark, and they're pinging around the bot side of the map. I think going for a dive this early on would be quite risky, so for now he's just going to assist. Maybe look for a pick onto Ignore.
Might be a lot risky unless Ignore gets caught out by the hook over the wall, baited and instantly destroyed. They're going to give the kill over to Reckless. 300 quick gold for the Fnatic AD carry.
Beautiful hook coming out of Hylissang right there. Fnatic have painted targets on every single member of Schalke's back in this game, and they continue to find kill after kill after kill. This one, it looks like it's blind. He just guessed it.
And that is a disgusting play from Hylissang. I feel like there had to have been some information that he walked into that brush, but Hylissang with a perfect read to pick up the 3rd kill for Fnatic.
It's cheating! You're not allowed to do that!
It looks like he has wall hacks on right now.
The play. You can't just backban someone on the fly.
Oh
here.
man, great predictions there from Hylissang. Gets Fnatic another kill in the early game, and now they're sitting at an over 2k gold advantage, and it's all come off the back of Broxa, someone who's definitely had a bit of an up and down split, but he performed well against G2 last week, and he's performing very well once again against the likes of Schalke.
And we talked about the pressure on Trick, and of course the success of the picks that would come out. Pike for Hylissang so dominant, but Trick didn't even get a chance to play the game. At level 2, the game was already over for him. He's put at such a deficit. Now he's playing catch up the entire time, and it's not just him anymore. with the entire Schalke lineup.
And we just noticed there, once again, the Fnatic Classic, the 3 members mid lane. We saw Broxah and Hylissang working with Nemesis to help him gain priority. And again, notice that they don't do a huge amount with it. It's just a simple ward in the river, but it provides an extra bit of safety for Nemesis. It helps the wave bounce back. And by playing like that, it makes it very safe as well, because there were always 3 people mid, so even if Schalke answer, Fnatic have the people to respond.
And when was the last time you saw a bot lane scared of an Ezreal? That's my question for you. Hiding back, waiting to make sure that they have the information they need. And more importantly, Ender, I want to correct a bit of analysis that you had earlier. You see 3K in Brox's pocket. You told me 8-minute warrior enchant. He got that at 7 minutes.
Okay, I said 7 to 8 minutes, so I was right on the money there.
I heard 8. That's all I'm saying.
I also said mid lane 2v2, incredibly important. Now with level 6 and the warrior enchant, if Trick goes in here, it could get turned around straight in his face.
Keep an eye on the ult. Misexecution in the past has cost Schalke a lot in the mid lane. Abbedagge's biggest enemy is not his nemesis facing him down, but has often been the mid lane tower. The play on the top side continues to extend. Whip of the Karma will be a slow demise for Odoamne if they want to extend. I think they're going to be happy to body block there on the Q. What's the team now retreating? Abbedagge pulling back, still has the ultimate up and available. Fnatic kind of just hovering on the cusp. Hook on the Broxah will connect. They need that shutdown, and they're going to get it in the end. Shutdown on the Broxah. This is the chance to turn. Hylissang now runs for the hill. Ezreal ultimate coming out. Hylissang still on the tree, but you have to keep your eyes on Nemesis in the backline. How many kills can he clean up? Reckless is here now too. Trick is running away. Ignar needs to get Abbedagge out to safety. And he's in the midst of the meat grinder. He's going to grab one. He gets the reset. No! It is Fnatic who are stuck in with Abbedagge. Nemesis now on the retreat. And Schalke find the turn on the play.
Schalke finally find the fight that they need. They want to keep hunting Reckless down.
Flash the play. Ignar waiting for a hook opportunity. It's there as well. He's pulled back into his own territory, but Abbedagge will grab another one. That's 3 kills for the Aatrox.
They had to make that play work. Things started crumbling around that level 2 play inside of their jungle, but it's Trick zeroing in on Broxah, knocking him out immediately, and the rest of Schalke there to follow it up.
But Schalke did something that they very rarely do. They had Ignar roam up to the mid lane very early on and create a 3v3 situation, which means that Fnatic were not guaranteed pressure.
Hold that thought. Sonic wave if it lands, he's dead. Goodbye. Boom! That's a Fed Lee sin. No matter how good your mid laner's doing, you cannot disrespect Broxah in that top lane play.
So Fnatic is able to, at the very least, get a kill back after that exchange, but Schalke responding well to what Fnatic often do. They punish Broxah, who thinks he's safe because he sees 3 people around him and doesn't respect the pick power of Ignar. Ignar now making his way top. Whippo has no flash.
Has to sidestep the hook. That's still going to put him behind in the end, trying to get the movement speed, but Ignar's getting lower and lower. Broxah still here. The flash forward. They trade off more than they can do. The pullback. Whippo's still alive. They're going to kill him. Whippo goes down in the end, but Fnatic still come out on top.
Broxah didn't have to use the ult in that tower dive, so he is there to find the 2 kills. That whole play was initiated by Schalke trying to come up for a potential Herald, but now Hylissang trying his luck in mid.
Abbedagge here. Stun will not connect. Abbedagge desperately trying to retreat. The execute comes down, death from below, and the shutdown right back into the pocket of Hylissang.
This game is starting to get quick, Dracos. It will not slow down now either as Broxah goes in. The Red Spite doing really bad stuff to him.
Trick is just destroying him in this trade. He gets stunned up, locked down, smoked right out of the play. Another shutdown going over, but Hylissang continuing to play on the bottom side.
Yeah, here we go. Hylissang looking for it on towards Odoamne. He has the minions try and block the damage from Reckless. The dive should be coming through, but Ignar's on the way.
Look at the pings in the river. Nemesis is making his way down towards the bot side of the map, but a good equalizer there from Odoamne is going to stop the dive from happening. Fnatic immediately come back out onto the map. They try to force a lot of plays, and this is the style Schalke needs to be able to keep up with. They found one good fight, but that's not enough. You've got to deal with the onslaught of Fnatic's early game.
It was the 1v1 between both junglers that had been going Fnatic's way all series long that Trick came out on top of. Coming out of that play where he solo kills Broxah, he then moves in and picks up the Rift Herald, which was the original objective for Schalke, mind you, swapping just before that 10-minute mark when it did spawn. So this is the initial play from Schalke when they see Whippo, but Whippo's gonna sidestep things nicely as he jukes back for the hook, and then Broxah just waits for the overstep. He still has kick, so he comes in, gets the bonus knockup onto Upset there as well for some big damage to knock down those 2 members.
Taking stock of things now, as you see the picture-in-picture, the Rift Herald has been used. We take a look back at this 1v1.
Then he takes his fight. He went blue smite, not the red, so you're never going to be able to win out in this one. The passive from Sejuani blocking a lot of damage at the start, and now on your screen, Schalke fighting back.
Doing what they can. in the end of the day, it is still a 2K gold lead for Fnatic. They are still very much in the lead. They have double Ocean as well, as Reckless will get even more gold funneled into his back pocket. But you can see on the gold difference graph how chaotic this early game has been, how both teams have been forcing fights. Fnatic getting matched a little bit in the early game by the side of Schalke.
Red team's turret has been destroyed.
So, a couple out of towers have gone down. We're 12 minutes into the game and we're already at 12 kills. Things definitely starting to heat up, but as the map starts to open up more, we start to think about what both these teams are going to be looking to do. And I think it was something that Ender was saying earlier on, where Fnatic's composition wants to get out of the laning phase. They want to try and leverage these skirmishes. Akali, Lee Sin, Pipe, exceptionally strong in these 2v3s, 3v3 situations where they can take advantage of their mobility and outplay potential. Whereas Schalke, they want to start grouping up, but not yet. They're still waiting for those items to come through. They're still waiting for those big spikes before they really start trying to force these engages.
I think Schalke are going to be looking for fights where they have the numbers advantage, because with this composition, you have tons of hard engage, right? With the Sejuani, the Rumble, a lot of long-range, non-committal CC, so they can be very select with how they choose their fights. And even down 4K gold, if they pick the right ones, if they pick the ones where they come in with an extra man, those are the types of fights that they will win.
But they still have to be careful, because even though the fights have been going back and forth and a lot of things have looked even, you can see that the CS tells us a bit of a different story. The laners have been suffering. 26 deficit for Odoamne on the top side, almost 20 in the mid lane for the likes of Abadage, and bot lane not doing too hot either. 132 to the 112 of upset.
Look, Odoamne showing so much respect towards Bwipo as well. He recognizes that there's a wave stacking up, and before Fnatic even move, he's already backing off because he can't see what's going on. Schalke are then using this time to move towards bot lane, and Odoamne smartly, once again, utilizing the Rumble ultimate to save time, has given Schalke this great opportunity to actually set up vision towards the bot side of the map. They've got all this control, allowing them to actually threaten Nemesis and prevent him from pushing up as far as he would like.
Schalke also grouping around that middle lane. You saw Trick inside the Raptor pit wall, threatening and engage. This team loves to fight you just in the open space of the middle lane by utilizing good flanks and a numbers advantage. They will often sack their side lane. Keep your eyes on Odoamne a lot in this game. Just give up on a wave to move on over when his team is ready to fight around mid.
And I just love to see this. Players recognizing where they do not have pressure on the map and just conceding. They don't try to be a hero. They don't try to make miracles happen. They just back away from the tower because they know that the trade will come out and they will be able to catch the wave once the tower comes down. And Nemesis is in a position where that bot tower may not even go down. And notice that Fnatic, after pushing in top, have now started rotating around to mid.
Collapse is there. Hylissang hooked up. It will not be enough at this stage. Bottom lane tower will fall in the end to upset. Hylissang playing with fire a bit there, forced to flash out to safety. A good flank from Ignore, but it will cost him both of his summoner spells. As Bwipo starts to collapse on mid, this could be disastrous for Schalke. They do not have the Rumble ult up and available.
Yeah, Odo just trying to clear away this minion wave right now. Bwipo does so much damage
onto Ignore, leaping forward, but the stopwatch buys him a brief respite. Can he survive in the end? The Sonic Wave will not connect his Abadage on the flank. Bwipo has to flash out to safety, but Abadage is hungry for a little bit more. The ulti comes in, the healing comes in, but meanwhile, Upset will take out Hylissang. Abadage is buying so much time for the rest of his team. Reckless now needs to run, but can continue to press forward. Odoamne is isolated, but in the end, Bwipo will go down. Broxah now has to retreat in enemy territory. I don't think he's going to be able to make this one out. Is he going to try to do it? He cannot in the end. Broxah will get taken down by Trick.
Schalke found a split fight right there, but it was Abadage on one side, and the sustain of Aatrox could not be cut through from Fnatic. The rest of Schalke zeroed in on Hylissang, were able to turn that fight in their favor.
But also, Fnatic, they tried to force that dive when they really didn't need to. It was a really good stopwatch from Ignore. Ooh, we don't have time. Another fight is happening.
Flash out to safety, but Nemesis is just going to walk in, gets the kill, and walks out as well. Wasted TP from the side of Odo.
But Schalke just won such a huge fight, and then they immediately throw it away by giving this kill over to Nemesis. A lot of craziness happening right now as we see this dive. Initially, when it comes out from Bwipo and the stopwatch comes through, Fnatic need to disengage. Bwipo recognized, okay, Abadage is there, I need to try and get out, but notice, Hylissang is stuck in the mid lane, 2 members of Fnatic are pathing up towards top, and they need to be disengaging, they need to try and get out of this situation. Instead, they commit to the fight. Broxah misses a huge Q, which means that they can't commit to that 2 versus 1, but then the Rumble ultimate comes through, and Schalke can continue with this collapse.
There were definitely split calls in that moment from Fnatic, because Hylissang was trying to solo zone away the Sejuani, and then got the Akali to TP there to help him. That was not where the fight actually was for them. They needed to be attacking Abadage and putting all the resources into that top end after Bwipo had gone so deep. Schalke realized that and were able to punish them.
Hook will connect now. Both teams gearing up for the fight. Hook will connect onto Upset as well. Both supports trading, but huge damage onto Upset. Almost all of his health is gone. There goes the ultimate. Upset forced to use his ultimate response. Now has to pull back, now has to retreat. Not a ton of wave clear, but Abadage instead is going to try to get a fight kicked off. Hylissang caught out, leaping back though into the Rumble Equalizer. No one will go down. Meanwhile, Brox is just taking a Drake. Fnatic just buying time for their jungler to get this objective uncontested.
Schalke are not a team that just waits back when you beat them. They will try to contest you. In that moment, yes, Upset had gotten smashed in the mid lane, had been forced to reset, but they knew multiple members of Fnatic were on the Drake, and this is Schalke's home turf in the mid lane. This is where they look to team fight time and time again. If they have a numbers advantage, they will go in.
They're going to be pulled out to safety. Odoamne doing what he can to clear the wave. The hook will not connect on the Whippo. Hylissang using his hook back, but there's so many members now. It's 5v5 right in the midst of this. Odoamne is going to get chunked out. He doesn't even have an ultimate. Brox is going to take him down. 1-for-1 in the end as Karma drops.
So that was a pretty big misplay from Whippo, but Fnatic still able to pull it back at the very least 1-for-1. That mid lane tower is very low as well. They only have 2 members though, so I don't think they want to overcommit. Instead, they're just going to... No, Reckless is looking at this. I feel like he should really consider a reset. But for the time being, he's not going to go for it. Now, what I wanted to say before all this, never mind, we still want to have a chance to say it as we see the fight actually kick off here. So Trick secures the blue buff, Fnatic looking for a potential pick onto Ignar, but all that ends up happening is they find a collapse onto Fnatic instead. Now, Odoamne is just taking a huge amount of damage from Reckless, and Broxah snipes him out, but if it weren't for Reckless making up for that small mistake, that could have just been another free kill going over to Schalke. And what we're seeing now is Schalke close that goal gap that was so big earlier on. They've been able to mitigate a lot of the early pressure that Fnatic have been exerting, and now they're transitioning into the mid game with not that big of a deficit, which means that there's a lot more hope for Schalke in this game compared to what we saw in game 1.
It's good news, especially down in the bottom lane, because I think we have to compare Upset versus Reckless in this game. Upset on the Ezreal, very strong on 2 items. That's where he's at, stacking up the Man Immune, whereas Upset really wants to finish off a rapid fire cannon and then an Infinity Edge on top. So he needs more time before he comes online. So the longer these fights continue to trade roughly even, and Schalke can stick in this game up against Fnatic, Upset is just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger.
And we're also not waiting for an Olaf to fall off on the side of Schalke. This Sejuani that we've seen Trick pick up so many times has been doing work for the Schalke team. We were surprised when Fnatic let it through. We thought we might be wrong when we saw it get put down early, but Schalke have been fighting back at every step of this game. However, Fnatic now turn their sights towards the mid lane tower, and I don't think Schalke can hold this one more time.
Well, Trick is lying in wait for Fnatic to overcommit, which they are not going to do. And notice again, Abadage pushing in the bot side of the map because he feels pretty safe. Good vision control from the side of Schalke, invested in the bot side of the map. Meanwhile, Nemesis doing the same. Both teams creating points of pressure for the opposition to match. While Schalke look to group mids, Whippo stays bot. They want to keep pushing these lanes. So Schalke is sacrificing farm in order to try and force a fight. This is something we often see from Schalke. Bring their side laners to group so they can force a numbers advantage. Unfortunately for them, Fnatic is playing way too defensively. Reckless sitting on the back line. Remember how much mobility that they have as well. Fnatic not giving any opportunities for Schalke to try and force this fight.
This idea of leaving your lane and then roaming to your team to try and find a flank is something both teams love to do, especially you think about players like Ignar, Odoamne, Hylissang on the side of Fnatic. They love to try and find these angles, so it's going to be so crucial to watch which one can actually be unseen on enemy vision.
For me, the biggest difference is that Fnatic will not hemorrhage farm in order to try and force a play, whereas Schalke will. Odoamne is a player who often gets left on the back burner for himself, and if you only look at the difference between the 2 top laners, he's already 50 CS down. Now, of course, that's in part due to how the laning phase has gone, but it's also because of how Schalke choose to play, and we already see him lose 2 farms up towards the top side of the map to try and group down and force this fight, whereas Whippo and Nemesis still gaining all this farm, all these resources, while still being able to group up with their team.
The biggest difference, of course, that Fnatic will full push their lanes before they move to mid lane, whereas Schalke, when their team calls, and I think when it's Trick calling for a fight in the mid lane, Odo's like, he picks up and goes. He doesn't care if his lane is being pushed in, and he's going to lose CS to the tower.
And now Schalke doing what they can to clear out a little bit of vision here. To find Fnatic waiting. Abbedagge goes over the wall. Fnatic now pulling back, respecting the pressure that Schalke has, the man advantage that they have. You can see Nemesis still on the top side, farming up. They cut out Hylissang. They're going to lock him down. They're going to try to take him out, but it's not enough. He flashes out safety. The hook comes through. Will connect on a Reckless, but the QSS is there. A lot of damage, but it is not enough to find a kill. Double TP is now coming in. They got the flank. Ult from Odo has to be crucial. Abbedagge still remains in. They're fighting in the midst of the equalizer. This is massive for Schalke, but they can't turn it. Reckless is still alive. He'll take down Abbedagge in the meantime. The hook comes out. Odoamne will sidestep, and a lantern ferries him right out to safety. Only one down on the side of Schalke.
Fnatic still on the hunt though, and they're so good at chasing you in these longer team fights with the slows from Ezreal, the hooks from Hylissang. You always have to be on guard, and that's why Schalke must give up this tower.
But also look at the side waves. They're perfectly set up for Fnatic to move whichever one they want to. They have a big stack up top, so that's going to be their prerogative, and it's easy for them to convert what was a failed team fight from the side of Schalke into what will likely be two big objectives.
This is the result of this whole conversation we were having earlier. Trick actually wants to keep going forward. I don't know about this.
Has to be careful. Upset's already been chunked out.
TV behind. Odo's coming in on the flank. He does not have the equalizer, but he's here with Abbedagge. They want to force this fight before Fnatic go back.
This could also be the final nail in the coffin if they overcommit here. Hylissang is going in. He's fishing for the hook. He will not find a target. Abbedagge needs to be careful. Infernal Chains will pull back. Broxah potentially fishing for the engage. The Sonic or the ulti just going to come off cooldown. Not quite used yet. Whippo has taken down Ignar. Abbedagge in the midst of the entire team desperately trying to get something. There's no grievous wounds. The ultimate comes out. Can he heal enough? It is not going to happen. There it is. It's so much healing back. Abbedagge desperate to stay alive. The Aatrox still living for now. He's holding on, but Odo goes down in the meantime. Well,
what is going on?
The rest of the team is just dying left and right. Abbedagge will make it out alive, but at what cost?
At the cost of the Baron Dracos right there, because it is Whippo that turns around a 1v3 and finds 2 kills by himself, while Fnatic chase down for another one. They are on the Baron. Yes, Trick is up. Yes, he has Smite, but this is looking all Fnatic.
Desperation plays being made by Schalke. That flank from Odo with no ulti was such a dangerous
They want the
play.
turn!
Desperations. Abbedagge now going in, upset in the midst of the team. He's going to pull back the feathers. Who can he take down? He's buying time. He's waiting. He needs to pull them back soon. He needs to make it out to safety. Ignar now coming in, has the lantern to save, but he can only save one. Upset now on the retreat. Nemesis going in, fishing for that kill. Upset slowed. Upset taken down. Fnatic will grab another one. Hylissang fishing for more. Ignar will not get hooked. Fnatic will back away again.
Fnatic are unrelenting. Fight after fight. The fights never end for this team. They don't rely on massive cooldowns to chase you down. They just want you to walk in, and that's exactly what Schalke keep doing. Schalke had to contest them around the Baron. And yes, they were able to stop Fnatic from picking that one up, but Fnatic continued to rack up money on money on money.
So this is after the initial fight in mid lane, when Schalke tried to set up a TP flank with both Abbedagge and Odoamne, but their ultimates were not available. So they can't commit. Look at how Upset and Trick is just forced out of the fight because of how much health they lose to the poke. Then Ignar, after seeing 2 of his members reset, goes for the all-in against Whippo. Whippo is easily able to find this 1 versus 1 kill, and he's just 1v2ing them. Meanwhile, on the other side, it's a 2 versus 4, and Fnatic are just cleaning up the likes of Schalke, who are doing what they can, and this is why we say it's desperation. Things are falling apart for Schalke. They're trying to find these fights, and they are not able to properly execute. They are not able to find the fights that they want, and it is Fnatic that are coming out on top every time.
Punishing the Hail Mary, but we have to hold that thought because there's another fight now breaking out. The Lantern once again going to save another member of Schalke, but Hylissang is fishing. Can he land the hook? Will not connect.
Abbedagge is bot lane right now without teleport. So Fnatic, even without Baron, are just running straight down this middle lane. Schalke have the engage, so Fnatic will back up. There's the equalizer.
Could be a difference maker. The ultimate will not connect from Trick. That is disastrous. The Lantern pulls him back up to safety, but they get so many cooldowns from Schalke at such little cost.
Abbedagge still on that flank, mind you. Schalke, even down 7,000 gold, they know how to force fights and they keep trying to look it, but you have to land those key cooldowns or you're never going to find it.
Fnatic now need to gain control of a top wave. They don't have teleports available, so they're just going to have to abandon bot for now, but they can set up to threaten Baron. Their main priority should be able to get control of a topside jungle. They have enough control wards to be able to do it, and they want to try and starve Schalke out from the Baron. Then I think their options are to primarily look for picks. They don't need to force a fight. They don't need to try and force the Baron because of how much gold they have. It is way easier to just catch Schalke members trying to clear out vision and punish them for it.
And the damage graph tells us a very distinct story. Whippo, of course, poking out in the top lane. Reckless poking as well, but the lack of damage from the Rumble, from the Xayah, every equalizer forced to clear waves outside of 1 or 2. Not the setup that Schalke were looking for with the mid-game power their composition provides, and now the siege just continues. Fnatic are unrelenting. The shields of the Karma keep the team healthy. The poke of the Ezreal, and the Karma denies buys Schalke an avenue into this play, but Hylissang continues to look for these hooks.
Schalke has to recall. Trick must go back to the base, and Fnatic own this jungle. Everything going their ways. They just set up, they wait, they force Schalke to walk into them. Schalke only have one blue trinket to their name, and Ignar must walk into enemy territory if he's to put down vision of his own.
Clean and simple execution coming out from Fnatic. Not doing anything fancy, they're just playing very well through 2 lanes, utilizing pressure and vision very expertly. Schalke being suffocated out of their vision, being limited in terms of their options, and Fnatic, they have to be careful when starting the Baron because they don't have a primary tank that can just soak up all that damage. Whippo can act as the temporary one by utilizing his shields, and he's not the primary damage dealer when it comes to taking it down, but why bother? Why run the risk? Instead, just utilize the fact that you control the entire topside map to continue looking for picks, roam between mid and top, and then slowly threaten onto the base of Schalke.
I love the itemization coming through from Fnatic as well here. Look at Whippo and Nemesis with the Liandry's Torment on both of them. They know these fights are going to last forever. They know there's a lot of melee champions with a lot of HP that they can stack up that bonus increased damage over time with on those 2 items. Means the longer these fights go, though we're already favoring Fnatic, just going to be that much more in their favor.
And on top of that, the gold lead letting them get 2 QSSs. Now Brock's picking up like a stopwatch as well. That Lee Sin will be able to go into the backline and get out unscathed on the back of Engage. It can be a fantastic scenario. And Upset bits and pieces towards that 3rd item. The Null Magic Mantle presumably building towards the QSS, delaying that Infinity Edge, that all-crucial damage item.
Well, Schalke will need to get to those big item points soon because now Fnatic have access to teleports once again. This means that they don't need to play through 2 lanes, they can start playing through 3, which makes the Baron Dance that much more dangerous. Because once Fnatic regain control over the top side of the map, they can very easily just create this split push situation where Schalke is forced between trying to deal with the pressure bots or with trying to deal with the fact that Fnatic is setting up around the Baron.
Overall now, eyes on the Fnatic lineup, see exactly how they want to close this one out. They can play it slow and steady, as you mentioned. They don't really need to force bigger fights. They can wait for an advantageous situation. They have the poke, they have the pick, they have the engage tools that they need. What can Schalke do now to fire back? 14-9 the score, 53.7 to 46K. Schalke falling further and further behind is kind of the systematic choke out of resources. Schalke finally able to get vision back in their own jungle, but there's no camps to take, so there's no additional gold, there's no additional XP.
So Upset just completed his Infinity Edge, 3 items now done. Meanwhile, the 4th item is ready for Reckless. Control Ward picked up alongside the Mercurial Scimitar, and Reckless is extremely strong at this point. The Inferno will be spawning. Schalke will likely not run the risk of trying to contest this. Instead, they'll use this opportunity to reclaim some vision control around the top side of the map. You can already see some of this vision come to fruition. They have a ward on the Baron, they have a ward on the red, but it means they have to sacrifice the bot side of the map, and so they will concede this.
This is a nightmare. The Lee Sin, the Akali, even the Pike, every single member of Fnatic benefits from the Inferno. We almost never see a composition built like that, but Fnatic has one. It is the nightmare case for Schalke. Not only is the Baron the thing that they have to fear, but they can never afford to trade it for an Elder Drake at this stage of the game.
We're going to be seeing 2 Rabadon's Death Caps come in soon for both Whippo and Nemesis too, so just continue to stack up that percentage AP. Going to be so hard for Schalke to fight into Fnatic. But for Fnatic, actually extending this game, it's going to come down to objectives, because forcing fights with Fnatic is difficult. They're going to rely on picks and dominating vision inside the enemy jungle, or simply starting up the Baron and daring Schalke to run into them. They have the gold lead. It should be enough for them to start it up and make Schalke come in towards them, but actually doing it themselves is hard.
Will connect. Can they actually stop Hylissang from getting out? He's trying to desperately get to safety, but Odoamne will snipe the kill out with the ultimate in the end.
Horrendous mistake from Hylissang there. Where was the setup we were just praising Fnatic for as he just face checks Trick and Ignar in their half of the jungle, which they had just reclaimed over. Abbedagge now on the chase onto Whippo.
TV behind.
Upset has to be careful. He could be the one picked off. Abbedagge incredibly low. He's already burned the ultimate. He needs to make it out to safety, but Nemesis now coming in, looking for a fight to get kicked off. The Blast Cone takes it back. Nemesis on a killing spree, and huge damage comes in from the Karma. Lots of members of the Schalke lineup chunk. Nemesis now fishing for a little bit more. The second stack of the ult will be used.
Schalke had just gotten the pick onto Hylissang that should have given them more control over the map, but instead Abbedagge gets picked, Fnatic teleport in, and shut down that power play. Now, moving into that chop side jungle becomes so easy to get that control that had just been denied from them.
And this is something that you talked about, Vedius. This is something that we looked at with Fnatic, when they have those TPs up, when they can play all 3 lanes, and it's clearly something that Schalke are not respecting enough, the potential for these TP flanks to come through.
It feels like that whenever Schalke gets some kind of edge back onto the map, they then just over-push it. They think, we can keep going, and then Fnatic just punish them. And now they're looking for another one of those picks, but again, look at the minimaps. You can see the collapse coming in from the bot side, and now they're looking to collapse onto the 3 members of Schalke.
They get caught in, but now they're looking to burn TPs with their own. Fnatic, will they keep going on the play? Hylissang stepping forward, the hook lands onto Upset, but the rest of the team now is coming in. Odoamne, ultimate almost available. He's looking for it, he's waiting for it, he sees the pinch, he sees the opportunity. Will he find it? Trick lands to CC, the perfect ult, but it's not enough. Fnatic are still making it out to safety. Hylissang waiting on the dash, waiting for a quick dash over the wall. Whipple's now coming to back him up. He doesn't even need it. He can look for the execution. Trick goes down. Hylissang goes out, and still Fnatic come out on top.
Schalke just cannot find the engage because of how much mobility is on the side of Fnatic. They were forced to TP in response, and now Fnatic is not done. They're continuing the chase.
Abbedagge now going in, they're fishing, Upset onto the backside, throws out the ultimate, grabs the lantern as well. He might be able to make it to safety, but they have to be careful. Abbedagge sacrificing his life for the team to escape, but the Aatrox cannot get anything back. Huge damage comes in. He will take down Hylissang, but meanwhile in the mid lane, the minions doing work for Fnatic. The tower not quite going to fall yet. Odoamne will clear this one out.
And Fnatic can now move back towards the Baron. Trick is going to be dead for another 10 seconds. The fight was long, the fight was scrappy, but time after time after time, it is Fnatic that come out on top, and it's Fnatic on the Baron.
TP coming in, 3K and dropping. There's no way they can get this one. Maybe they can stop the backs. Maybe they can catch Fnatic sleeping, but Nemesis is not going to have it. He's fishing for another kill instead. Fnatic are relentless in their pressure. Will finally look for a reset here, but even now, Whipple's tempting fate as he steps into Schalke's jungle.
But now Fnatic have the objective that they want. Let's have a look back at this replay, and you can see how difficult it is for them to just lock this team down. There are so many dashes, so many disengage tools. Kick from Broxah, which wasn't even used. The amount of dashes available on Hylissang, his great health as well. He was able to find that execute onto Trick, and this was the go button that Fnatic needed to then look for that re-engage.
And at the end of the day, this is the execution we wanted from Schalke. They time their cooldowns well, they get the engage they want. It's just not enough against Fnatic in this composition. They simply cannot lock down the entire team the way they need to with this Rumble Equalizer. And while Abbedagge does get a single kill, you can see how Fnatic just dance around them in that fight.
But it also feels that Fnatic is just dictating the pace of the game. They're the puppet masters controlling the strings, and every time it is Schalke trying to cut the strings away from them, but they're never able to, and Fnatic just make them look like fools as they dance around them in every fight.
And as they continue to get further and further ahead, with the Rabadons coming through on their solo laners with the double Infernals, Whipple almost has 700 AP at 34 minutes into the game. This karma absolutely hurts, and as Fnatic split up into this full court press, every single one of their lanes is stronger than their counterpart on the side of Schalke.
Single shield from Whippo, 500. Almost enough to protect exactly what Rumble wants to do in a team fight, not even countering the mantra. He does want to use it up. It's going to get harder and harder. Fnatic with the poke, Fnatic with the engage tools, and they split up the map as well. Across 3 lanes, Fnatic are playing strong. TP up for Reckless and Whippo if they need to collapse. The hook, not going to be the miracle that Schalke need. The QSS there for Reckless as well. One tower is going to go down. Tower in the mid lane also going to be at risk. Fnatic are just walking into the base from Schalke. Schalke have to pull the trigger. They need to be decisive. They need to make something happen, but they cannot find an opportunity.
They can't engage anywhere because they're going to lose something, but instead, they're just losing everything. Fnatic will secure the first inhibitor in the top lane. The cannon Baron empowered cannon minions are doing work in the bot side as well.
The only chance for Schalke is to force a fight on a grouped up section of Fnatic, but instead now it's 2 members top 2 mid, 1 in the bottom lane. There's just nothing they can do. They must make the play.
Trick goes in, Hylissang once again caught out, but he's going to dash out to safety. The Ezreal ulti does so much damage. Whipple, that was huge. The karma with the death cap just deletes Schalke. And now they're just stood waiting, knowing that this is going to move to match point for Fnatic. There is no hope left for the side of Schalke here in Game 2. They have to come back together going into Game 3 because Fnatic are here to play. Fnatic are here to dominate. They are not shaken from their series versus G2, and they will move up to match point in the semifinal.
Last week, Fnatic were 1 win away from putting themselves in the finals. Today, they find themselves in the same position. It is now about closing. It is now about pulling through for this squad to give us the rematch we've all been waiting for.
And it feels like last week, Fnatic, they should have 3-0 G2. They should have taken that series home, and they know they should have been the ones in the final. And it feels like they're coming into today, they're here to prove it. Their early games have been exceptional. And while this game we did see a couple of mistakes, we saw the game get slowed down because some fights did not go in the way of Fnatic. The moment Schalke got over-eager and tried to overforce is the moment Fnatic came back and started to punt.
And reminding us that Fnatic are not a team that's going to break so easily under pressure. Even when, hey, early game start looks good, Schalke are able to fight back. They do not tilt, they stay focused, they keep their eyes on the prize, and they close out the game cleanly. It was dominance coming in from Fnatic in Game 2, and if Game 3 looks anything like this, the series might just be over right here.
You have to ask, what can Schalke even do now? We saw, a draft mistake. Dylan Falco on the stage said it himself. They came in with a new plan in this game, but their new plan was to give over the Akali to Nemesis. It was to give the Lee Sin towards Brox the Pike for Hylissang. It still did not seem like the right answer for Schalke.
You know what? Their plan didn't matter, Ender, because they lost everything at level 2. They got forced out of their own jungle. Things started to collapse almost immediately, and we talked about how we wanted to see a shake-up from the draft for Schalke coming into Game 2, have a lane that you can play around, and with Xayah Thresh, I could see that as a lane you could try to attack. It's a potential option for you, but when that level 2 play happens and you get put behind, Trick's early game options get limited, and it just feels like Fnatic say, okay, you want early game? We'll give you even more coming into Game 2.
Right, it's always Fnatic that come in with the better early game plan. There's a reason why we joke about Fnatic level 1s, because they always have these distinct strategies to invade you, to pressure you, do all that. Well, this game, it was a level 2 play, and Schalke did not see it coming.
No, it 100% worked out, but to get more insight on Fnatic's win, let's check in with the analyst desk.
Thank you very much. 2-0 up for Fnatic. They have found themselves in this place before, but something tells me that it might end differently than it did last week. Fnatic looking fantastic so far, and some changes from both sides coming into the draft in this Game 2. Yamato, I'm going to go to you first, because you said that you feel that the Karma pick in the top lane coming out of Whipple is a distinct counter to anything that Odoamne does.
I think Karma is a perfect champion in this matchup because so many bans are coming in. They know the enemy team needs to ban Yuumi, needs to ban Twisted Face, sometimes Aatrox. They let go of the Aatrox this time. Akali was first picked. Karma is fantastic into the Rumble. You mantra E, and all of a sudden that spell that is a 15-second cooldown just counters the whole ability. Also on top of that, it's great into the Kennen, great into Nico, all these champions that we know that Odoamne likes to play. Into Karma, you want to play the Sylas, you want to play the Jace. Good luck in esports if Schalke play those.
If that is that. The Fisho, a couple of adaptations also coming in then. From the side of Schalke, did they do what you wanted them to do?
I think we went more towards traditional Schalke team fighting. I think getting Sejuani again instead of Olaf was a big change. I think the Rumble, fun enough, we were actually sitting during the draft and we were looking at the Aatrox and we're kind of like, oh. Yamato was like, it's going to go mid, and we were kind of like, okay, I guess, then you can last pick something like Rumble and you have a bit more team fight. But I think even if it's a better draft for Schalke, Fnatic just have so many more tools in the game itself, especially early on, to start snowballing.
And even when these team fights eventually did start happening, all of those tools that you're talking for in the early game were also working very well for them in the 5v5s. Because the ability to disengage from kind of the big ultimates. As soon as the Rumble ultimate came down, as soon as the Sejuani ultimate was thrown out, it was multiple cleanses that came across. You have so much mobility on Fnatic's composition. They were able to arcane shift away, to kick back on Akali. There was just like no clean or clear targets that Schalke could attack with their 5v5 comp.
And it's really frustrating when you play against slippery champions like Ezreal, Karma, Lee Sin, or either they have movement speed buffs or they have like dashes, and you're trying to run like a single main engage in Sejuani, then you have a Rumble coming down on top of it, and you have an Aatrox who's just spamming abilities trying to catch up. So like the fact that you have so much range and mobility on the Fnatic side means as long as you're not behind and enemies forcing you into going through like a small entrance to an objective, you can just spread out and you can just play these team fights very spread, and they did that every single time.
Yeah, a lot of options for Fnatic and playing towards their comfort zone. I know also when we were looking at the draft that you guys had some doubts, specifically Yamato, about the Aatrox mid. I think the Fisho as well, even though it's something that he has played in terms of, okay, will they get to those team fights and will they play around it or will they enable the Aatrox?
Hey, it's a pick. That's it.
It's a takeaway, I guess.
Well, look, I mean, the only reason I bring it up is because it was working out early.
Sure, yeah. Abdag is definitely better than Odoamne on it. He played it a lot in the regular split.
Don't you have anything positive to say about this Aatrox?
It's a champion.
It's definitely a champion. A triple kill here on the screen. Lovely. Confidence booster.
I mean, I think one of the issues is that when you especially see this Aatrox over in side lanes, like the nice thing for Aatrox is that he is effective in team fights as he is in side lanes, but you don't get that same versatility in what Schalke are trying to play. Every time they kicked Abba out into a side lane, they would almost always pull him to look for a flank, which there are better picks to do that on. And if you look at Bwipo, when he faced Odo's Aatrox and when he faced Abba's Aatrox, on both the Karma and the GP, there's that moment where he turns around and he's like, I know you can't hit me with these Qs. I know I can dance around you, break some ankles, and he constantly looks to turn those trades around. And I think it's just a pick that isn't working specifically against Fnatic and specifically for the versatility in Schalke's playstyle.
Okay.
I think the big thing here is Schalke did exactly what we wanted in terms of composition. We can argue the Aatrox, whatever, doesn't matter. They got the composition that we consider a Schalke composition. But I felt like the main thing that was the most difficult for them was that Fnatic was constantly, with their mobility, forcing skirmishes. The only tool that Schalke really had was to engage down mid lane. We saw quickly that they bought Quicksilver Sash, and all of a sudden that was out of the picture. And of course, Schalke
Well,
just
Hilly tried a few times to let Fnatic start a fight. Schalke start a fight.
But see, I think things fell apart for them even before we got to the team fight. I mean, the fact of the matter is that you have an Ezreal Pyke, and they're winning these lanes. And you saw that for Fnatic in the G2 series as well. Deficio, you brought it up. Like, Fnatic are able to win bot lanes that they should not win. And yes, it was through a lot of assistance with Broxa in that jungle, but this keeps happening for Fnatic. And it is so important because you then unlock. When you see Ezreal Pyke, we know that that's not for the 2v2 lane, that's for Hilly to roam around. But when you have a level 2 where level 1 Ignar is starting with a lantern because he's so terrified that someone's going to gank him, like, hold up, how do you give away a lane phase like that? He just walks in, he's like, I guess I have to take W because I'm against Fnatic right now.
But we should really praise like that play so much because I was looking at Sejuani starting topside, go bot, then level 2, when they have Thresh, they love to do like, you know, the flash flay into Lantern gank on bot side, trying to get advantage for upset that way. Like I was 100% looking at that play happening, but it got completely countered when they took away the ward level 1 with Sweeper on Hylissang, then Broxa comes down on bot side and gets the push. I think that was super cool play by Fnatic, really well done, and it countered the early game strategy of that Thresh pick.
Absolutely, it was beautiful, and I do have another couple of Broxa plays that I wanted to look at, specifically later. He makes an outplay in the top lane as well. After that, a questionable 1v1, but we're not going to take too much away from Broxa in that regard.
Ooh,
he was he sized that one up on the Sejuani, but this looks great. You're like, yeah, Broxa on Lee Sin, this feels good. Everything went to plan bottom. Now he wins the top side of the map.
And now he's like, all right, well, okay, here's Sejuani. And
feeling myself.
There,
Something that's crazy is that Broxa hasn't played a single game with Sejuani all split long. I think this is the time he realizes this is the secret weapon.
This
Maybe
is what he needs
you know?
to play. It just gets
Look how
absolutely
OP it is.
demolished. Broxa has 3 kills already, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No, sad for Broxa, but he did everything else right. And I think when you look at all the Fnatic games, Roska, it is just very hard to play against a team that consistently does this. And it's not that they're just always doing it through the same lane or always in the same manner. Even though they've been called one-dimensional in the past, I do think there's a lot more credit to be given to the way Fnatic approach these games.
And I think the conversation that we're having about like kind of mental fatigue or mental endurance, talking about Fnatic, we now have to look at the other side and look at Schalke.
Yeah.
The fact that Upset got his Xayah and that there was a huge portion of this game where Trick is actually babysitting Xayah in a side lane because Upset wants the resource. He wants the farm funneled into him and he needs the safety of Trick. Otherwise, a college is going to rock up and kill him. It's like this demanding of resource that really slowed down everything that Schalke want to do. And I think you are starting to see some of that mental fatigue on these players in slight outplays or kind of weird lane assignments, bizarre macro decisions. Like Schalke are really falling apart.
Is it mental fatigue or is it just they have found a team or they are playing versus a team which they have no business beating?
I mean, I think right now the creativity that Fnatic brings into draft, but also into then early game plans, like what we saw with the Lee Sin, it does make it very difficult for Schalke because they're not the kind of team to bring up these unique things themselves. You know, they play very standard in how they approach the game as well. So it's difficult. You're against very good players who are mechanically able to like skirmish you, and they can play a lot of different things right now. And then they also get advantages early through some very creative plays. Like, it's hard. There's too many things right now. You got to figure it out.
What do they do?
I feel like Schalke as a team, the biggest difficulty is that they are playing on such a basic level, which is perfect against teams that are weaker. They have a clear objective. Okay, we want to get bot lane ahead. But the thing is, I feel like teams like Fnatic and G2, which are the two teams in Europe that play like this, is that they're looking for the small victories to get them to that point at all times. They're looking at the roams into mid, spreading that pressure into bottom, and all of a sudden there's this working engine that is in place for Fnatic that puts them in the position where eventually QSS is on, there's no engaged potential at all from Schalke, and this comp of Schalke is just completely dissected. And I think that is the biggest outlier here, that Fnatic is always looking for the smaller victories to get them to that point.
So I think if we look at what Schalke did as a change, I think they did a lot of correct things. Like we have to praise that. I think Schalke, in terms of drafting, they have to stick to this kind of style. You can then argue if there are certain picks on the other side you want to try and get rid of, but you can't really, because you're already banning Yuumi, Rakan, TF, and I assume they pick red side again on Schalke side. Yep. So give Akali, I think that's fine. I don't think you have to take the Aatrox. Again, I think it's okay to give it over to Fnatic and try and go for more just like really pure death ball 5-on-5.
Final words, perhaps we need to move on, but what can they do?
I think the Aatrox pick is interesting. I definitely think that they'll leave it open, but the key difference is that when you're facing Finn's Aatrox versus Bwipo's Aatrox, Finn's Aatrox didn't punish you in lane, and Bwipo's Aatrox will. And I think that's the gamble that Schalke are looking at in Game 3. If they leave it open,
it's a strong pick.
I think give Yuumi. Give Yuumi.
Give Yuumi and see what happens.
Hylissang has been too wild these games. I think give Yuumi Garen, play the Kaiser into it, and you have a matchup. You know, no AD, Upsa can feel good about himself, and I think that's the confidence booster that Schalke might need.
They might need it indeed. Nobody here, though, voted for Schalke to win this, but do you guys have in your gut a feeling that they could still take a game?
I mean, we can dress this pill up either way,
yes.
but it's a hard one to swallow, and the reality is that Fnatic are just better than Schalke in every iteration of play. If it's a 5v5, if it's skirmish, if it's playing side lanes, grouping up.
Also, Frost would be really happy because if Fnatic win 3-0, she is #1 in the predictions, I believe. So I don't think she wants them to win another game. However, I always want 5 games when we are in an arena. It is do or die for Schalke in Game 3 as Fnatic are on match point in tonight's semifinal. Don't go anywhere.
Fnatic have they bitten off more than they can chew. They set their eyes on Trick, but he flashes out to safety. Proxy goes in! First blood, the Sonic Wave, but Amadage now caught in the midst of the Fnatic beat grinder once again. Will not connect on the Bwipo. Hylissang using his hook back, but there's so many members now. It's 5v5 right in the midst of this. Oda1 is going to get chunked out. He doesn't even have an ultimate. Proxy going to take him down. Waiting on the dash, waiting for a quick dash over the wall. Bwipo's now coming into back up. He doesn't even need it. He can look for the execution. Trick goes down.
Just nothing they can do. They must make the play.
Trick goes in. Hylissang once again caught out, but he's just going to dash out to safety. The Ezreal ulti does so much damage. Bwipo, that was huge. Fnatic are here to dominate. They are not shaken from their series versus G2, and they will move up to match point in the semifinal.
You don't have a chance against me. I can calculate 19 trillion moves in advance. Not fair. Not fair.
Red Bull gives you wings.
for the finals?
Experience the LEC Finals in Athens with Shell V-Power.
무엇을 보든 좋아할 거야 닿을 수 없는 river
Welcome back to the LEC Summer Playoffs, where Fnatic are on match point against Schalke, no fear. And already, ladies and gentlemen, we are gearing up and getting ready for picks and bans. The final game, potentially, for Schalke here on this stage. The winner, of course, on to face G2 tomorrow. Schalke have to focus on the game in front of them. Lose here, and they are out. They are done, and we will see them in the gauntlet.
And Schalke have decided to return once again over to the red side here, saying that the problem wasn't necessarily in the draft or the side choice, but rather in those first few levels, in the first few minutes of the game.
I would agree.
They got to come back in and they got to fix that, because if they can, and we see these two teams clash in the team fights that we know Schalke want to take, that has got to be Schalke's best fighting chance against Fnatic.
To be honest, though, it still feels like that even if they don't feel there were huge problems in the draft, I felt like that picking the Rumble into the Karma doesn't give you an easy lane to play around. We saw how much of a deficit Odoamne was in, and he didn't get much support. In the mid lane as well, it felt like Abadage wasn't able to generate a lot of pressure with his Aatrox up against the Akali. I feel like Schalke needs to put a little bit more priority on trying to at least get Abadage a winning lane matchup. And given that they are on red side, let's see if they can get that counter pick.
Well, it's going to be hard because you assume Akali must be the first lock in here for Fnatic. They do have that flexibility. It looks so good in Nemesis' hands.
And Karma's still available for the side of Fnatic, which is their biggest flex point. We've now seen it flexed between 3 different roles. 2 already in this series, and 3rd yet to come. So it feels like that Schalke have no real answer to guarantee a winning matchup into both the Akali and Karma.
And as strong and as terrifying as Whippo's Aatrox is, I feel like you have to be willing to give it up here, because it is not working for Abadage. It is not working for Odoamne.
Are they doing the run back?
They're doing it. They're trying the run back. This is exactly the same draft so far as we saw in the previous game.
I think if we're going to see a change, it might be with the support pick here for Ignar. Assuming Hylissang picks up the Pyke one more time, I'd like to see him get away from that champion. While yes, it wasn't necessarily a massive problem for him, I'd love to see something that can force fights a little bit better. The All-Star, I'd love to see him back on its champion that's worked so well for him all split.
And now we'll have to see what the option is, because Fnatic say, you want the salty run back, we're happy to give it to you. They lock in the Karma, they lock in the Pyke, it's an easy choice for them. Now here the Thresh should come through for Schalke if they just want a handshake on the exact same draft. But we saw how that worked out, and as much as you say it's an in-game issue, I have to wonder if more change is not necessary. Instead, it will be the Sejuani here.
So this means that Fnatic's second half bans will focus a little bit more on the support picks. They could look to ban away things like the Morgana if they think that's a little scary. I don't think they need to worry about banning Thresh out. They could potentially look to do it to try and take Ignar off of some of his comfort picks. But it feels like that Schalke expected this Karma to go bot lane in the last game. That could very well also suggest why they drafted their solo laners the way that they did. The moment they then saw the Ezreal, this was a pivot from the side of Fnatic, and now we're seeing this adaptation from Schalke. They're banning away the Ezreal. They could look to ban away another safe 80 carry as well, in the form of a Kai'Sa if they want to.
And it concerns me, Vedias, because in game 1, we saw them going to the Karma mid lane with the LeBlanc, not the ideal pick. Game 2, we see it in the top lane, not an ideal pick. In game 3, yes, they banned away the Ezreal, they banned away the Olaf, but if Fnatic flex again, are Schalke actually ready to deal with this champion?
Has to be the question on everyone's mind. Kennen now, the option to take away from Odoamne. I like this, because when I was looking at the last draft, I thought Kennen would fit better than perhaps the likes of the Rumble. Now may just have to go back towards that champion, because Schalke only have so many AP top lane options. And you almost always are going to be seeing this Aatrox slotted into the mid lane, so probably another Rumble game from Odo.
Is it going to be the option? Debating, taking their time, trying to figure out what exact pick they want for Ignar here. Will be the Alistar, something that you asked for earlier in the draft, Christy. Is it going to be enough, though, into the likes of the Pyke, into Hylissang's Pyke especially?
I think what it's about finding easier engagements. It's not just playing off of hooks, but rather get the All-Star on the flanks. Schalke looks so good when they can come at you from an angle, from behind in these fights. Thresh was not the champion for Ignar to do it last game. All-Star is in game 3.
Well, Fnatic looking to repeat the exact same draft they had last game. The Lee Sin has been locked in.
They can't get the Ezreal, though.
They cannot get the Ezreal, so something has to change. The question is, will it be the Karma bot, or will Fnatic to lock something in the top side? Remember that both Gangplank and Chen are available.
As is Renekton, which we completely forgot about. But of course, his comfort pick, his answer into a pick like the Aatrox.
So we're going to see the triple flex from Fnatic. Mid lane, top lane, and bot lane Karma.
I'm sorry, we have basically full comfort on the side of Fnatic. This Schalke have to show us more in this game or it is over.
And specifically, I think they need a good matchup in the top lane up against this Renekton. They're going to be trying to slot the Aatrox into it, so it's the Corki as an answer in the mid lane up against the Akali. This is a good answer in terms of scaling, in terms of late game team fight damage and consistent, reliable DPS, but the top lane matchup is definitely going to be in the favor of Whippo, and I would love to see Fnatic shift their focus and play through him in the top lane this time around.
Exactly, and I very much agree with you. I think the big shift we're going to be seeing in this game is that Whippo is going to be the early attention, or the early focus rather, from the jungler from the side of Fnatic. I think that trying to get this Renekton ahead is extremely important, but on the bright side, Schalke, I feel, do have priority in the mid lane this time around. By picking the Corki into the Akali, it enables them to get a lot of harassment in the early game and gain push, which could give opportunities for Schalke to actually play through bot lane, which is how they typically found a lot of success, not only in playoffs, but also during the regular season. So I feel like Schalke should be in the most comfortable spot to find success they have been so far throughout this series.
It goes even deeper than that for Schalke too, though. The early game, yes, they have the tools, but think about the late game scaling options when you have 2 marksmen on the side of Schalke and 0 there for Fnatic. When we hit 3 items, if the game is even, that is going to be the sweet spot here for Schalke to feel real good about taking team fights.
Can they make it that far, though? That is the big question on our minds. Gearing up for match point in this series. Fnatic were the favorites coming in here, but were they that much the favorites as we expect now, as we see now Fnatic on stage, seemingly unstoppable? What can Schalke show us as we get ready for Game 3 here? Is this the end for Schalke 04, or can they take us to a Game 4? Can they take us to a Game 5? Can they be a team worthy to face G2 tomorrow in the finals? Or Fnatic find the chance against the champions of spring?
Schalke have an uphill battle to climb. Fnatic riding the momentum. Many people questioned if they would be able to bounce back after the loss against G2, and so far they have done just that. Game 3, Fnatic versus Schalke. It's do or die time for Schalke.
It is do or die for Schalke, but Fnatic do not want to slow down, already with some level 1 shenanigans here. They went for the double sweeper setup, and Hylissang has opted into the E at level 1, something we see a lot from Rakan going over this wall early on to try and get an early summoner spell. This time it's early vision, with Fnatic looking to close it out 3.
Schalke have to be nervous. Fnatic can afford to fumble a level 1. They've got 2 wins up in the series, but the Fnatic level 1s are very much a strong suit in the best of 5. Seems like they never run out of creative options to find these early advantages. Schalke, for now, are in a decent position to respond. Down a man if Trick steps forward, has the blast cone to escape. Broxah now here as well.
Yeah, if Trick goes over this wall, he's not going to see Fnatic coming. They have no vision. Fnatic just have to wait for that to pop. They now have vision, and it's 3 members rather of Fnatic running into this level 1 fight.
Waiting to see it. 4 members now coming in. He pulls through, he gets the stun. Trick has been taken down. That's a disastrous start. Rinse and repeat. Fnatic, before the game even properly gets started, already have a lead.
Schalke said coming into this game, if the level 2 play doesn't happen, then surely the repeat of the early game from Fnatic can't happen. So what do Fnatic do? Well, okay, I guess we'll make a play at level 1 instead. And they do just that. They find themselves first blood, and already they're off to a great starting game.
That's the thing. Schalke thought it was going to be that level 2 play again, so they were starting Trick on the blue buff so that he could get topside and get away from the Lee Sin. Now everything starts crumbling down around them as Broxah gets the first blood again. We talked about the early power of getting that warrior enchant, just dominating the early game. Broxah in a beautiful position once more.
And this is what happens when you fall a step behind in the mind game. You fall a step behind in the predictions. Fnatic getting the better of the team. The hook now pulls. It looks like Ignore in on the bottom side. Trade ultimately seems unconsequential, but you can see already getting poked out. Rek was very comfortable to keep the pressure up here. Now that he's on the Karma, it's no longer about him. Eyes on the solo laners for Fnatic. Eyes on Hylissang as well.
Early pathing from Trick going to be a bit unfortunate. I think he would have loved to be around this top side of the map early on to find a gank on the pushing Whippo, but instead, because he had to start late on his red buff, go Krug second, if he wants to gank at level 3, he's going to have to path down. That means towards his Raptor camp, that means towards the bottom side of the map, which limits his options completely in the early game.
The ward that was sitting on top of Broxah's blue buff has also just worn out, so they won't have information on where Broxah is returning onto the map. We can see that Trick, only at level 2, will be looking to gain some vision in the river. And it looks like the Fnatic won't spot him out, but he will as Broxah throws this out. And there's no reason for him not to challenge this.
Corki's going to come up, though. That mid lane priority, we talked about it earlier. Abadage strength in this matchup for now. Broxa will not commit.
Okay.
Abadage bailing his jungler out of a bad situation.
It was the mid lane prior you were talking about earlier in draft, Vedius, where Abadage with the range advantage can push earlier. So while, yes, top lane was going in favor of Whippo, it was a much longer trek for him to get down towards that crab. And ultimately, Trick going to pick that up and feel very happy with that change of stance.
Yeah, it gets into level 3. He gets a little bit more experience in gold back into his pockets, and they're able to get some vision control around the top side river, which is gonna reduce the risk of a dive coming down onto Odo Omne. So good stuff there. We're now keeping our eyes on what Trick looks to do next. Remember in the draft we talked about how he has great opportunities now to look to play through the bot side of the map. He can look for ganks, and we can see that Hylissang's not gonna spot Trick out, but they're aware of the Hylissang being in the jungle.
Careful. Headbutt, the flash forward, the pulverize. They're trying to lock the CC together, but Hylissang is retreating. The stun. He
gets the vision.
He can get it now. The Abadage is coming in. Hylissang is now in trouble. He's fading. The Ghostwater dive is not going to be enough. Hylissang now on the retreat, though he's starting to heal up. Fnatic are here to protect the team. Abadage is going to retreat. Ignar is now pulled back, waiting for the stun. He will connect to the Broxa, but Reckless is here first. Ignar is now in trouble. All of Schalke are now in trouble because the TP is coming in. The Renekton is coming in. Trick desperate to get a kill, but Whippo moving in. A lot of damage going down, and 2 kills for Fnatic in the play.
He gets him again!
Hylissang is unstoppable in this series, and he will find yet another perfect hook.
How does he do it? Time and time again, it is Hylissang in the moment that comes up so clutch to get an extra kill there for Fnatic. It is Fnatic always willing to commit a teleport to an early play, and that's what they did right there. Whippo comes in, and they smash Schalke in the river.
And Schalke are crumbling under the pressure. 4-0 is the kill score in favor of Fnatic. Schalke find themselves in a 2.5k gold deficit only 5 minutes in, and again, it was Schalke looking to make a play around the bot side of the map in this Alienware replay as Hylissang is getting caught out. They think they have enough damage, but the mobility on this champion allows him to escape from near death as Broxa is there to support and Nemesis joins the fray. The big thing is that notice how Broxa will use a ward to jump over the wall after it looks like he's in danger. They then use this ward to TP into the fight, and there's no follow-up from Odo Omne. He stays to catch the wave, and this just leaves Schalke with no avenue to escape.
And then that perfect hook from Hylissang.
Blind as well.
How does he do it?
And the Pike passive, getting him back to high health so quickly. On the verge of death. You see a smile on Reckless's face. He knows what's coming. He knows he's on the verge of that rematch versus G2 tomorrow. Has to close out here, though. Can't get caught sleeping. Cannot let Trick get an advantage here. Reckless could now be in trouble, but Trick is just waiting in the brush, waiting for him to run, waiting for something.
Look at the rest of Fnatic come around on this flank. It's Hylissang, it's Broxa, it's Nemesis have been delayed. They have to make this happen fast.
Broxa now going to try to come into this one. They have to be careful. Trick now locked up under the tower. Will not take tower aggro yet. Hylissang on the way in. Whip on the top side. They're trying to get something, but it will not happen. Nemesis is level 6, and he's here to play. Man advantage, though, for the side of Schalke. Are they actually going to get anything here? In the meantime, Whippo's just taking plates. He's just making money, and Schalke are going to walk away empty-handed.
Oh, and this is so devastating to watch for Schalke because they had the TP advantage. They recognized that they could set up a dive onto the bot lane, but they don't commit to the play. Now they're looking for it.
Desperate to kill Hylissang. They failed last time. This time the Karma Shield is there for him. He can't make it out to safety. Upset will grab 1 kill. Reckless is next on the list. Are they going to commit to this one? Odo Omne with the ultimate Trick level 4 now coming in. Broxa has to be careful, but Whippo just taking more and more plates. In the meantime, it's going to be 3 plates traded for the kill in the end if Whippo can sustain this push.
Schalke desperately needed to get that kill in the bottom lane right there, but even then going to be falling further and farther behind as Whippo goes between towers to proxy the wave. He's going to get more, and this is the difference between the 2 teams and how they played. When it was Whippo teleporting into that fight in the river, he had full pushed the wave, so Odo Omne got nothing for that. For not using his teleport, he got 3 minions under his tower. When Odo comes down, Whippo finds 3 plates.
And what Schalke wanted to do by killing Reckless, they could have traded plates. They could have made the teleport worth it. But instead...
Abadage, Sonic Wave comes in, the resonating strike, the kill to follow. Fnatic are dominating.
And once again, we see the classic Fnatic. There are always 3 people mid lane. Hylissang is there, Broxa is there. Abadage, he was not expecting it. He had the flash, he had the dash with his W, but it was not enough. Fnatic find another kill.
We go in and Fnatic, honestly, looking unstoppable here in this series, and it's very clear that their eyes have been set on G2 this entire time. They will not stop at Schalke. They're looking for the rematch. They're looking for the chance to get that clean 3-0 they were denied in round 2. have to close here, though. But for the side, I mean, for the side of Schalke, it's 8 minutes and it's a 2K gold deficit. This is the most crushing start they could have had.
Schalke will keep saying in comms, give us time, give us 3 items, upset Abadage. We need to stall out. But it comes at shutting down Broxa and Hylissang's ability to keep finding fights onto you. And that's something that Fnatic do not look like they're going to slow down on anytime soon. This game needs to become controlled from Schalke. But when your jungler has just his smite, 650 bonus gold, to a warrior on the side of Broxa, what can you do?
The problem for Schalke is that Fnatic are just extremely good at pushing their lead, and I feel that they can actually look to try and secure that top tower now. Of course, Drake is still alive, and Rift Herald hasn't spawned yet. We've had so much action already before a lot of these big objectives have already been contested. So I feel Fnatic's next primary goal will be to look to try and secure this man in Drake. I don't think it's necessarily worth for them to try and trade this for a Rift Herald, especially when it's very easy for them to just match bot. And with Bwipo's teleport coming up before Odoamne's, it should be a lot easier for Fnatic to force that objective.
Exactly, Bedius. There's a full 2-minute window where Fnatic will have that global advantage. And when you are winning the bottom lane and Reckless can push and allow Hylissang to go find fights inside the enemy jungle, it becomes so easy for them to pick this objective up.
Bwipo now chasing down Odoamne. Battle of healing. Who can sustain the most here? Forcing Odoamne out. Trading ultimate for ultimate in the end. Neither side going to get a flash. But forcing Odoamne back. No TP for him available as well. Bwipo's will be up sooner. And Broxa once again trying to sneak a Drake. This will be the third first Drake he's gotten in this series if he can grab this one.
So that was just too early from Fnatic. Bwipo forced an all-in top. This does give him a lot of freedom though, because they get information on where Trick is, allowing Bwipo to force that all-in. On top of being able to get some plates, they now have their eyes set on mid.
Fnatic trying to match the play, trying to look for a little bit more. The flash out too! Brox is too clean. Trick does not predict the flash out. He'll get the kill unscathed.
Broxa hits him with a 1-2 punch right there to kick to finish and gets out cleanly. The domination over the mid lane through Broxa's early game presence is just absolutely unmatched no matter how many members Schalke continue to bring to the play. And while he wasn't able to finish off the Mount Drake, now he's topside starting to herald at 10 minutes.
Exactly where Fnatic want to be. This will help them continue to snowball their lead. Bwipo's already almost broken down the top lane tower. If they break that one, they can set their sights on mid, get this Corki out of his comfort zone.
All right, Trick has a flank. He's looking for bot lane.
And looks like he might start the Drake instead. They know Trick's bottom side, but they don't entirely know what he's doing. Herald has gone down. Should feel like a simple and easy trade for Schalke unless Fnatic can try to contest.
And Odo has to back away from the tower in the top lane. He hears that Broxa is there with the Herald going down, and while Broxa has now gone back into his jungle to clear away some of those camps, Odo cannot know that. All he knows is that he does not have pressure on the top side of the map, and Bwipo is absolutely massive. So all he can do is try to wave clear, but really this tower should go down soon.
Luckily, a lot of wave clear in Aatrox. 20% CDR as well. Will allow him to clear the wave 4 now, but Bwipo just continues to pull further and further ahead.
All right, so as we jump into this replay, we'll have a look at how this one's set up. So Trick does have information on where Broxa is. He has good insight that Broxa is in this bush. He tries to interrupt the queue, but unfortunately it's a little too early, allowing Broxa to follow up with the resonating strike and then secure the kill with the ultimate. So good stuff there from Broxa.
And the hook from Hylissang. Where is the follow? Trick debating his options. Hasn't forced the flash quite yet, but Hylissang is poking at his prey. And gentlemen, I want to turn our attention towards top side as Odoamne does what he can. It looks like not going to be able to clear out this tower whatsoever and just being absolutely dominated. But when you look at Odoamne, this series was supposed to be more for him as a player. He has yet to make a final. This was supposed to be his opportunity, but now he is getting crushed. He is getting knocked out once again. 83 games, the third most of any player in the LEC, and once again, he will be denied a final if he cannot find a win here.
And it must just be so incredibly frustrating for him, because it's not like Schalke play through him in the lane phase. He pops off when he is rotating and forcing fights on the likes of Rumble, on the likes of the Kennen that we saw him play so well with last split. It has not been this losing in the laning phase, watching his team crumble around him as Fnatic away.
But now Ignore finds what might just be the fight to get it kicked off. With a double dash out to safety, a slice and a dice to take him away, but Odoamne now looking for a bit of revenge, his chance to turn things around for himself. Bwipo goes in, but the healing is massive! The cold of meat keeping him healthy, but still, Abadage will grab the kill in the end. Trick's so incredibly low, Nemesis sees an opportunity. He goes in, but he cannot go out, taken down, the shutdown into the hands of Upset. 2-1 for the Xayah.
Odo finds the flank we've been waiting for to come around on the edge. The shutdown, as you said, for Upset going to be massive and critical, moving towards that 3-item carry marksman build that we've been looking for Schalke to get to so they can fight back.
But at the end of the day, all Schalke walk away with is defending that mid-tier 1. One plate, I believe, did go down towards Fnatic and Schalke. They grabbed themselves a couple kills, but Hylissang now has his eyes set on Odoamne. I don't think he can get this kill.
Not going to take the bait in the end. Reckless won't overcommit, neither will Hylissang. The ult, of course, up and available, but not going to grab anything else if we look back at this replay.
See this one more time. It's the double flank from Schalke that they do all the time. Ignar leading the charge right there. So Fnatic take a lot of damage underneath the tower, and then it's the secondary follow there from Odo, extending the range of his Q with both the dash and the flash there. While Bwipo does live for a very long time, he still cannot escape, and when Nemesis goes in for the trade kill, he also will get CC'd immediately by Ignar and donated the kill to Upset.
Yeah, I must say that was best case scenario fight for Schalke. They landed all their crowd control. They couldn't quite burst through Bwipo, to be fair. He is pretty strong at this point in the game, but finding 2 kills, finding that shutdown gold, definitely valuable for the side of Schalke. Unfortunately, right now, they can't convert it into that much more map control.
Schalke also spent a lot to get those kills. Flash on Odo, flash on Trick, flash on Ignar. Was the side of Fnatic really didn't lose much of anything, only the flash off of Renekton and Bwipo in the top lane. So looking forward here, Fnatic still should be very confident in these fights.
And no doubt, the Fnatic are still very far ahead. 4K gold lead. Schalke, yes, have a mountain, but it will not mount for much as they can never reliably really threaten these objectives, and they clearly lose the fight. But the good news is that the Alistar is working for Ignar. Monster team fight from him. 100% kill participation so far in the game, but they need more plays like that if they want to win, because you can see, well, getting kicked off, Chain CC is there, they're trying to take down Hylissang, but meanwhile on the backside, Upset has now been caught out. Now the retreat comes in, Whipple off to the flank, Upset now gonna be in trouble, he doesn't have the ultimate, it's not enough, they dash right back in, and right as Schalke get a glimmer of hope, Fnatic take it away from them. Nemesis stepping forward, uses the 5-point strike, Broxa, clean movement, finds a way into the backside, they do not expect the kick to go there, Broxa can now go back in, the Sonic Wave, the killing spree, comes in for Broxa, and Fnatic are merciless. They're hunting down the remaining members of Schalke. They're looking for more.
Fnatic are bringing the wave up. They want the kill. Schalke have nowhere to go. Fnatic just need the final touches.
Dage is in trouble. Can they make it out? Ignar doing what he can to body block. The wave connects. That's going to be it. Bwipo takes the kill. Doesn't even give the Lee Sin a chance. Fnatic once again deleting Schalke off the face of the map.
Broxa landing everything at the end of that fight too to follow up for the kill. Fnatic so far ahead right here. This team came to play and they mean business.
Fnatic sit with a 6,000 gold lead 15 minutes into the game. This is absolute destruction on the side of Fnatic as Schalke is falling apart. Here we see them just trying to go for a pick on the Hylissang. Even with the chain CC, this duo just doesn't have enough damage because Upset is dealing with Broxa. He's forced to use the ultimate very early, but then Bwipo uses Ignar to get on top of the AD carry. Broxa then joins up with his top laner, and they shut down the start of Schalke. With him gone, Schalke are forced to retreat, and there's very little they can do to escape.
Oh, the moves from Broxa so clean right there. Not quite able to get the kick backwards on towards Abbedagge though. But see how he moves in these fights, using the Q forward and then the ward hops to just catch Schalke off guard. They just don't know where this guy is going to go, and in the end, it's him once again landing the skill shots to put the nail in the coffin.
And just incredible damage, of course, from the team coming in. You can see as the fight plays out, easy for Bwipo to find the cleanup. In the last team fight, seeing a lot of damage coming in from the Bwipo, but there's just so many fed members now of the Fnatic team.
Broxa in the enemy's den, but whose den is it really? Well, it looks like it's still Schalke's as they force Fnatic out of their car for the jungle for now.
Hold that thought, retreat. Fnatic no better than to take the fight at this point. They're waiting, they're focusing their attention instead on the mid lane. Trick looking for the flank now. Will it be enough? Flash up on Nemesis, can pitch for a play. They're gonna try once again to take out a member. Reckless will not go down, however the shield is there. The hook will go in, will connect on the Trick. Bwipo now coming in. Schalke have to respect this. Odoamne stepping forward, trying to zone Fnatic away from his backline.
Nemesis is on his way. He pushes in top, and he's debating whether or not he roams down or continues to push at top. He's decided that he wants to group up with his team, and now the Abbedagge has been spotted top lane, and Schalke members are very low. It looks like Fnatic have their eyes set on this tower, or maybe they'll just use this time to secure the Drake instead.
Yeah, without Trick's ult being up, they can easily go back and pick that one up for themselves. Still just putting so much damage down on towards Upset.
Ulti comes out, Hylissang now caught out the chain CC. Will not be enough, he's not going to activate the feathers. Pulling back instead. They will not find a kill as the Drake does go down.
Keep your eyes on Broxa moving inside the enemy jungle right now, trying to find the flank with the kick. Will land the Q, but will just have to zone Schalke away from this tower. They get everything. They get the dragon and the tower on top.
Fnatic are managing their side wave extremely well, and Schalke are crumbling under the pressure. As they push out top, they have to catch bot, and they're losing their mid tower as well. Fnatic slowly extending their goal lead further and further. And we can see Fnatic this series, the goal difference at 15 has been pretty dramatic throughout the series.
I mean, just look at the amount of time they spend in a major lead. Almost 81.5% of the time in the last game. This game, I assume it has to be at least close to that number because it has looked all Fnatic all the time. Starting at level 1 in this game, they have been the ones in the driver's seat, and Schalke has just been, you know, in the back.
What I think is important about this series is it showcases Fnatic's ability to carry through both side lanes. They didn't invest a huge amount of resources into Nemesis this series, but when they tried to play through bot lane, Rekkles and Hylissang step up. When they tried to play through top lane, Bwipo steps up. And the fact that Fnatic can leverage this is definitely important, especially when they look at potential future opponents in the
And the best part for Bwipo is his team didn't have to gank him. They just waited for Schalke to go bot lane, and he just got everything on the back of his bot lane surviving what should have been impossible ganks.
Yeah, he just got that free lane right there, getting all 5 plates during the lane phase. But it was also him that teleported bot lane first. He was so influential in getting this massive lead, and as you've seen from the damage charts, carrying in these team fights. Now the next step for Fnatic feels early, but we're 30 seconds off of the Baron. It's been seek and destroy all series long, and the next step is vision inside the top side jungle and pick off Schalke until you get the Baron.
I feel like for Schalke, it's unfortunate to say, but their best bet is scaling. You know, when you're in those solo queue games and things are looking dire, you're hoping that the enemy team messes up on their setup. They overextend, they try to force too many fights, and they can't break into the base. And if Schalke can stall for long enough, there is a world in which they can come back into this game. Corki and Xayah, the double AD carries that Ender was talking about after the draft, that is a window with which Schalke can somehow turn this game around.
And the good news for Schalke is that at least gold-wise, if we flip over to that, Abbedagge and Upset are doing all right. Yes, they're down about 1,000 gold apiece, but it really is the top lane difference where it's been blown open completely. Almost 3,000 gold between Bwipo and Odoamne is the massive difference maker. And the fact is, right now, Bwipo can just dash straight into the Schalke backline and 1v2 those two players. They must get to a point where they can actually stop that from happening, and it's not going to come soon.
And I mean, a Fedronekton was a nightmare before the invention of Spear of Shojin, and now it's only going to go from bad to worse. He's going to stun you, he's going to hit you again, he's going to stun you again. You're going to die. You do not get to interact with this champion when he is ahead of you. Schalke not putting any resources into the top lane will cost them, and things are only going to get harder. You can see the Glacial Augment Karma just making sure that no one can ever sit comfortably in a lane, because if that ghost hits you, if you get slowed down, it could be the hook to follow and an instant death if Fnatic are waiting. Pressure just continues to mount against Schalke as Fnatic have to be feeling good, have to be feeling comfortable here in this game 3.
Definitely are. Fnatic shifting their pressure mid down towards the bottom lane, knowing Odoamne is the only member that can defend, and he can't really do much in terms of that just going to not connect on towards Odoamne. Fnatic, they got what they came for.
And once again, mobility for Fnatic makes it so easy for them to threaten the dive, into the front line to kill any single target, but then to get out just as easily, to step forward on the Lee Sin and then to back off. Trick! Wow. And that is desperation. It's just maybe now
not over yet.
Opportunity. The package has gone in. The TP is now coming in. Rekkles is so incredibly low. The healing is now coming into Mantra. There's so much sustain on the Karma. They cannot find the kill. But here comes the rest of the team. Nemesis hasn't given his life. He doesn't even get a chance to throw it. The CC is perfect. Odo will find the kill, and Schalke, for once in the game, now have an advantage. They can do something here. They don't have a creep wave, but now they will with the cannon minion backing them up.
Schalke just threw everything at Fnatic, and they got 1 kill. But 22 minutes on the clock. They have 2 marksmen and a Mountain Drake. This is their gambit. This is the desperation play where they will start it up and try to zone Brox away from the pit.
When in doubt, just group mid and fight, and it works beautifully for Schalke. They've now started off the Baron. Can Fnatic even get in?
Hylissang coming in. Who's going to get the Baron in the end? It's been locked up. They will secure it. Going over the wall. Bwipo now going to be in trouble. Uses the second dash to make it out to safety, but Odoamne smells blood in the water, and he is hungry. He gets the reset. The chase is there. They're waiting for the rest of the team to catch up. Can he find it? Rekkles trying to slow down the retreat, but Schalke, they get the Baron. They buy themselves time, and they are back in the game.
And now Schalke, at the very least, have a foothold with which they can stand on to claw their way back from this huge goal deficit that Fnatic has put them into. What a great pick that Schalke was able to find onto the duo of Fnatic, and The teleport coming in from Nemesis. You understand the intention. You think that Fnatic is going to turn and fight, but he's left to the wolves as Schalke just tear him apart.
But really, what are Fnatic doing? Teleporting into Kali against all that CC, instantly gets deleted, and then on the Baron, Blippo flashes into the pit after the Baron has gone down. He can't steal that. He instantly gets bursted down and dives and gives gold and crucially experience over to the members of Fnatic. Schalke have effectively just extended this game by the duration until the next Baron buff spawns because of the smart pick and the confidence to move into the Baron.
And of course, as we look back at the replay, you can see Schalke literally throwing everything they have at the side of Fnatic, desperate to find something. But it's not until Fnatic decide to fight back that it turns against them.
So again, notice that the bot wave is completely pushed in, but it doesn't matter. The teleport comes in through Odoamne, and if that teleport had not come through, Fnatic walk away with all their members, they can reset, they can get ready for another potential fight. But because the TP comes through, because the pick starts, Schalke find it, they secure the Baron, and now they're trying to secure some objectives back.
Despite the bot lane locked up, Broxah finds one, they're gonna look for their eyes on Trick. This is disastrous for Schalke. They had the Baron, but it may not matter. Buys time with the stopwatch. TP now coming in. Broxah's still gonna fish for the kill. That's the double. Upset is here, but he has to be scared. He has to walk away from that Renekton or he will die because Reckless is now on the hunt. Eyes on the cooldowns there, has the slow. Fishing for Ignar, will not find it. Reckless now stepping forward. Upset, desperate to find something back, but the damage from the Karma is ridiculous. The shielding is there as well. Nemesis waiting for an opportunity to find his way to the back line. It's a split fight, but Upset! He finds the kill! Reckless goes golden, but it's not enough. Nemesis is there for the punish. It's the 1-for-1.
Upset doing everything he can to try and fight back in this game, but it's just not enough. Fnatic saw two vulnerable members of Schalke in the bottom lane while we were in that replay, and they absolutely punished them. Now Fnatic have gotten right back in it. They've stopped the Baron from being a reality for the side of Schalke, once again in the lead.
So let's have a look back at this replay and how Upset was able to pop off at the very end, but how things kind of fell apart for Schalke. You've got to remember that you're still at a gold deficit when sieging onto this tower, and a lot of that gold advantage sits on top of Blippo, so he forces the all-in, and they're able to find these initial kills. Then when the teleport comes through from Upset, we see Schalke try to fight back.
The problem was they tried to force fights in two different lanes when they're playing from a deficit. So mid lane, they went all in. At the same time, bot lane pushing up. Really clean here from Upset to dodge away and then get the pull back on the feathers for the kill on Hylissang, but he's out of position. He's going down.
And gentlemen, I mean, just to further illustrate the point of how dominant Fnatic have been, Abbedagge was the first member of Schalke to touch a tower in this game. That was 23 minutes into this game. That is disgusting. Wow. That is an indomitable lead from Fnatic. And yes, Schalke got the Baron, and yes, they are fighting back, but they are definitely the underdogs in this story once again.
Absolutely absurd, but we have to continue to look at the gold. It's top and jungle for Fnatic, absolutely demolishing Schalke, but Abbedagge and Upset are on track with their counterparts.
Yes,
Upset, about 2,000 gold away from his Infinity Edge, going to be so crucial for him. Abbedagge as well must get to that third item, then they can fight back.
Broxah caught out, lots of CC coming in. It might just be enough to stopwatch, delaying the inevitable. Dashes over the wall, do not think it's gonna happen. Broxah kicking back, he might just live. The Ignite's ticking down. Can he shield himself? Reckless is there for backup. Broxah makes it out. His mission impossible, but he succeeds in the end, and now the hook comes in. The Wolf will body block. Upset happy to have that friend in this exchange, but disastrous for Schalke. How did they drop that kill?
Oh man, that is so unfortunate for Schalke, being unable to kill an out-of-position Broxah. But also note how they did not have control over the sideways either, so even though they had a numbers advantage, they couldn't convert it into any pressure on the map. Fnatic had pushed top, they pushed out bot, and they had control over the mid lane. So Schalke, they invest all these resources into trying to find a kill, and they can't even get anything off the back of it.
It's just heartbreak for heartbreak for Schalke here. Just absolutely brutal, because you see, they have these glimmers of hope when they fight back, when they find a good fight, often through playing through the fog of war, through using their snap engages to find the fights where they have a numbers advantage at the start. But time after time, Fnatic ramp back up again, getting kill here and there, pushing up the lanes, dominating through Broxah and Blippo.
And now 1 minute till the Baron, 50 seconds until the Mountain Drake. It'll be a split focus to see what both teams want to prioritize. Schalke are not far enough ahead. They cannot get vision on both. May have to be willing to give up the Baron. The Mountain going to be crucial for future objective takes. The Corki on your screen. Chilling, waiting, buying time. Obviously, home guards waiting for the package to be picked up so they can look for a fight.
Yeah, gonna pick up that package right now. Gonna head towards top lane, but Nemesis will be the first to move. Dragon will be the next point of contention. Schalke Right now, they need to regain some control over mid lane and avoid a lot of the poke that's coming out, and they don't want to get caught either.
Ignar stunned up. No ulti from Wimmo yet, so the Spirit Shogun is still up. He is going to pop it now. He's going to flash out to safety. The TP on the backside with the package. Abadage goes in, and he goes right back out.
Remember that in front-to-back team fights, Schalke do have tools to fight back against Fnatic. Fnatic, 4 melee champions, no marksman on their team. It's all about target access onto the carries of Schalke. So if Schalke can put up a strong front line, can keep space for their backliners, they do have a fighting chance against Fnatic. And the longer we get into this game, the harder it gets. Fnatic must be able to find flanks to access Abadage and upset.
Now we look. Eyes on the Baron. Double mountain for the side of Fnatic should be an easy take. They lack the 80 carries that Schalke has, but can still look to melt through that objective. Will take a lot of damage in the process, however, so Schalke setting their sights on the top side of the map. Ignar will now clear the vision. Nemesis, though, knows he's scary enough to solo force him back. He has the rest of the team in tow. Froxa clears this one out, and Fnatic once again assert not their dominance, not only over the map, but over Schalke as they take control of the Baron pit.
Keep your eye on where Fnatic put down the wards inside of Schalke's jungle. They want to get Whippo a flank teleport. So Trick clears one away right now. There's still one around that red buff as well. Not the best option for Whippo, mind you, but still one all the same. Schalke need to be very adept at sweeping the backside of their jungle so that they can't have that free flank from Renekton come in.
Fnatic utilizing that pressure pretty well. They're keeping top and mid pushed in with Whippo pushing out bot. Now he starts making his way towards the mid lane. At the very least, their primary goal is to force the teleport out from Odoamne if they can. By bringing the top laner to the rest of the group, you naturally can force Odoamne into a situation where he has to TP in. He's going to go back to base now. So Fnatic, if they want to make this play, they need to try and force it soon.
Taking their time, waiting. 8k gold lead backing them up as well as the double. Trick potentially in trouble. Hook's gonna go in where he's gonna go. Catches right onto the jungler. This is gonna be a disaster. If he goes down, it will be free Baron for Fnatic, but Fnatic not gonna take the risk. Do not want to fight in that funnel up against Upset. 3 items strong for the Xayah. But if they don't spot this one out, if they don't get an opportunity, TP on the flank coming in from Nemesis.
Nemesis just picked up his Rabadon Zed. There's a book!
Hylissang flips Ignar back into the pit. Now they're gonna look to pick off the support. He has to flash back out to safety. Beautiful hook comes in from Hylissang. Not what Ignar needed whatsoever. But they're continuing to take the Baron at 6k and dropping. Are they willing to risk the 50-50? Reckless is getting priority over the mid lane. They're slowly but surely burning it down. They want to keep it leashed. They want to keep the pressure up for Schalke. They're waiting for a mistake. They're fishing. They're looking for an opportunity. Slowed down now by the power of the Glacial Augment and the Spooky Ghost. Looking for the hook again. The Baron has now reset, however, and will force Fnatic back for now.
With no ult on Ignar, you have to feel Fnatic want to find the fight, but not feeling confident enough to start this objective up just yet. Schalke don't necessarily know that, though, without vision in the pit. They wait until they see members of Fnatic on their own wards. And with Karma in the mid lane, with Nemesis showing top lane, they actually don't think this is coming.
2-man started up by Elisa and Renekton. Definitely not what you expect. Blue Trinket used. They can see that the Baron has been started. They don't have more reliable vision. There is a control ward in the inventory of Ignar, but there's a blast cone there too. Has to be careful about how he approaches this one. Will get the vision. TP now coming in for Reckless. 1 TP at a time for the side of Fnatic. Showing their man advantage, 5k. Can they stop anyone from getting into the pit? Eyes on Trick. A lot of body blocking, but a lot of poke damage going down on the Schalke. They have to be careful. They can't afford to lose out here. They're on the retreat, 3k and dropping. Are they willing to give up this Baron? Trick now stepping forward. Abadage stepping forward, looking for the fight. Broxah jumps over, kicks the jungler right back out, and it looks like he's gonna get the Baron in the end. A beautiful play from Broxah with the solo secure, and now the fights get kicked off. Has to be careful, goes right back out. Hylissang now in trouble, upset over the wall. Whippo waiting, looking for an opportunity, fishing. No flash available means he can't chase down on the 80 carry. Fnatic with the Baron barreling down the mid lane. They're ready for a fight.
Fnatic walk away with the Baron and no casualties. They're now setting up the lanes in order to siege onto the base of Schalke. What looked like an opportunity for Schalke to come back, unfortunately falters, and now they're back on the defensive.
And it's Broxah in the heat of the moment, jumping over the wall, kicking Trick outside of the pit, and then following back with his Q on the Baron to secure it for his team. Now a 10k gold lead, pressure in all 3 lanes. Fnatic aren't slowing down. They're not wasting any time of this buff because they know the towers are low and they know they're so much stronger than Schalke.
And now, Schalke are out of time. The Baron backing them up. This is the last hold. This is the last stand for Schalke. Need to find a win here. Need to turn this one around. Eyes on Upset. Eyes on the carries. The double 80 carry threat of this team, of the Corki. of the side. I don't know if it's going to be enough, but Ignar's fishing for the flank. Maybe he can knock Broxa back to the base, but he won't find it. The follow-up, they're committing so much now to the Lee Sin. Reckless over the wall will get the rest of the team out. Schalke cannot find the engage there.
Schalke just don't have the damage behind it to get the kill on towards Broxa. Spending a lot of resources now trying to clear away the minion waves. And again, because Fnatic only have one ranged carry, it's very hard to actually step forward and put down damage on the towers. Yes, they can shove all 3 lanes, but unless they're bringing the whole family to try and knock one of these down, they can't actually siege. Instead, they back up for the Drake.
So the best strategy for Schalke here is to actually just stay split up and match, because of how difficult it is for Fnatic to approach these towers. Unless Fnatic is willing to dive or threaten a kill somewhere, they just have to rely on these cannon minions. We can see Ignar going for the flank.
Ignar. Headbutt will not connect. Good dash out from Hylissang, denying the engagement. Schalke continue to fish. Odoamne has to be careful. They're caught out, but there's no damage follow-up.
The problem with trying to force that play is you then immediately give access for Fnatic onto this mid-tier 1. They've now chunked that extremely low, and the cannon minion can just do the rest of the work. Schalke did not need to force that play.
The top lane, too, getting chipped down by Nemesis the whole time this is going on. I mean, Abadog is trying to do his best, but Nemesis doing so much damage in return. The siege continues, and mid could fall.
Trick fishing, the second missed ultimate of the game. This time there is no retribution. There will not be a failed teleport from the side of Fnatic to turn that play in his favor. But the engage on the bot side might just be enough. Nemesis now dashing back to safety. The healing comes through from the gunblade. Odoamne now running for his life. The Pike won't find the execute, but it does not matter. In the end, he still gets the kill.
And now with the kill, they can just run on in here. They have the minions with them. Schalke do not have the tools to try and clear the minion waves. Abadog is so low, no mana, can't defend in the top lane. Fnatic are pushing mid, Fnatic are pushing bot. Time is running out.
No options left. Upset gets hooked, has to be careful here. The Sonic Wave, the Resonating Strike, if it gets reactivated, he could just die in an instant, but Upset still getting the respect he deserves as an 80 carry. Now pulling back, but it's going to be 2 inhibitors, 3 inhibitors down. If Fnatic get their way, Trick pulled out. Schalke stepping forward. Fnatic know the full 5-on-5 still in their favor. They still have the double 80 carry threats, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Nemesis constantly posturing, threatening, 3 inhibs down. Fnatic going to walk away, going to take their time, going to go for the full, clean closeout.
Fnatic trying to end this game tutorial style as they separate Schalke and slowly tear them apart. The base is in tatters. And we get to see this exchange here. Good hook lands from the side of Hylissang to actually start this exchange, followed up by a great kick from Broxa to deny Odoamne from being able to escape from that situation. Once that kill is done, it gives them easy access into the base, and they just take everything.
Infernal now as well, insult to injury. 13K gold lead, and a victory lap now for Fnatic. Well-earned dominance over the series has been the story. Heartbreak for the side of Schalke. Fnatic, of course, still need to close it out. There are still scaling threats on the side of Schalke. A miracle teamfight could come through. You can never count out that possibility, but the minions might just be enough to never give that chance to the side of Schalke.
Look, Schalke have the items now for Upset and Abadog, but they just don't have the stats. Fnatic are out-leveling them. They have 4, 5, almost 6 items completed on their own side, and they own the jungle. They play off of these picks, giving you no room to breathe.
They're hooked. Dash out will come through. Fnatic now looking to collapse. Sonic Wave connects onto Ignar, not the ideal target. Will Broxa try to play this one out? Swiftfoot clears out the wave. They're guiding the minions in. They're escorting them home. They want to see that Nexus fall. They're going to do it slowly but surely.
The Baron spawns in about a minute's time, but it looks like Fnatic don't want to bother waiting for it. They know they have super minions, and Schalke can only hold for so long, but for the time being, they're doing just that. Only 1 minion wave at a time is crashing into these towers, so Schalke taking advantage of their wave clear.
The double 80 carry threat's more than enough to shred through those waves, but a single hook from Hylissang could end the game. Is that the one that's going to do it? No. Follow-up is not there from the side of Fnatic. Hylissang loses a lot of life. Reckless goes golden, dodges out the ultimate from Trick, but may just be caught out again. No, Schalke once again can't find the opportunity. The kick back, the kick flash from Broxa is too clean, but he's running for his life. The 80 carries are still alive. They're still untouched. Whippo goes in. He's trying to save the day. He does so much damage. The resets are there for the Pike, and it does not matter how hard you scale. Fnatic will out-execute. They sweep aside Schalke no fear, and they say, G2, we are coming!
And with this victory, Fnatic will lock a spot in the World Championship alongside G2 Esports. The seeding still yet to be determined, but they are guaranteed to be one of Europe's representatives.
And to all the regions, all the teams out there looking here to Europe, looking to the LEC, you must fear Fnatic and G2 in the early game. No one can do it better. These guys come at you hard, they come at you fast. You don't have time to think, let alone act inside of your matches. Fnatic do it in 3 clean, concise, and convincing games, and just dominate.
It feels like every time Schalke had hope, Fnatic took it away from them. Athens comes alive. A clean victory for Fnatic has to make those fans happy. The 6th man the Fnatic team mentioned, alive and well here in Greece. And really, you just cannot underplay the dominance of Fnatic in this series.
And it feels like we answered the question, is Fnatic mentally prepared for this weekend? It looks like that they are.
Yes, but I guess the new question is, was Schalke?
It feels like that after game 1, Schalke struggled to bounce back. You know, they identified some issues in their draft of the first game. Coming into game 2, they tried to change things up, but it still wasn't enough because of the early game playmaking from Fnatic. And then game 3, they get routed by even more early game playmaking from Fnatic.
Look, we just saw a huge mismatch in both early game planning as well as execution. Fnatic had a much clearer strategic goal in mind. Dominate through the early game, use your early lane pressure, a strong early game jungler to just get things going. And then they never dropped a beat. They kept forcing fights. Even when things got a little bit shaky, it was still everything in their favor. And we never doubted that Fnatic would walk away with a 3-0.
Neither did Reckless's family. Smile on the face, he knows it was dominating, he knows it looked good. And giving Fnatic fans hope as they look towards the games coming up. A rematch versus G2, a harrowing best-of-5 last time we saw it.
And G2, we asked, did they break Fnatic? No, I don't think so. They lit the fire under Fnatic. If anything, this team looks better than they did last week facing off against G2. Tomorrow's match is going to be all about the early game. These Titans, these legendary organizations, does not get better than Fnatic versus G2.
Now what we did see was small windows with which Schalke did find opportunities to punish, but they couldn't quite come back into the game. The difference was G2 did. If you make those small mistakes against G2, they're a team that will take advantage of them and will claw their way back into the game. And so for Fnatic, coming into their rematch tomorrow, they need to perform at the highest level. They need to perform almost near perfection if they want to find those early game leads and maintain them against the likes of the powerhouse that is G2.
Then we look at the opportunities Schalke did find, small, mechanical misexecutions. G2 is a team that will not make those mistakes if they're in fighting form. Games 1, 2 of that Fnatic G2 series, maybe. But games 3, 4, 5 towards the end, of course, critical. If you want to vote at home, folks, we got to do it. We got to do it every time. It's Kia Player of the Series at LEC Esports. Broxa, Reckless, Hylissang. There's really no wrong choice after a series that dominant.
I do want to give a special shout out to Broxa because we talked a lot about him as a player throughout the regular season. He definitely has his ups and downs, and I feel that in this series, he really showcased the value that he does bring to Fnatic. I do think that mechanically he is an exceptional jungler, and I think that without him, Reckless and the squad would not be able to find the same success that they often do in the early game.
Well, speaking of Broxa, we've got Lore standing by with the man himself. Take it away.
Thank you very much, guys. Broxa, congratulations on making it to finals. Wow. How good does it feel to win in such a convincing fashion, especially after last week, and knowing that you just locked in for Worlds?
It feels really, really good winning the semifinal, and especially after what happened last split. You know, it was in the semifinal we folded out, and now we showed that we can perform here on the big stage, and yeah, I can't wait to play the final tomorrow.
One thing that made me laugh is the fact that after all these years, you guys are still able to pull off the level 1 magic trick that Fnatic has. Is it surprising for you?
Not really. Mr. Hylissang is a bit of a level 1 mastermind, and he's going to get a lot of credit today, especially for those level 1s. Like, I'm really happy Hyli was on our side and not on Schalke's, because he was doing a really good job today.
Yeah, about Hylissang, he was amazing with Pyke. One thing that surprised me coming from Schalke is the fact that they kept on letting picks like Karma, Pyke open. Did it surprise you that they were drafting like this?
People have been saying a lot of things about us having really small champions pools, but even though, you know, there's certain picks that we are known for playing, you know, they don't have enough bans to ban us out. And if they ban one thing, we're just going to take another, and we're going to, you know, show them what we're made of. Today, Karma was really huge for us. We had some Pyke games, some Lee Sin, and yeah, good luck banning us out. It's not going to happen.
I want to hear your thoughts on something. For me, this series and the way you won it can be either a good or a bad thing, because yes, it's good for mental state that you just swiped Schalke, but in a way, do you want to face G2 knowing that you had such a one-sided series? Isn't it dangerous for you?
We didn't come here just to beat Schalke. We're here for one thing, and that's to beat G2 and get our revenge.
How do you know that you will prevent history from happening again?
We had some long reviews after what happened last week. We know what we need to improve on. We know what we're going to do coming into the game tomorrow, and I'm pretty confident that we're going to show up this time around.
On this side, a lot of people were worried coming in today because a lot of casters, fan analysts were wondering about the mental state of Fnatic. So is there anything you would like to say to all of them to put them at ease?
I think it showed today that we learned from what happened last week. We were a bit nervous when we were 2-0, I'm not going to lie, but we learned from last week and we are ready to show up tomorrow again. Thanks for the support, everyone.
Now we know that PGL is ready. Carlos is standing with Ifye waiting for the toss. Is there anything you want to say to Carlos about the big revenge tomorrow?
If I was Carlos, I wouldn't bring my lunch money here tomorrow because he barely gets to get into the arena before I've taken it away from him. Don't bring your lunch money, Carlos.
You heard him. Now, thank you very much, Boxa. Good luck on tomorrow. And take it away, Shox.
Thank you very much, Law.
Ole.
You know what? I'm not going to introduce nothing. Oslot, just go. What's your reply?
Well, I brought my Red Bull with me.
Okay.
That's more than enough.
What about what you have on your head? Can you explain that?
Oh, that's, I actually forgot about the name of the god, but it was supposed to represent a
Can
Greek
you turn
guy.
your head?
Caesar?
Let me show you. Is that
Caesar?
Caesar? That's
You
Roman.
said a Greek guy.
Oh,
That's Roman.
Greek guy.
Yeah, we don't have a scar, so I had to add something on top. Some kind of accessory, you know?
Yeah, I am a bit disappointed in the reply. I mean, he just eviscerated you verbally.
Honestly, like, you know, I like to talk a lot of fuego.
On Twitter?
On Twitter or otherwise, anywhere, you know. I like to have a lot of fun, but I really, truly respect Fnatic and I respect Broxa. That doesn't take away the fact that I trust my team more than I would trust Fnatic team. I just generally believe that we have the better team and tomorrow they'll show up.
All right, let's talk about the series we saw today. Just a couple of minutes before, we saw Reckless going to his family. Now, Broxa, of course, giving them a couple of hugs. They will be happy that he was able to win today. And, well, a dominant win it was, the Fisho. And it was over fast. It was. What do you say about a series like that that was very, very one-sided? Where did Schalke drop the ball, and then why was Fnatic so strong?
I mean, so game one, obviously, Dylan Falco also admitted it was kind of a bad plan.
Yeah.
And then I think level one, both games, you just kind of felt like, after that level one, you're already down a game and 2 games in the next one. It just felt almost impossible. We actually, against G2, in the winners match in spring, had the same way. We lost the first game, and then we got killed level one the next game, and then we got killed level one again the next game. That's when your mental just breaks. Like the moment you die level 1 again and you're already down the series, it's just over. So I feel like it was really hard for Schalke after level 1s.
Yeah, what was your expert opinion, Ocelot, on why Schalke lost?
No, he was just talking as if Origin had any chance to win back then. That's why I was laughing.
I don't know, game one, we almost won. Let's
okay, Yamato,
give us that one.
you can give us the analysis then. And I'm going to ask you this question in light of Schalke still playing for Worlds and in the regional qualifier next week. What do they have to work on coming into next week?
I think it's hard to choose because they have clear strengths, but I think Fnatic just outshines them at every point. I think coming into this third game, they did good adjustments. I didn't think Fnatic's composition had a lot to bring to the table at the later parts of the game, but they were just better macro-wise, better at positioning, got the picks that they needed, and eventually got the Nashor.
Stylistically, though, the teams in the Gauntlet look different than Fnatic. We've got Splice and OG so far.
Yeah, they look better.
Well, the question is, how is OG looking right now?
Nobody knows.
Give us some
Nobody
insight,
knows.
you know?
No
it's
one knows.
a lot of time. Everyone always asks this question, like, oh, Origin could always be so good, because I saw it myself when we were practicing against them during the regular split. So I think it depends on which kind of Origin shows up. It will be between Origin and Schalke, I feel.
And
I agree.
Well, can you answer the question as to stylistically how Schalke matches up against the Gauntlet teams better than they do against Fnatic.
To be fair, I don't think Schalke need to change anything just because you couldn't beat Fnatic, right? Like, they won the same way all split long. That's how they got to top 3.
Yep.
So I don't feel like you go in and like make a ton of changes on their side. Obviously, there is a lot of footage from playoffs now. If you are playing in Schalke, you have so many games you can look at, both wins and losses. And you can kind of identify very quickly what they're actually succeeding on and what they're failing on.
Something I would like to add is very important coming into Gauntlet is, you know, just the point that you raised, that it shouldn't change so much, because after a series like this, I saw when the players walked off stage, they looked quite destroyed. If you are willing to put yourself in a position where you stop believing in everything that you built up through the entire split, that spells disaster coming into these best of fives that they need to play.
And it happens most of all in the Gauntlet. We always know this, that at the end of the year, because it's the only chance, it's the last chance for those teams to get to Worlds, and often we see an implosion of what worked for them before. Often, the Fisio, we see teams that we expected so much from, that played so well before, that then step into that Gauntlet and choke.
G2 did the same last year.
Yeah,
No, they ran the Gauntlet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, they didn't choke.
No, oh, you mean, okay, so, okay, so you actually praising us, saying we were favorites going in, and then we would choke, okay, I'll take that as well.
Actually, G2 crashed and burned before.
They did.
They did.
It was
They
like
did.
0-3 against Misfits. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was bad.
But then the guys, you know.
Yeah, everything is possible. What do you think about Grabs getting coach of the split?
I think it's very deserved. Like, the guy works really hard, and, you know, I feel like there's like different types of coaches, you know. There's like, you know, the coach that focuses more on, you know, the technical aspects of a game, which I think would fit more a weaker sort of lineup. I think that for a lineup like this, he's the perfect coach in the sense of he knows how to, you know, deal with them. It's kind of like, imagine Guardiola, you know, Barcelona, you know, back in the days when they had Xavi and all the good soccer players. You know, he didn't have to do much except making sure the team doesn't implode and making sure that there's incredible levels of you know, perform.
I like how you mentioned the football trainer who's the most strategic-minded ever.
I'm not finished.
Real Madrid fan.
I'm not finished. I'm not finished. And then I have to go back and tell, I'm sorry, coach. I'm sorry, coach. No, but the truth is that the amount of work they put in, you know, plus Daftman and the whole coaching staff, you know, Mitch as well, literally everybody, is very well deserved. And I wouldn't just say Grabs. I would say the whole support staff. You know, Grabs gets, you know, the highlight, of course, but it's the whole support staff.
Yeah, it is.
It must also be pretty hard sometimes that your players will literally want to play 20 different champions.
Yeah.
And you have to decide with the player.
Like, managing that is so
Like, there's
so
a lot
hard.
of things happening.
I see that first person, you know, and it's so incredible. I would go crazy.
It just gets even more difficult.
Yes.
We'll talk more about G2 and G2 versus Fnatic in just a bit. Finally, on this series, the key up player of the series was Broxa with 48% of the votes. We were thinking maybe he doesn't deserve it because he tried to 1v1 that Sejuani in game 2, and that was like... But anyway, he did really, really well. He's also turned into a car, apparently, so that's great. Just kidding. It is, of course, the key up player of the series. Broxa, who, to me, was very resilient in the interview. We had a lot of question marks about the mental state of Fnatic, and especially Broxa, who said that the loss last week hurt him a lot, Carlos. So I know there was a bit of banter here and forth, but what do you think is going to happen in that series tomorrow?
Yeah, Broxa, it feels like is a catalyzer for when Fnatic does very well, and his listening is proven to be, you know, really good as well. I don't know as much about the game, so I can't tell you that much about in-game, but I can see what I can see, and he's very, very active sometimes. However, I think that Jankos, like in my opinion, I don't know how it's going to end up, but in my opinion, will be the MVP of the split. He is just, you know, I think he's just superior, and in a normal day, in a normal BO5, I think everything should come together in our favor. But yeah.
When if you look back on it now, it went all the way to 5 games, you know, and going into that series, the expectation was that G2 would set aside Fnatic, I wouldn't say quite easy, but easier than a reverse sweep and a full 5 games. And now Fnatic comes out of today, completely sweeps Schalke 04, has a lot of confidence, as we just heard from Broxa, the Fisio. So does that change your expectations about tomorrow's matchup?
Well, the hardest thing about tomorrow's matchup, and actually the hardest thing about the game Fnatic already played against G2, was how bad G2 played in the first 2 games, especially mechanically. I don't think I've seen that from G2. There was definitely not the team we saw in, you know, peak Summer Split regular season. And I think if they come in tomorrow, having focused a little bit more maybe on actually getting ready for the series like individually as well, so they are actually on form from the start.
Wonder was killing it in World of Warcraft. I just saw it.
We heard that. Again today,
yeah,
apparently.
he's farming with the mage. He's just killing it.
Yeah.
Nice.
He's ready.
There is a chance we get the same start to the
I'm
series.
just saying, in the PGL before G2 played, it was brought up. No, Odoamne actually...
He brought it up already.
What do you call that, a tattletale? He told everyone that Wonder was so high level in WoW, and then the next day they don't do well, and then it becomes a whole meme, and then they find a PC here on which he can play Carlos. I mean, come on. What's going on there?
What can you say until it stops working, I guess? No,
Almost 2 games and a half. You were like 1 minute away from losing that series.
Let's not exaggerate. I was literally at home. I was losing my mind, actually. But the moment I saw that they couldn't finish with 4K ahead, I remember I was with Jamie, who worked with me for 4 years, and I was like, yeah, this is reverse sweep. So, I mean, confidence when it comes into these games can be a problem, and like overconfidence, right? But these guys are like really, really good at crunch time, and when it really matters, they deliver. They were 0-2 behind, and I guess, they thought it was time to turn on.
And ban TF.
Ban TF and turn
that's
on
probably
the
a no-brainer. To be fair, that third game, I feel like Wunder's Kled was what turned it around.
Oh, yeah, it was like 9-3 or
maybe playing Mage maybe helps us in some kind of regard. But I also wanted to point out, in terms of the first 2 games, I think the strategy, they wanted to try to deal with the TF with the Shen, the Morgana, Zaya to counter the cards. Didn't work. They tried to counter the Yumi. Didn't work with the Mordekai, the TP on top. But this was... I saw it the first time some days ago, and I was like, oof, it was a rough one.
Was it a misplay, or did it just not work, Yamato?
Didn't work, both. Yes.
It didn't work.
Porque los dos. Okay, well, it is a dream final tomorrow, and I always get some tweets from people saying, well, wouldn't it be my team? Well, that would also be a dream final. But if you look at the legacy of Europe, yes, I said the word, the legacy and the history in Europe and the titles and the most titles between them, then G2 versus this Fnatic is just, even though you say I don't know that much about the game, Carlos, you realize how hype it is.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, even from when I was playing in SK Gaming back in the day, that rivalry built up, and then I built G2, and then, that kind of translates over, and then it's like the most legendary organizations in League of Legends in Europe battling against each other. Like, I know playing the final against Schalke would have been potentially easier, right? I acknowledge that, but every time I get asked, who would you face, rather, I will say just Fnatic, because, that's, even if we lose, like, I just go hide in a cave for like 2 weeks, I hope we don't, but I just gotta hide in a cave for 2 weeks. And if we win, there's a lot of memes, it's a banger.
What's the philosophy of your whole team? Because you go all in on banter all the time, but I've also... seen that you guys sometimes lose games, and you're still as heavy on in the banter, right? It's like you don't care either way.
I mean, people are recreationally outraged at everything, so I just don't care. We have the heart in the right place, like I like to say. We just have fun, and sometimes we miss the mark. We may or may have not missed the mark at some point. That's okay.
Thank you for the Garen game.
We may or may have not missed the mark at some point.
Thank you for the Garen game.
But the idea is always, to entertain, to have a good time, and hopefully we win, because otherwise I gotta hit my cave for a couple of weeks.
Hit your cave. Maybe you'll get a tweet from Reckless then after what you sent his way last week.
Yeah, I don't even know if he. He doesn't follow anybody. I'm sure they told him.
I'm sure someone told him.
I'm sure they told him.
Yeah.
But that's the mental edge.
But
what happens if they're 2-0 tomorrow? And here it comes again. He comes, the .reckless retweet, it come in his mind,
he will go and retweet already at 2-0.
He's
planting seeds.
Mental warfare.
Exactly.
Does that phase these players at that level, you think? I know of some players...
That Carlos tweeted him, no.
No, not Carlos.
It would be better if Origin.
No, but honestly, because I know of players that do actively not turn off their social media, but do not look at it before or after a match because they know it affects them and stuff like that. Is it part of the game? What's it with your players? Do they not check Twitter before or after? Or?
No, they don't care.
Okay, they're unfazed.
Same thing with like Reddit and so on. I think most of them don't even read that stuff anymore. I think people have now learned you don't have to actually go and read these kind of things. Sometimes I think for fun they do, not just about them, but about everyone else as well.
Oh, okay. So they don't want to read it about themselves, so they're going to laugh.
No, but they can also laugh about
at
themselves, but they can also laugh at other things. Like I think they just have more fun with it now, and I don't think they care too much about like what's happening on Twitter. And
honestly, I generally believe the mentality is changing, and all the play. I mean, if I would tell you the amount of pro players coming PMing me saying, yeah, that was really funny and blah blah. You know, it's just that they will never show you publicly because people are gonna be like, what are you saying? So yeah, it's just an outreach culture. You gotta deal with that.
I think it's dangerous.
The hero we need.
I don't want any players to read anything because it subconsciously affects you.
Yeah.
Either if you want to think that it doesn't, it is in your mind. It's just free real estate.
It's just whatever he says with that deep voice. You just believe it. You just believe it.
Crazy.
I'd love to be a player of yours.
No matter how much they read on the internet, I think, though, bringing it back to G2 versus Fnatic tomorrow, the fact that they answered that question of how will they step on stage here after that reverse sweep so resoundingly makes me think that we're in for a very, very good best of 5. It can almost not get better from a spectator viewpoint than be a reverse sweep, but I believe you have a 3-2 prediction, or someone on the crew does. What was your initial thoughts? And after this series, how would you predict the series?
So tomorrow's series?
Yes, after what you've seen today, sorry.
That's again the hard thing. I don't think it changes too much in my mind.
So what was it for you?
Like I think with G2 versus Fnatic, I think you do just take a complete step up, when you play against G2 compared to Schalke or Splice Origin or whatever. So even if you can 3-0 someone, it doesn't mean you necessarily have an edge suddenly going into that game. I think it's good for confidence for Fnatic, obviously. But I think knowing the G2 players, they've probably been sitting backstage, chilling, laughing, feeling really good, going into tomorrow's game anyway, no matter what happened today. I don't think they saw anything that makes them super scared or anything. So I just hope, I want Fnatic to win game 1. That's what I really want, because then we start getting the whole same story as last week, potentially get a 2-0 there, and I don't mind then G2 coming back. I don't actually care who wins the whole thing, but I definitely want Fnatic to win game 1.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm being naive in thinking they were so close. Why can't
they
just do it?
On my end, for 2 reasons, I think G2 is going to 3-0.
Whoa.
What?
First reason is because last split against Origin, the first best of 5 they played, they looked very sloppy too in comparison to what they brought on the big stage.
It was still 3-0, right? The first one?
Yeah, it was still 3-0.
Sloppy 3-0.
But it was very, very sloppy.
3-0.
You fell behind, and OG had the wrong strategy with putting Nuktak on Lissandra 3 games. It was quite a disaster from two sides.
They needed to deliver 1 stuff.
Then the second best of 5 looked much prettier because I felt like on every side of the coin, G2 really figured out OG. And looking at the best of 5 series that we saw previously that went to 5 games between Fnatic and G2, I feel like they figured out the puzzle. And the biggest question mark for me is, how are they really going to deal with the Yuumi, TF, and Aatrox ban? Because that was a disaster for Fnatic. They were blind picking Shen, and then the last game, Wipo was playing Akali with Elise, and what were they playing mid? I don't remember.
In fact, Kassadin mid. In fact, three of the picks they made in that last game, the Kassadin mid, the Akali top, and the Braum for Hilly, was the first time that these players have picked that even this split.
Oh.
Just showing, that whole thing about the champion, the champion pool depth, etc. Depth does come back when it comes all the way to 5 games. Maybe they find themselves in trouble, and G2 will never find them in trouble.
What I will say is that Kassadin pick, honestly, even if they lost, I respect it because it traumatized me. Yeah. The moment I saw the Kassadin pick game 5, I was like, oh no, is this happening again?
Okay, so could you, because there's younger viewers watching that don't know what you're talking about.
No, you know what you're right about?
Explain the whole
most
thing,
of my fans already have children.
Yeah.
That's how old I am.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. Okay, final words then as we move on. Predictions from everyone. You said 3-0, so unless you want to add anything, I think we'll stick to that.
No, I just want to add, I'm not saying it because this guy's here.
We're sure, right? We're sure you stand on your own feet.
No?
Yeah, Carlos.
I mean, I'm very, I get it. I get it.
Carlos, nothing else?
G2 wins Worlds. There you go.
Perfect.
That's my.
They win it tomorrow, apparently. 3-1. 3-1 G2. Fnatic win game 1.
Fnatic win game 1 and a 3-1 for G2. Whatever it may be, it'll be one for the ages. Is there anything else you want to say to your opponent for tomorrow before we sign off?
At Reckless.
At Reckless, right. Well, be sure to tune in for the LCS regional qualifiers. They're in their gauntlet as well at 9:45 p.m. This is now the second best of 5 there before we start our rebroadcast of the semi-final. That was all here from us in our first day in Athens. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow for the epic showdown between G2 and Fnatic. See you then. Apparently we're flexing. Okay.
Kalispera Atina! Athens, I present to you Schalke versus Fnatic.
But now Reckless in the midst of the team. Odoamne on the backside. It's going to be a big Aatrox fight. Can Odoamne find it? Reckless is taking down Ignor. Proxen now on the retreat. Odoamne can't get anything. He does manage to get a bit of a heal up, but it's not enough. It's a double kill for Reckless. Has to debate. Where does the CC go? Upset though might just find the damage. That's the shutdown. He's so incredibly low. Reckless hasn't even entered the fight yet. Trick just gets to lead as Zaya does so much damage with Schalke. That's all she wrote. In game one, Fnatic show up and they smash the competition.
I think the Karma pick is only really good when their bot lane is doing really good in the game or ahead. And because of some draft errors and play errors, their bot was very strong. So I think in this game it'll be better.
Well, the pipe could be massive. Hook is going to go in, is going to connect with the Ignore. Abadagi now coming over the wall. Fnatic have they bitten off more than they can do. They set their eyes on Trick, but he flashes out to safety. Proxen goes in. First blood, the Sonic Wave, but Abadagi now caught in the midst of the Fnatic beat grinder once again.
Just nothing they can do. They must make the play.
Trick goes in. Hylissang once again caught out, but he's going to dash out to safety. The Ezreal ulti does so much damage. Whipple, that was huge. Fnatic are here to dominate. They are not shaken from their series versus G2, and they will move up to match point in the semifinal.
On top of being able to get some plates, they now have their eyes set on mid.
Fnatic trying to match the play, trying to look for a little bit more. The flash out too. Prox is too clean. He carries are still alive. They're still untouched. Whipple goes in. He's trying to save the day. He does so much damage. The resets are there for the pike, and it does not matter how hard you scale. Fnatic will out execute. They sweep aside Schalke no fear, and they say G2, we are coming.